Hello and welcome back. We've got more high octane action going for MEA. And yeah, I made that joke. We saw a lot of octanes yesterday, and I'm excited to see some more, Lawler.
Hey man, we my main gig is actually Rocket League, and our main car is Octane as well. So we use that exact same
Boom.
thing every broadcast. So making me
Oh,
feel at home, Matcher. Making me feel at home.
this is what I bring. That's that calm, right? Everybody knows that I am such
Before
a calm
calm before the
caster
storm for sure, man.
all the time. So here you go. This is what we've got going on. We already had 24 rounds of Apex action yesterday, 8 rounds earlier today, and we've got another 8 for MEA, and then we moved to another 8 for South America, and we've been seeing a lot of action all around the board.
Yeah, shoutouts to Nathanius and Axtos, two good buddies, locking it down for APEC this morning. Obviously, a lot of games to go, but I'm excited to get into the chaos that is here, the Middle East and Asia. We got a lot of exciting things going down as we take a look at the prize pool. $100,000 up for grabs total, but in our region specifically, it's 5K, and you can see the prize pool distribution for the Middle East and Africa down there. First place taking 2,500, second 1,000. And down from there, that's the focus for today. Top 5, and the way that we do it is based upon the point system. You can see on the right-hand side, 1 point per kill, and then you get points per your placement. Those really start to have a big factor when you hit roughly 5th place and higher, just because it does outweigh a squad wipe.
Kill points are definitely the meta that we're looking at right now. I mean, it's a lot of early game action, specifically hot drops, where we're seeing people fighting for just loot stages, and then it kind of calms down for a little bit. But that being said, we probably saw a lot of people go back, review the VODs, do a lot of homework, so we're probably going to see some modifications coming in today. And the question that comes into play is, are we still going to continue to see we saw a lot of Octane at the start, but it kind of dwindled off a little bit as it pushed through. I'm kind of curious if we're going to see a return to that, or maybe people lean into a little bit more of the standardized Apex comps that we tend to see.
You know, honestly, I think we're still going to see the aggressive play style.
I'm hoping.
It's all about the play style, according to our song that we hear all the time, because they
Hmm.
are trying to show them the money. So ultimately, when you see this, region kind of derived from this Octane, egocentric, like, let's just go. One, I'm a huge fan of it and have been a fan of it. I think the gameplay makes it very engaging for everybody involved, whether it be us as well as the people watching. But on the other side too, it's for the players. I think it keeps those mechanics warm throughout, and you see a lot of consistency that comes from it just because they
Hmm.
are constantly in fights. My feeling is, are we going to see out of anything any drop changes? Obviously,
Yeah.
DNMK had some big struggles early on. They have 2 games where they pop off, and now they're back in third. So honestly, I think if that's not telling about how they should be playing, I don't know what is, because it literally shows that you can basically carry yourself to the very top. As we take a look at the schedule from yesterday, these were the results. It was pretty convincing that 1907 FB and Flying Camels were up at the top. They were dominating everybody, and then we saw some mixture in there, and didn't really get back to that form until the very last game, where we saw teams like Dojo Unity, HLDC, 25 Esports, Australis, Anka, Onyx, like White Rabbits Gaming. Like, there's a bunch of teams that really sprinkled in throughout that consistently were finding themselves in the top 5, and they, because of that, find themselves in pretty good placements here as we take a look at the leaderboards. This is your overall leaderboards over the course of all 8 games yesterday, and it's a lot closer than what we expected.
When we look at the round wins, do note the fact that we saw several repeat and several back-to-back wins
Yeah.
coming out for these teams. Really, the only team that's not in our top 10 right now that got a round win would be White Rabbit Gaming. But it was a lot of 1907 coming in, Flying Camels, and Demon K towards the end. But that being said, whenever we look over and we saw how like the fights were happening with HLDC, they were always constantly active. Look at the amount of kills versus their placement points. And just in general, whenever we're looking at our top teams, you can see that kills are the perpetual force in their standings. All of them having much higher kill counts than placement points. It's not until we get to Dojo Unity that we see the shift kind of kick over.
Yeah, special shout out obviously as well to number 15. That's OGC. Yesterday they were only playing with Al Diablo, and I forget the other one off the top of my head, but they just playing at a disadvantage the entire day. A lot of heart, still keeping with it, and even though it may be a little bit of, we're going to take the scenic route and avoid every fight possible, they still put up some good placements and keep themselves in the running. So hopefully they can field a full roster today and they get that figured out. But
Hmm.
ultimately, just a lot of respect earned for me being able to, despite like some other teams that are just like, yeah, we're out of it. and dropping out, they're at a disadvantage with one less player than everybody else the entire day, and they still keep coming to play. So
I
a lot
mean,
of respect.
so much heart in that whenever
Yeah.
we look at it. And additionally to that, the way that they were taking their fights was very intelligent. They
Yeah.
realized the fact that whenever they had their advantages, sure, they only managed to pick up 7 kills, but there were a lot of influencing factors. Specifically, Al Diablo, we saw him kind of sneaking into a lot of very interesting situations towards the later stages of the games and really at least forcing attention from other teams. I can think of what, at least twice that we know that he got into the top 3
Yeah.
and was really forcing teams to have to be aware of his positioning. Didn't end up being the biggest influencer in that, but that just says that knows how to play the map, knows how to take fights, knows how to be effective. So if they get a full 3-man squad coming into this, Lord only knows what they can pull off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We did get confirmation from production as well that they are fielding a full 3-person
Yes.
roster today. So I'm excited to see them turn some heads. I'm curious on how that gameplay is going to change instead of placement. Maybe they do get a bit more aggressive. I'm very excited for that. Some other special shout outs. ATK, obviously, they have been in a very interesting position, obviously fighting over Dojo Unity. Decided to spoil that in the very last game of yesterday. But again, I still think it's anybody's game. You just see the potential of a team like DMMK gives me so much like conviction in the ability for a team that may not be in contention right now. There's still a chance. All you need is one. You just need one game that's pop off. You get 30 some points. Like you take a team like 25 esports that's been kind of like here and there, and all of a sudden now they're top 3, just like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it, man.
I mean, whenever we were talking about the leaderboard a second ago, there are the dividing lines, to say the least. There's FB that's got 106 right now. Then back behind that, Flying Camels at 95. Then the steep drop off down into DMNK. But like you said, whenever we've been seeing DMNK get wins, they're extremely high kill counts.
19 kills,
with the
17 kills.
victory.
It's insane, dude.
And so that is a catch up mechanic. I mean, they were down. I think that they were like almost last a couple of times. Yeah, they were last for a couple of rounds over the very beginning of it and have now shot up and propelled themselves into the situation. If anything, that still says that there is opportunities, because we were talking about this, like you can get a 30-point game. We have been seeing that happen very regularly.
Yeah.
So if we look, Dojo Unity is only at 60 points right now. 2 wins can help you even catch up to 5th place quite easily, no matter where you are in the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's interesting to see on how it's going to develop, because again, there's some teams, different approaches. The biggest thing is, how do you adapt overnight? The ability to, like you said, do that VOD review, look at the replays and say, hey, we rotated a couple times here. We need to move to this place earlier. No one's dropping Harvester still. Maybe we go there and put ourselves in a middle position and then rotate out early. Like there's a lot of different things that these guys can kind of do when they come back from the drawing board and go, okay, these are our different places. And that's what I'm excited to find out as soon as we drop in very beginning. Are we still going to see Flying Camels dominate at the top side of the map? Are we still going to see people fighting in Fragment West? Are we going to, like, what's going to happen for these ego challenges that we saw so early on? And are they going to continue to happen? Because today matters more than anything. It's the final day. It all comes down to the wire. And will that change even more so? Because there is a lot of teams in Apex, and unfortunate for the top dogs, who get landed on purpose when they're like, yeah, we're kind of out of the running, but let's play spoiler and make this really interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on that when we get into like round 6-7 area, and see how some of these other teams want to go and play spoiler. Maybe they feed some kills based upon their placements in the past. We'll find out.
So I was contemplating something. If Flying Camels ever stops using Octane to just fly around the map, do they have to change their name? I mean, can you still be a Flying Camel if you're using Wraith to rotate? It just doesn't feel right.
I mean, as long as they redeploy a lot, they should be all right, right?
I guess that is a benefit of the title, but not a benefit of the game. So we'll have to look at how that one goes through. Just to give you guys a heads up, we do have 2 teams. It's me, Mario, and Dark Reapers that are not in lobby right now. So that means the fact that we are going to be coming in with less teams than we started with yesterday. But if you were following yesterday's action, you should be aware of that and how it goes through. And it looks like we finally got all the players inside the lobby, so we should be getting everything kicked off in just 1 second. So, we've talked about potential of hot drops. We've talked about a couple of these people that are climbing up the leaderboards. We even talked about a couple of the underdog teams. But there's another one that I did want to point out. Specifically, whenever we look at the middle of the pack, Dojo Unity, Bruv, 25 Esports, and Australis. Got to put the U in it. Not Australis, but Australis coming in. Australis had a couple of very pivotal fights that turned games around, and we've seen them regularly taking it to the top 3 teams and winning those fights. And really, they almost seem to be the X Factor team that allows other teams to have that big point game by taking out whoever's at the top of the leaderboard at the time.
Yeah, they do a really good job when they do get further on. As long as they finish in the top 10, usually they put up some pretty good goals in the regards to trying to accomplish that next step. I think the biggest one, obviously, round 4 is the one they won. 14 kill game immediately after they carried that momentum and got 8th place, but 6 kills. So 2 squads. I mean, that's enough points to really bump you up, or at least keep you stagnant in the placements. Anytime we see a team primarily like flying camels, they've got one like placement point, they're at least getting 6 7 kills along with it. So
Yeah.
you see how big of a difference that makes, especially in the placements, as we get and have the ability to look back at how the first day went. The most notable would be when they, I think it was when they took 7th. Yeah, they took 7th but still got 2 kills, and it's like that in itself is like, you know what, we'll still keep at least within striking range of the first place team. So we're going to jump on with 1907 FB. This is our first place team at 106 points, as Matchroom did talk about. And pretty much the focus has been on Pinky Finky Tinky. I know we don't get his full name in game, and as a caster, I'm okay with that. Otherwise, I'd have to call him PFT. But PFT's got some swagger to it now that I think about it. So maybe I'll start calling him PFT, but for the sake of the broadcast, probably not, because how do you not want to say Pinky Finky? You know?
There are too many initials already in all of these Apex players and team names and everything else like that. So getting everything kicked off, you can see 1907 Fenerbahce already in a good position right now, fairly separated out. You can see that they do have a couple of contested points around them, so they're going to have to be a little bit cautious on that. First circle is going to be making its way, or technically second circle is going to be making its way over towards Train Yard, which is a complicated place to fight, to say the least.
Big fan of this one, and at this point I'm just kind of surveying the drops and based upon where everybody is, and it looks pretty consistent. As of right now, you've got Dojo Unity top side of Fragment West. That's pretty common. ATK and DMNK on top of each other as always. Yeah, all these drops are pretty much the same, honestly. There doesn't look like there's too much of a change.
Oh, and here is the fight. Chambi, though, got himself some purple armor. Calchi on the outside of this one, looking around, trying to see if he can spot it out. Does get some damage back into Clamby, but gonna have to retreat away from that. You can see that's mostly DMNK being the aggressor this time. They're on the outside of the building, really trying to contain everybody on ATK. ATK does have themselves the door that they're trying to play around at the time, but it's gonna be a bubble on the other side of it to counterbalance. Lots of damage being exchanged between this, but this is a very difficult point to push. You can kind of make the low flank around, and that's exactly what you see DMNK trying to do. Good read on the other side of this, though. ATK is trying to make a play around it, but it's just starting to come up everything for DMNK. Already one member down, though. They have to play this a little bit more carefully. Lots of damage coming through, but there we go. Managed to get it stacked up and should be able to get their res pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a really good fight here early for DMNK. They do get 2 dropped and need to be careful, as again, this is similar to the regard. We talked about the capabilities of Dojo Unity, where they're not getting contested in their early loot. So they just come in a little bit late and clean up. They get the loot from both teams as well as the squad wipe, and it takes out a big contender. So again, we already have DNMK and ATK completely removed from the lobby, and it's again the exact same situation we saw yesterday in round 8 from Dojo Unity.
I mean, this has just kind of been the system. These two teams fight early. We see one of them win, and then suddenly it's a third party. And that's what's going to be happening if you're playing around this position. You have to assume that teams are going to be around this point because it's such a popular drop spot. I mean, let's be real. If you want a hot drop whenever you're playing in regular games, you drop exactly to the point where we see DMNK and ATK contest and fight at. That's the hottest spot if you're going to drop on this map to really just get those early game fights in. So it's no surprise and shouldn't come as... It has to be expected that there's going to be a follow-up coming by Dojo at this point because it is just rote now.
Yeah, you would think so. It's kind of weird that, again, both these teams are continuing to fight each other. This has been going on now for 8 rounds straight, and neither team is backing down. Part of that, obviously, because that area is just so beneficial when it comes to the loot side. But for Dojo Unity, I think they're playing it well. I think they recognize how effective yesterday was at the tail end of being able to take out a big contender. Obviously, we talked about DMNK in their semifinals. They were top 3, and we're like, when is this team going to show up? We had expectations. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, 2 back-to-back wins, big kill games, averaging 20 kills in both of those. And it's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, and then Dojo Unity's like, yeah, I got a solution. It's called bullets. And they just take them out. So
Well, it goes back into the average points per game, and that's what
Yeah.
you're trying to establish inside of this. And so if you can pick up 3, 4 points in the very early stages of the game, that just means the fact that it's so much easier to propel yourself in the leaderboard and stay consistent. And that's been one of the main reasons why we've seen Dojo Unity, while they haven't been explosive up towards the top, they're always managing to generate points every single round, and it's due to this fight that we're seeing in the early game.
Taking a look at the circle, just kind of peeking on where people are rotating from. Obviously, 1907 FB bottom left, enjoying tree all to themselves, and a lot of loot to work with as well. Nobody really been challenging them whatsoever in the early game. You get 25 esports pushing in towards Harvester again. Nobody landing there, and probably going to be pretty well kitted actually before we get into this next area. Got to be careful of those choke points though, especially going past that vault. Just
Hmm.
not a whole lot of room to work with in those fights, and luckily for them, they're not going to have to push in for quite a while. Obviously, we're still closing in on round 1. So, going to be still probably a good 2 minutes until we see really anybody on those outskirts really having to fight each other. We take a look here at All Aim No Brain. Looks like they have found a little bit of a friend to shoot at. But keeping their distance. And as soon as I say that, cast occurs. Here we go.
It's always the octane push coming in. Whenever we're looking at MEA, this is the way that they like to play it. Run in, go ahead and pick up a couple of loot because you know at some point you're going to be able to spot them out. Does get some vision. Got to play this a little bit more carefully. All Aim No Brain taking a little bit in damage there. Rexu down, and he's been a big component for their successes inside of their fight. See Juvenik having to play this one a little bit more cautiously now. So on the other side of this, it's going to be blind peekers, and they've got a ton of nades and arc stars to be able to throw back in this direction. So getting a little bit of damage off, but can't quite connect with enough of it. But this high ground push up into here, getting tons of vision on it, and now you're seeing the strength. 20 just bringing this out and showing you the capabilities of this legend.
Yeah, the only people that we've seen run Horizon is Blind Peekers. They're sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard right now, but I'm loving that play with Horizon using the gravity lift and the Spitfire to release some damage. It all began because of that crack. You had the black hole open up with like 65, I think, on a white shield, and that's enough for me to get to go. But again, good disengage and actually putting some pressure down on Gutbuster to actually get the knock. So it is going to stagnate this push from Blind Peekers and pretty much neutralize the play. You got OGC in full strength, Neo Astros and Al Diablo ready to go.
Oh,
As
is
they
it
spread
time?
out, getting ready for a fight. This is the first time we've seen OGC at full strength. I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table. So far, spacing wise, they've been doing great as 20 just making themselves a free target up top.
Yeah, 20 takes a lot of damage out of that, and that was based off of Neo's positioning, but you can see OGC now being a little bit more aggressive, taking out that frustration that they had yesterday where they just had to sit back. 20 taking a lot of damage, does manage to get a shield back up though, so with this separation, with the zone coming into play, as well as these buildings in between them, we're probably going to see this fight calm down, as it's maybe going to be Neo that gets some vision, but I think it's all about positioning right now for both of these teams. Just neither one wanting to have to contest against the zone coming in, getting a little bit of that extra tick damage coming into play, and yeah, separation now coming out from both of those, but it's starting to be pretty congested over towards the west. You can see multiple teams starting to stack up over next to each other, and another team known for bringing their aggression out, coming back into this one. Going to go ahead and get a nice spray into it, finish that one out, and now 1907 getting a little bit more control over the bridge, spotting out yet another team.
Yeah, this is WRG that they're going up against. 1907 FB, obviously been one of our early aggressors. They're immediately going to back off and take high ground as they flank back around. Just trying to peek some of these angles and have a lot of room to work with. They do spot one out and just holding those shots. Just being a little bit cautious as they find multiple teams in this area.
I mean, we did see everything kind of slow down a little bit whenever we look at these earlier rounds. You want to see what everybody's learned, what they figured out, different ways that they might be playing. Right now, it's a lot about information gathering. You can see pings popping off all over the right side of the screen whenever we were on FB, just saying, okay, this is how we're looking at the lay of the land. And it's going to be Joe Savia that's over here on the receiving end of everything that's going on. But Pinky Finky playing closer to the duo that's lined up. On the other side, you can see FV getting a line in, going to go ahead and flush out one. So a little bit more control also happening on the other side where we're at Fragment. But this is going to be a long rotation, so these guys are probably going to need to start booking it here in just a little while.
Also really liking the format of the legends here for Favela. You want to talk about being an aggressive team, this is a good way to do it.
Get your information, know exactly where they are with crypto, get a little bit of defense in case somebody aggresses onto you with a third party on one side of it with Gibby, and then on the other side of it, just jump in whenever you're ready to fight. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything. It's pretty well-rounded comp.
Yeah, I'm excited to see on how they actually utilize it with that EMP and if they're even going to get the opportunity. But again, information being key here. So two teams at the epicenter. We've got Favela Vandalos and OGC at full strength. They did manage to dodge the other roster. I'm trying to figure out where that team went. They may have removed them actually, now that I think about it. But got two teams fighting. No, we've got three teams actually in the area here of train station. This is about where it's going to end. So getting in Heaven Cars, 25 Esports already securing one side of it. And trying to use that Gibby bubble. Get a different angle and peek on the side, but got to be careful. We also do still have one of the players for that team down below. Possibly going for a different angle. Not exactly sure on how they want to play this one because, again, there's another team on the other side. So having to be careful. Don't want to utilize too many mats here or take too much damage.
Well, it
Sustained
comes down
fight's
to
not a
trying to get
beneficial
control.
one.
This is what this is all about right now. Is 25 is trying to get control over this building because it gives you a lot of more ideas and rotation options in controlling this territory. Specifically, we're seeing more and more that everything is leaning for an in-game happening around this position. So Alien Cosmos is having to contest against 25 because both of them want to get control over this specific building, so that way they can get a little bit more vision. And you can see the way that 25 was playing it a second ago, using the slope on the right side of this building to get a little bit more shots into the surrounding raised cars that are up there inside the rail car area. So you get a lot more of just capabilities inside of here, but it looks like we're starting to see a little bit more control happen. I say that it's going to be a quick exchange now, as it's going to be popping off, and 25 is getting out a lot of damage. Just a one up for Alien Cosmos, and now they go down. 25, though, has to play this cautiously. They're retreating away from the position because they lost two as well. There's a lot of teams all vying for this position right now just due to the massive strength that it provides.
Yeah, really difficult situation, obviously, for the roster. You have 25 there, and I'm trying to think of the other team off the top of my head, but can't at the moment. But for Alien Cosmos, just kind of getting the brunt end of it. It is Australis. That's right.
It's always got to be Australis. At this point, we should just assume.
They've been kind of playing spoiler, man. It's actually been really exciting, and for them, even those 25 that gets the win in the fight, Australis is the one that gets two of the kills because they thirst down the teammates, and now they have all the loot to work with as well. So again, that third party coming in, huge play, just being a little bit more patient.
Oh, FB's got some goals. Just jumps straight into that one and instantly regrets it. Follow-up shots coming in, quick drop down onto it, but you can see not a lot connecting just quite yet. Trying to see if they can maybe get one more down. Cakeman's down inside of the situation, but it's just turning up to be Nirvana, the last one up, trying to survive his way through this one, but gotta be careful. There's a lot of shots coming from everywhere, and no, not gonna get it. Flying Camels comes in and wants a piece.
Was wondering when these guys were going to come down from the north side, and man, do they make their mark known. A lot of teams now starting to push in on this final area. Atrocity on the back end actually taking a little bit of time, and something that Flying Camels has actually done quite nicely. Microfiber is usually the first one to initiate, depending if he has the shield or not. He's actually been rocking the Kraber every time that they do get that drop. But Atrocity's been kind of taking the wide angles, giving them a different approach, and basically what I assume has been their shot caller in regards to just giving them and feeding them information about the fight. So again, a good placement here for Flying Camels, trying to push in. Luckily for them, their counterparts on the south side in FB slowly pushing up. They do have another team outside here. Just a matter of who's going to take it and possibly rotate first. Could be very dangerous in regards to how they want to play this. It is Bruv that they're going up against.
See a little bit of an arc star exchange coming in. Now ult coming out on the other side of this.
Great
just to get a
timing
little
on
bit
that
more
ultimate.
distance. Yeah, I like to play on that, realizing the fact that, okay, we're right along the edge of the zone. Let's not really play this one too hard, but you can see that there's another squad back behind us, and here's what's going on. While 1907's going for the shots on one side of it, it looks like, I believe it was Onyx that was coming up back behind this fight. So now you can see Finmachi in a little bit of trouble having to figure out how that they're going to play around this because they found themselves sandwiched in between two teams. And yeah, it's Onyx back behind positioning, raining in the damage onto him and really inflicting some hard casualties onto FB that was trying to make a play off at this point.
It's a really good play by FB, though. They're pinched in between two and find themselves in the exact same situation as the team in front of them did. And immediately, Octane jump pad, go up, get high ground, and now they can push away. So again, a good decision from them. Going to be able to kind of just push ahead and possibly gatekeep that other roster. As for Salome and the rest from Bruv, a good disengage. They do take a little bit of zone damage, but still find themselves in a good position. Nobody on their backside, and should actually be able to surprise this team right below them.
This is a nice flank position. You can see that everybody on Josavi is looking in the other direction. Totally revealed on the backside. Sprays coming out off the get-go. Trying to connect into it. One of them already going to go down. That's going to be Savi that gets knocked onto it. Spotting it out, trying to connect with more damage, and everybody's just having to make the push back into rail cars now. And you know, that's going to be a problem because we already saw the stack of teams that were holding down that point.
Yeah, the difficulty here for Bruv is, yes, they may get some kills and apply a ton of pressure and force the team first, but all that information you can see it immediately from train cars is just like, yeah, we've got some people on the outside here. Let's light them up. And now having to bomb and weave through the action and deal with all the ultimates. Give you shield should buy them a little bit of time to heal up and make that last push, but zone damage gonna force it earlier. And here they come flying in. A possible grenade up top, maybe buying some time, but a good spot here on the back end. Seeing if they can get to a teammate, get that revive off.
I mean,
but gotta be careful. This team is gonna get aggressive up above.
Oh, jumps right down into him, doing a little bit of a spray back and forth. This is going to be bad for Bruv. Another one down. Slow him up on the top of it, revealing, trying to defend up. But you can see it's just a swarm of players around, nowhere to go. Bruv goes down, and that knocks us down to, I believe, 6 squads remaining. Onyx on the other side, still taking the fight after FB. Bubbles down on both sides of it, but you can see Onyx low on armor right now, as well as FB trying to retreat from the situation. Using the trucks right now as any form of cover they can possibly find to play around. Onyx does have a couple of advantages in position depending on how they play this one, but this is such a tight, compacted fight with these walls around the outside of it. Makes it a little bit more problematic, and I think that was a shot coming in from back behind FB. They have to be a little bit careful around this. It's just peaks back and forth and very tight angle holds, trying to connect into shots, get the damage off, maybe get enough to make some type of play, but you can see Onyx trying to line up, gets a little bit of damage, but here comes the jump in. FB feels like they've got the opportunity and jumps in, instantly getting the knock onto one. Follow through coming on. Draconian spots it out, and quick pickups, getting control over this position.
Really good job and very decisive. As soon as those cooldowns get dropped, immediate engagement here from FB. Part of the reason why they are our leaders here in the lobby. But it is Flying Camel. They've only got one left to microfiber, so trying to bob and weave through. See if they can get the revives back. He's trying to clutch it up for his team and does find one. Actually sticks him with the Arc Star. And it's going to disengage, but it doesn't matter. There's too much. It's HLDC, drops them down. Removing Flying Camels. Should be able to get their teammates back up. And what a great play from Yaga.
I mean, if you're going to go down, that's the way to do it, is just drop an Arc Star on somebody's face and at least be like, take the fight to us again. I'll make you regret it. They do end up getting a fight, and yet again, HLDC in a good position for the later stages of the game. 5 squads left. And it looks like this is going to be the remnants of Onyx that we were looking at earlier. And you can kind of see it. Australis already has an idea on what's going on. Hestia is on the other side of this one. Just a little bit of a do-si-do around the position, finally spotting out a little bit. But do note that HLDC could find themselves a path and approach into this one. And yeah, I love the spectator, man. That was such a beautiful angle on that jump.
It really was.
In the background.
A little bit of a rat here. And don't worry, I'll have some poems for y'all later. But not right now. We're in too big of a situation. So we do have a team up top again. Australis, high ground in the middle, and taking some heat actually from the other side. And HLDC coming in from train as well. And then you've got FP that managed to sneak in. So FP after that fight from Onyx, finding themselves in a pretty good position despite the zone.
I mean, that's the double up of, I guess, the double-edged sword of this situation where you see Australis playing. You get a ton of vision, a ton of control to play around. You can really inflict damage onto everybody, but on the flip side of that, everybody can shoot you as well. So good job on holding control in this, and you can see that they've got the armor, the meds to support the situation. FB playing the low ground, and then it's going to be HLDC that's playing the tunnel right now. Behind this, we've got, I believe, just kind of a rat that's hiding out back behind positioning. That's going to be, I think, to the back left of where we're looking at right now. And you can see it's all about aim from this position. With the amount of go-in that these teams have, you want to line up. But luckily, that raised rail car does make it a little bit more difficult and does slow down Octane jumps into the position. Sure, you can jump up on top of the building, but you don't really have the same easy access because it's not a clean jump. That's what we've been seeing a lot with Octane, is you get a knock onto somebody, you get some damage onto somebody, and you just jump on top of them and murder them as you come in. And whenever you look at the rail car, it's a little bit more complicated to get in that position, as you can't just jump directly on top of that squad.
Well, the thing I'm paying attention to here and is actually Xerxes drops that Kraber. Just kidding, he's baiting me with it. So I'm looking at this zone, and they've got a really good position. Obviously, they don't have to worry about anybody coming from behind, and they've got angles. The zone is actually in their favor as well. So based upon the way this is playing, I think FB does a fantastic job of actually rotating. They were on the southwest side of that circle and managed to get on through. So repositioning and going to have some good cover. HLDC's got to be careful, but for the players in this train car, they're just waiting for that one shot. They know they're there, just hoping for that peak. All it takes is one shot from that Kraber, and immediately teams may back off. So I think Zerdy's going to probably play a little bit selfish here. Not a bad idea, and this is exactly why, but you got to land those shots.
This is the opportunity. You're starting to see the other team starting to fight along this point. You are the third party influence, so you got to be careful on how you play around this. You can see the fact that they are aware that this could be an opportunity, but both teams kind of pump the brakes into it. FB repositioned onto the other side, still just trying to hold the top and that angled slope that we were talking about earlier inside of this compound. So now you can see Hestia and the rest of the crew are holding up from Australis, looking in the rail car, having to contest around what's going on in positioning. Lordaeron, though, is just kind of holding this spot. Got himself a little bit of a point to play, and so now has to be careful, but he's got a lot of vision coming into him. Good job on just trying to rat this one out from a strong point, but Pinky looks like he's kind of tired of it. Keeps going over there messing with him just a little bit, but it's still going to be HLDC that's holding that outside point and really limiting the options for a lot of these. Lordaeron jumps back down into the point and trying to be a little bit more sneaky, but Yaga is kind of the influencer for the squad, still trying to get Demotivator, trying to line up the shots, taking some damage instead, and it's just a standoff. Neither team capable of getting enough damage to make the go happen just quite yet, and they know they don't want to be the first team to jump into another one, because if you are, it's just going to be a third-party fiesta that kicks off after that, like what we were seeing in the earlier stages of this game. So everybody just trying to find the most opportune moment to pull the trigger and make this fight happen.
Well, in a matter of 25 seconds, they're not going to have a choice, but it's a fantastic counter. Kraber, Hestia coming up huge for the team. They were sitting there holding that angle forever, and that Gibby just doing a fantastic job there for Australis. Pinging, letting them know HLDC's got some damage that we got to be careful of. And Hestia, man, you talk about landing a shot when it matters most. What a good play. But back into the action and probably going to heal up here again. But I mean, with this zone pushing here in just a couple seconds, could turn the tides of the fight.
Quick
Need to be careful. They don't have much places to go.
I mean, that's why you don't peek the same angle over and over again. Sooner or later, somebody's going to line it up and be prepared for it. See the setup. It looks like maybe trying to prep this one through to get a little bit of cover, I believe, is why they're dropping this in right now. Just seeing if maybe they can get something with it, maybe a little bit more meds with everything that was happening. This is kind of brazen to do in front of everybody at this stage. Just drop the bubble, get a little bit more out of it, because they know that this next fight's going to be happening. HLDC still got the high ground. It looks like everything's starting to close in around those points. You can see it's going to be Australis that's having to make a little bit more of a play and being a little riskier positioning. Shots are going to come out, and it's going to be Lord yet again down in that low ground positioning, getting a beautiful spray. And what's happening on the top of it? This solo rat is doing a ton of work, and everything that's happening and coming up and just trying to demolish Australis. Gets a lot of damage into the position. HLDC on the other side of it, totally in the beneficiary position from what is happening right now, but it's going to be Fenerbahce that's decided the time to make the play, and you can see it is just absolute chaos, pushing in, trying to find Pinky, trying to line up the shots onto everything that's going on around him, but it's two different points, too many different lineups, but so much control in what's happening right now.
FB's got to be careful. They've got a team up top. HLDC on the other side. We still have Australis up top, using their bubble and just playing it passive. So now Australis, I would assume this is their time to shine. One team gets removed, the other team's weak. Here they go. They make their push, making it easy. It's one down, make it two, and they're going to secure our first games as the champions.
And the domino effect kicked off. You can see that Lordaeron was up at the top trying to do the damage, gets in enough damage to stall Australis out there, so that way they have to remed or reposition inside of that one, and then that allows the fight to break out between HLDC and 1907. Then they just get to be the beneficiaries of having to med up, take that time, and be like, all right, it's go time, let's just jump in, pick up the remnants. And it was just dominoes falling 1, 2, 3, 4 to set up that victory.
Yeah, as we take a look at the highlights here, this is kind of how it started again. You've got DMNC as well as ATK again landing in that fragment area because of all the benefits that it comes with. And Dojo is just like, yeah, we'll come in again late, just like how that last fight went down, and we're going to clean up. And it makes it really easy because they get all the perks of it. You also saw that happening multiple times across the map where fights like this, Flying Camels comes in on 2, they clean up. You see the same situation at the very end. So that seems to be the notion where that third party just being a little bit more patient to the fight has really benefited.
And that just leans into the Octane. I mean, that's why we're seeing it get so much use in this situation is, Like, sure, with Wraith, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. You can get in that similar position, but you have to run it over. Your teammates have to go through the portal, and it's just a little bit slower than Octane, which can just jump in. So that means the fact that if you're wanting to pull the trigger on these third-party fights, Octane can get you to the position that you find beneficial the fastest. And you can see right now, Australis up on the top of it, jumps down, just waiting for the fight to break out, just being patient with it, comes in, watches the remnants, and it's just a quick pickup execution coming in through there, and just a solid set of plays coming out from Australis to pick up another round victory.
Yeah, it's really smart and a big one for them. Obviously, they were sitting in ninth and needed. I'm curious on how the kills went, but they definitely needed those placement points. The guaranteed 12 to push them ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That alone, I mean, you're talking is going to put them back in contention for like top 5.
Well, we did see them
Depending on how other teams do, obviously, but
they third party the fight over in rail cars earlier as well,
Mhm.
if you remember. So we know that there's been several fights that they've managed to pick up kills and the remnants of, so that could be huge for them. While we're tallying all the scores and stuff like that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick, I think it's like going to be like 3-minute, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back in just 1 second. Make sure you stay tuned. We wanted the Octane. We got the Octane. Lots of high impact action happening inside that last round. Gotta say, I'm loving everything that this region brings, but also we need to take a look at the scores from that last round to see how everything's going to stack up for the leaderboard overall.
Yeah, I was curious on how the kill was going to come out in Australis. They do a great job of matching it. 12 kills, 12 placement points, 24 total. So they previously being at 45, going to jump up quite a bit in the standings. If nobody else was to move at all, that would put them in third. But obviously, we're going to have to take a look at it as it updates here in a bit. Obviously, Dojo Unity with that early fight also playing spoilers. So a little bit of a shift here. HLDC going to move up into third with DMNK dropping down because of that early fight. But the big one that we're focusing on, the winners of that last round moving up all the way from 5th as they were previously in 8th. So again, a big jump here, trying to close an inch closer and closer. But Flying Camels, still a decent amount of points, getting 7 in that previous game. So starting to dip away a little bit here as 1907 FB.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit more distance, and that's going to be the factor to look at as we see both these teams. Really, it's been 1907 managing to make it into the end game time and time again to give them that stability, give them those kills to help them hold that position. Flying Camels, we haven't seen them as much in the late game as we did in the earlier sections of this. We saw them being very dominant in the early game and middle game stages, specifically yesterday. Towards the last couple of rounds, though, it got a little bit more quiet from them, and it feels like that trend is kind of continuing. We saw them taking a couple of fights, specifically again in the mid stages. It feels like that's where they thrive. But whenever we get some harder circles, like most notably whenever you've got a lot of those big walls that make it a little bit more difficult to really get control and jump around to a whole bunch of different teams, that's whenever we see them struggle for a couple of points.
Yeah, it's been weird. The foot's kind of been off the gas for Flying Camels, despite it working so well in the first few rounds. I mean, you're talking, they got 2 victories in the first 3, I think it was. Round 2 was 11 kills. Round 3 was 16. So I personally want them to go back to that. Like, I understand the consistency. Like, their placements have been pretty good. You're looking at 4th, 7th, 5th, 1st. Like, when they were playing aggressive and basically pub stomping at that point of what it looked like when they were playing, it was most effective. So I really hope they get back into that. I think it suits their playstyle significantly more. But again, teams being a little bit more cautious. I understand it's the last day, it's the final day, but we still got 7 rounds to go. Why not full send on one?
I mean, that kind of becomes the question that we're looking at is what modifications are really going to come into play. We've been seeing a lot of hot drops coming into play in the earlier sections of it. Australis seems to be the team that's likes to come in a little bit later with a little bit more control. And Demon K looks like there's no ATK around them, as finally ATK is going, all right, we're just going to go ahead and give up on this one, which could stop the setup where we saw Dojo constantly coming in, trying to get a little bit more fight. Well, I say that. ATK is close enough, but not dropping directly on top of each other anymore because they were contesting the same buildings mostly, and that's why we saw such an early game skirmish. This time around, it looks like they're both getting a little bit more distance away from each other. Dojo still got their players close enough to keep an ear out on what's going on, but Demon K almost looks like they're lining up to take a fight against Dojo instead.
Yeah, just the ability to get that information is obviously really important, but my curiosity is maybe this is because they are recognizing, you know what? Unity keeps coming in and causing spoilers. So ATK, we're going to back off a little bit. We're going to hope they still drop down. We're going to hope they still come in. but then we're going to third party that fight instead of us being the ones that are getting third party. It seems like everybody obviously trying to make those adjustments, and the first ones to do it are ATK, but the difficulty is they may run into FV on the right hand side. We've got Favela Vandalos who have been doing a really good job of handling the entire top right side of the map without any real issues. So it is going to force ATK a little bit south. Lights breaking out here from DMNK. Fine. I think you're back, Matrim. I don't know if you were ever gone for everybody else, but I definitely couldn't hear you.
Oh, I had a little bit of an issue there for just 1 second. Sorry about that one as it comes through, but DMNK and
I just missed you, man. It's fine. It's fine. I was
going to get this set up and polish this one off. You can see the vengeance coming back in, but DMNK, ATK, these guys just feel destined to fight every single time at the start. No matter what happens, no matter what Dojo brings, no matter what else is going on, one thing's true. I mean, three things should be true at this point: death, taxes, and ATK and DMNK fighting in the early game.
Unfortunate. They are going to be out one, and obviously trying to make a run for it. But who knows what they're going to end up getting into. It is Chambi on the outside, just making a break. And the difficulty is that we get a fantastic cinematic viewpoint of this. Is who are you going to run into, Chambi? Who are you going to play victim to? Does not matter. Dojo Unity chasing it down. Talk about how they've been coming in from the north side of Fragment and playing that third party. It looks like they still want to do that. They heard the shots and just came running.
I mean, Dojo Unity, this has been working for them, getting the points as they go, but I don't know. This is a little bit later than we've been seeing the fight come into play. DMNK, whenever we see them fight at strength, they can win rounds. Dojo Unity, though, is finding the opportunities to come in, already getting the down, and you can just see lining this one up. Got so much control over the situation and what's happening right now. There's so few options on the other side of it. DMNK is just getting tossed in the spot.
Again, Dojo Unity playing spoiler, but 25 Esports deciding to get involved a little bit as well. Ultimate's coming down, needing to back off a little bit as they do level up the Evo shield here. Putting that shield banner, getting right back into the action. Perfect timing on it and putting some shots down with a triple take. A big chunk for 65. And you know they're going to chase this one down. One up top, can't land the shot, but doesn't matter with Octane. You know it's full send the whole time. Not going to be able to escape this one. One shot down, make it two, a big crit for 82. And now in the shipping containers.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do at this point? Just behind the containers, so few options. You've got the teammates, you've got the support. Just make that one easily taken care of. Spots it out, just chasing as they go through this one. Gonna go ahead and finally contain that one out and get the kill lead as well. But do note there's going to be actually, I think Rexu's on the other side of that hillside, so he should be fine. Got baited by the vision for just 1 second. So looks like it's kind of calming down. Now, are we going to see any new people stepping in trying to third party that? It looks like with the distance, no. On the other side, White Rabbit Gaming, who got themselves a round win yesterday, already have one of their members down, trying to crawl out of a position to kind of hide this one out a little bit. But I mean, it's just kind of a scattered section of fighting right now that's happening just along this open area. A lot of teams are starting to get vision on each other.
A lot of utility being used here by Joe Savimo. And again, we see and talk about that aggressive gameplay. Some teams really living up to the name. Not trying to find somebody. Pinging and getting the information. So as the player retreats, putting 83 damage down on that blue shield. Just about to crack it. And being careful.
Just standing out here right now. Very little fear that they know that they've got enough where they can make this work for them, and they're just taking this tactically, making sure that they have the numbers, they have the advantage, and they know exactly where rotations are going to be coming from for everybody that's trying to run away from these different points. Now just playing off of it, you can see the rewind just trying to get out of this spot, but Naya is just chasing him down and unrelenting on this. This has been going on for so long right now. This is a huge commitment coming out to try to establish this. Reinforcements finally starting to come in, and Lord is just hauling it in. He's like, all right, that's it. If we're going to chase this, let's just go ahead and chase this.
Taking a look at the team tracker on the right hand side as well. You can already see quite a few teams already removed. Favela Vandalos did end up getting dropped as they rotated in from the outside. You've also got Dojo Unity, DNMK, and Blind Peekers getting dropped. Unfortunately, It's Me and Dark Reapers have basically decided to stay out of it for today. So we will not be seeing them playing at 18 teams only in the lobbies.
Ooh,
But
this is an interesting circle with the
yeah,
way that it's set up.
HLDC and
Well, it's more about the fact that we've got that huge dividing chunk of rocks that are cutting through everything. So you have to make the gamble right now. Do you think that it's going to lean more towards Geyser, or do you think it's going to lean more towards the north? Most people are going to assume that's going
yeah.
to go to the north, as you can see marking out, just due to the amount of playable zone that's there. But a lot of our teams are already down in the Geyser section, so that means that as the circles progress, we might see a couple of small skirmishes down in the tunnels through these different choke points, as there's going to be much more limited rotations for these southern teams.
Yeah, the big team that I'm actually paying attention to is the one with Salem there in 25 Esports. I actually really like their idea because they can still gatekeep that position on the backside, and if they need to rotate through, they get 2 choke points to work with and a lot of open space if they do need to bail out. It kind of keeps their window open, and even if they need to, they can play a little bit of zone damage and rotate all the way around if it does go into Geyser and possibly play upset. So
Oh,
25,
it
I think.
does. It goes
25,
Geyser
I think.
side.
Yeah, I think 25 has a lot of options of windows of opportunity here. The difficulty, though, with that shift, with it being in Geyser, it's setting up early better than not, I think, in this position. So 25 is going to move in. You can see them going down. You also have a lot of teams with Onyx down below. You've also got 1907 FB down there. So this is going to get dicey pretty quick. I'm curious on how FB wants to play this.
I mean,
Other than shooting other teams, which is obviously a common, but I think
it's
they're going to just
1907. They're
rotate through
gonna
on the east side.
yeah, I mean, we saw a Geyser game yesterday, and if you guys haven't seen them, just get ready. It's going to be chaotic, to say the least. You got the Geyser in the middle. It's going to make everything a little bit more rough, but it's all about those long, kind of set up, segmented buildings where you can see people holding down, different teams holding down each little cubicle, for lack of a better term, in their own little bunker situation. It looks like FB is going to rotate early, get one of the long positions. Onyx is going to go ahead and get another one. You can see it's going to be Australis coming in back behind this as well. So really, it's all about moving early, getting positionals right now, because if you're one of the later teams to come in, you can see how stacked this is already going to be and how many teams could have vision and could really take it to you. You're not going to be walking into a third party. You're going to be walking into a potentially 5th and 6th party if you take a fight from the stage.
Well, we've got Australis on the south end side. FB does manage to push in. The fight from Anka, who's been landing in Epicenter. Here's some who they're all going up against. Arcstars and Utility coming out. Gonna pop the ultimate. Obviously, no time to waste on this one. They do have zone control, so teams are gonna be pushing them. Don't really have to be over aggressive with it, but the information obviously being important. Teams starting to rotate on the northeast side and going across with a Wraith, and good shots going down. That's actually some red damage as well. Can they finally close it out with a knock? And they can't, so that's one that gets away. I'm curious if they're going to chase it down. It's actually Flying Camels that comes in for another team. And of course, the third party begins. Flying Camels as aggressive as ever, but they don't realize that they're actually part of the problem. They're forcing a lot of these fights, but I got handling it quite well.
This is just a mess.
OGC.
Everybody is just all on top of each other, and Flying Camels being the influencer, they're saying, okay, we need more kill points. Let's go ahead and see what we can stack up. And they just jump into this so little fear, and they're just wrecking havoc on everything as it moves around them. They force this team entirely out of this point to reposition away from it while they were taking a fight to somebody else, and then even took a fight to the team that they were taking a fight to as well. This is such a strong potential point, as you're going to see a lot of rotations coming into play, and you can influence a lot in what's going on. Anka, though, still on the hunt for everything that could be coming up in front of them. We got to play this a little bit more cautiously, spots it out, still just trying to rein this one in, gets in the damage, finally polishes that one through.
Yeah, unfortunate for Neo here for OGC. Not a whole lot you can do there. That was the Wraith that was trying to rotate out, but again, just getting peppered by everybody on that other side. And Flying Camels, again, also mixing up a little bit of their team composition. Part of the reason why they were so aggressive is they did have that pylon put down.
There's a lot of opportunities whenever you stack the pylon in with the jump pad. I mean, that's one of the inherent benefits of both.
Oh, here we go
This
again.
is a super go-in strategy, and you can see they are ready to do it again. They already know where the retreat came into play, jumping right into Cake Man's vision. Orpheus has got to make a little bit of a reposition, and everybody is just raining in onto this one person. They're like, no, we know where at least one of you is. Now it's time to chase it through, get as much damage as possible before we have to shift back into it. So I like the way to play this, realize that they got the damage. Now the question comes in, do they follow through? They know that there's already a down from here.
Here it
of
comes.
Course, it's Flying Camels. They're always going to follow it through. A little bit of vision. Bubble does come out, gives a little bit more time. Orpheus are trying to make sure that they get something out of this. Ankh has another one that goes down, though, in the amount of just chaos that's ensuing in this position. They're sowing it on one side, getting the knock, jumping back away, using the Revenant, then coming back into it on the other side, and making sure that there's never a time to reposition and reset into this. This is exactly how you want to play a hyper-aggressive strategy. Just attack both ends repeatedly until the entire thing collapses.
I'm absolutely loving this adjustment from Flying Camels. We talked about, when are we going to get back to that full W play style? What are we going to do to see the change up? And they're doing it actually with a different legend. So glad to see them taking that initiative, and it's paying off. Honestly, on the back end, though, for Onyx, EXNR the only one left alive and just going to have to sit on the outside of it, as you've got 3 big players and heavy hitters on the inside. You got 25 esports. You've also got Australis, HLDC, FBE there. And it only gets worse, man. You've also got All Aim, No Brame on the outside. So again, so many teams just in this small area. Makes me curious. Who's going to be the first to initiate? And at this point, I feel like it's just going to be a forced initiation. I don't think anybody really wants to take any of these fights.
Nobody wants to fight at this stage. They know the fact that this is the worst
There's so
neighborhood
many
to be
more
living
just all
in.
funneling in, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens. That's the inherent problem with whenever you're looking at Geyser. It's just such a contained area where it's got all the cliff faces around it. There's very few entrance points, so it feels like every point of entry is some type of choke point that you're gonna have to fight your way through. And then whenever you fight your way through the choke point, there's just gonna be 20 teams stacked up waiting for you just inside of Geyser proper itself. So you can see 25 esports in one of those gatekeeping positions right now, inflicting casualties as they can, seeing if they can get some more damage out of the situation, but doesn't want to stay for too long. You can see takes way too much shield damage, so going to retreat away from this one. Play it a little bit slow and a little bit more patiently, and you can see every single time they reposition back, boy, they keep an eye on Geyser because they know a third party could happen at any given moment.
Yeah, it's tough for 25, and they're going to disengage on this one, and it's a smart choice as well. They dropped that Gibby bubble, but the difficulty is they're going into the heat of the action. There is so many teams all playing Duck Hunt right now, and it's 25 esports. They are in so much of a problem. 2 of them get dropped down, and Salem, yes, you are still alive, but your teammates are not. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. They just went into the lion's share of it, and man, did they get pelted.
Joe Safamo, you know who you were fighting a second ago, and you saw how that turned out. So they go, let's not look the Geyser side. Instead, let's see if there's any more kills to have. Uh-oh, a little bit of trouble coming out as it looks like a jump trying to make through this, trying to get a little bit of damage off. Manages to get away with it just barely with that one, but that's going to be a ton of meds that they're going to have to burn through to get back in position. 1907 FB already repositioning around this one, spotted one out, going to go and get a little bit more tick damage into it, but you can see starting to pop off in the kill feed. Multiple fights starting to get pop out as people are getting vision on everything that's going in, as everybody's having to rotate into Geyser itself.
Gonna drop that bubble and see if they can close this one off, and it's a surprise attack from Pinky. Knocks down one, tries to chase down the other. That's another team wipe here. So Onyx now removed altogether. And 1907 FB able to claim their territory yet again. They did not get the kill on the back end as it was third party. But Flying Camels now still utilizing that Nexus. They're going to push in aggressively. Nothing to lose here as they right into it with that EVA 8. A couple of good shots before removed. And luckily with the Octane going to go right back in. So again, a second engagement. Trying to heal up along the way, but a good initiation does get some poke damage down. And even more so, a lot of information being provided. Different angle of approach, shots coming down. Microfibers on the back end, free shots remaining supreme, but it's a good counter coming out from the other team that they're fighting. Trying to close the door, keep it alive, force that jump pad, but man, a bunch of chaos here. Everybody just trying to push into Geyser and fights going down everywhere.
Flying Camel's comp, if they can manage to make it into Geyser, will be ridiculously strong with all of the fighting that's going on. Having that extra maneuverability coupled in with the Revenant and the having the ability to just really play around this. You can see how tangled it is as we're starting to see all the compounds now being contested against each other, and you're just having to make some very aggressive plays as pushes are coming through bubbles, kind of becoming a new wall and set position between the two of them. A couple of throwables now coming out to try to stall the push on one side of it. 1907 really wants this, but you can see the fact that they don't want to overextend into it. It's a very, very back and forth as get some damage out, take on the shields, lower them down, get some throwables, step back around the corner, retreat, rinse, repeat, back and forth. And this is just burning so much utility from every team that's caught up in this position.
I really like that play from FB though. While one player's healing in that near corner, you've got someone taking that long angle. So if they do peek, Arc Star's being thrown out as well as holding that angle. So able to get the shields off and they remain healthy. It's a really good play from the teamwork, but you can see Pat from Australis. He sees someone poking out of that wall there. He's like, how do we want to play this? But they do get spotted here by the Bloodhound. Maybe taking the high ground. We saw it work previously, but it does make them susceptible to damage on the outside. You still got flying camels as well coming from the northeast as well from the cave. So again, need to be careful. A lot of teams stacked on top of each other and it's only going to get worse. But flying camels now back on top as the kill leaders. This is what we love to see out of our second place team.
This is the way they do it. It's just kills. I mean, this is the strength of their comp. They know what's going on. Look at this is just disaster waiting to happen right now. Everybody's just clinging to life in a very, very small circle. You can see it's going to be Australis on the outside of this one right now, kind of refereeing, forcing HLDC and FB to kind of contest up against each other based off positioning. There's also going to be some third-party ranges that are going to be on the other side of this. I believe it's going to be towards the east, so they have to be a little bit cautious with it. So it's all about these tight corner peaks and trying to make sure that you're kind of just like making sure to keep as much of you as protected as possible every single time you're trying to get a little bit more vision. Close range weapons are going to be the key to victory for a lot of what's going on. You can see a Spitfire and Eva double up coming out right now from Pat, so a lot of opportunities in that. Spots it through, gets a little bit of damage, and again, every single little bit of damage you can tick onto anybody that in any of these fights is going to be massively influential for the late game, because that's just less meds that people are going to have to restock and be ready to take this tail end fight. Over towards the north, you can see, or sorry, over towards the east, it's going to be where we see attack. It's going to be all aim, no brain. I'm sorry. That's in the position over there with Rexu, still just trying to hold it down. And Flying Camels looks like they finally made it to the end of the tunnel with a little bit of a dance that's still going down between FB, Australis, and HLDC.
Difficult to hear, and actually the benefit I would say for Australis is they are on the outside, and this circle is going to rotate a little bit to their south. So they do have advantage being on the outside, although no hard cover. They do get a little bit more option. Difficulty though here, we do have all aim, no brain. Probably not wanting to go on, realizing it's Flying Camels, but not a whole lot of options. Both these teams are going to have to rotate in and could get fired on. 1907 FB staying very, very passive in the back end, recognizing that they are also in a pretty tough predicament. Curious on what's going to happen here. Australis does decide to go back around the other side. So again, I talk about having that capability and those advantages of being on the outside. They are just going to sit here and stack up and wait for this one to develop. Curious on how much that circle is going to push him out of position. And it actually has a little bit of give. So a really tough angle here. Both teams being pushed out. So HLDC being forced a little bit more north over to Flying Camels, as man, all aim, no brain is getting destroyed by the Flying Camels.
Oh, and using the opportunity, you can see repositioning coming out. Flying Camels still just trying to find more with it and getting some damage off of this one, stepping away from it, realizing the fact that there's a little bit of a third-party potential now as the reposition came out on the other side of this one. Australis repositioning for that point now gives them vision on what's happening right here. You can see Jump Pad right on the outside of the door says, I don't like the potential of what could be happening there. But it's so risky to peek around these corners. Australis, though, you can see now playing in this new crate position, managing to get separation away from FB as well as HLDC. But now they have to contest against all the teams on any peeks that they make around this crate position. With the jump pads, we could see this be pivotal, as a couple of shots could ring into them, get their shields down, and suddenly somebody's just going to jump in on top of them. Also, throwables could be absolutely detrimental. Spots out the gun. Just gets him. Just looks for it, knows exactly what's going on. Got to be careful with these peaks as you go through it, though. Flying Camels, they have the opportunities and they have the tools. 4 squads left. This should be a massive victory coming out whenever they decide to make a fight happen.
Man, Huventic doing as much as he can with all aim, no brain, but unfortunately his brain too much receiving on the end of that Spitfire. Doesn't miss a single shot here for Flying Camels, completely removes them. But now trying to hang, see if they can get some information. It is a difficult situation here for Australis, being in the sights of multiple rosters. That Revenant, Atrocity been playing very, very well here this round. But heavy hitters, man. HLDC, Flying Camels, 1907 FB, and Australis all remaining. Early fights here between HLDC. Here it goes. The zone pushing in. The ultimate's coming out.
Everybody's stepping into position.
Circle.
Everything's setting up on the outside of it. You can see it's HLDC getting a little bit of vision on what's going on. FB already made their play, trying to press back over next to Australis' positioning. A couple of peeks on both sides of it, but you got to keep an eye on Flying Camels. When they decide to pull the trigger and jump in, that's going to be when everything goes chaotic. Here it comes. They see their opportunity. They know where everybody's fighting at, and they're going to take it back over towards HLDC first. Jumps in, rains in a ton of damage and everything that's going on. It is just popping off everywhere. They know that they have the opportunity after this to immediately jump back in after inflicting a ton of damage into it, pops it off. Flying Camel's just working that, knew exactly how to play it, and so methodical every step of the way.
Man, you want to talk about having a good strategy coming in. Flying Camel's really playing to their strengths. We're waiting for this to happen, and I'm excited to look through these highlights in just a second here, but primarily all we talk about, hey, there's 4 teams, whoever engages, and the benefit is not only does that engagement happen, but then they're like, we're going to go in immediately and just double down on it. Not only are we going to apply even more pressure, but we've got an extra life to work with as well. So that over aggression, you know, normally you want to stay a little bit more passive and wait for that play to develop. Now they also have a little bit of a backup as well. So Flying Camels, man, shout outs to them making those adjustments. But Geyser fights, man, honestly becoming one of my favorites.
Geyser just allows so many teams to just stack on top of each other in such awkward situations to brew for so long. I mean, but whenever we look at this, it just felt like this was a lot of the Flying Camels show. They were taking fights over and over again, and this is exactly, Lawler, what we were talking about that we wanted to see from them. A very aggressive team leaning into their gunfire, their capabilities. Whenever they opt into taking a fight, they know how to do it so efficiently. And just look, here's the fight breaking out. They see the opportunity. They send one on top of one team, one on top of another to get the damage into it. Microfibers is just kind of rolling around into everything. And then Atrocity gets to come in from the other side of it. Microfibers goes down, and you can see it's just a cycle of death that Flying Camels just brings at everyone.
Yeah, part of it, not only that, you had one of the players with a Peacekeeper go in, and Atrocity gets actually lasered down immediately. Atrocity was the first to engage, and that team on the back end, I think it was HLDC, just melted them. And it doesn't matter. All of that completely negated. So when they go for the reloads and are trying to get back into position, even if he gets a little bit of damage down, they still have an advantage. So again, really well played by Flying Camels. You talk about the spreading of attacking multiple different spots. Really well executed. Flying Camels, man, trying to bounce back and doing it in superb fashion.
Well, we've got to stack everything together to see how the leaderboard's going to be looking after that one. So we will be back in about 3 minutes. Make sure you guys stay tuned, and we will see you in just 1 moment. Well, we wanted to see more violence coming out from Flying Camels. Boy, they brought it last round. Scores are ready to go, so let's just jump right into that, Lawler.
Yeah, excited to see on how this one played out. Obviously, Flying Camel's going to be up top with 15 kills. That's a big one for them. 27 points making up that difference. The difficulty for them, though, is they're having a fight against 1907 FB, who's right behind them in second. Below them, we've got HLDC. Anka actually making a step up because of those kills. And even though Australis was in that area, they don't have the kills to boot. So placement, yes, beneficial, but they're actually going to drop short even behind 25 Esports, who made an impact.
But do you remember how close it was between 1907 and Flying Camels? This looks like this is about to get super interesting.
Ooh,
5-point separation now. Woo! This is getting pretty feisty. Let's see if Flying Camels opts into leaning it in a little bit more, or if 1907 is going to start bringing a little bit more aggression, because they now have somebody nipping at their heels.
Hey, man, I love to see it out of Flying Camels. We were talking about that. We want to see them back to what I feel suits their playstyle. The pub stomp, we don't care, we're going in. And even though that pylon, it does give a little bit of an out, it's just enough to tip the fight in their favor, and they commit hard. So as long as they're not getting third party, man, they're playing great. I love to see it. It's going to push a lot of these other teams into kind of overdrive and how they have to be careful about the way they approach some of these fights. So man, I'm loving it. We're keep seeing that domino effect and everybody raising their bar, and Flying Camels being the first one to do it, doing it early. Very decisive move from them. Only 2 rounds into our second day. So let's see if they carry it through.
I mean, we were talking about how excited we were going to be after everybody goes home, does their research, does all the mod stuff. And look, this is what they're now bringing, the modifications and the adapting into the situation. That's why you love to see, I mean, while you like a lot of rounds to make sure that it's as fair as possible, seeing it spread across 2 days gives teams time to go back and go, okay, what's working for us? And how can we like accelerate that? How can we make that stronger? And you're seeing Flying Camels putting in the research, doing the due diligence, and coming back with a much stronger strategy to really just unlock their killing capabilities.
I mean, that's what you need, right? If you want to stay in
Yeah.
contention for the top spots, you've got to make some bold moves. And what's more bold than a double engage and full W? So I'm loving it here from Flying Camels, obviously winning us over. But again, still a lot of teams in fighting spots. Dojo Unity also doing a really good job, I think, of making those adjustments, playing a little bit more aggressive on that push down, not afraid to even go for the grief a little bit, honestly. The difficulty, though, they got to be careful because they're bringing a lot of attention to their area, and they get caught out in the tail end of that fight. 25 Esports being the beneficiary.
Well, are we going to see it yet again? I mean, it's the story at this point of the early game.
Yeah.
See ATK dropping down in position, fighting up against several teams, Dojo third-partying inside of this position. We've seen it's going to be a lot of just stack-ups going on. Specifically, I've got my eyes kind of drawn into the position on where we're going to be seeing DMNK go. We see that Flying Camel is coming over here, getting their drops in, but we already know it's gonna be the urban fight, potentially stacking up one way or the other. Although just the amount of loot that these guys get so early just makes me so happy. I wish this happened to me. I always feel like I drop and I'm just like, oh, look, I've got a pistol going against the purple. See, the Atrocity's already got the purple, man. He's always the guy I end up lining up right on my drop.
Dude, usually my drop, like, no joke, is like 2 Mozambique cheeks and like no shield. Like that's what I get, and not enough ammo for either gun either. Like, it's just, I don't know, man.
Oh,
Maybe
see, that's the other hurt, is whenever you land and you like grab the gun and the other guy gets all the ammo and you're like, oh, well,
because I'm punching
this
in
is
the
going to
mouth.
be how this is
Here
going
we
to go.
go.
It's time for a couple of shots and then a punch fest. DMNK holding down position, ATK a little bit further towards the northeast from where they were at. You can see that the circles are going to be going much further south, going in a general area around Sorting Factory, but really I'm still just caught up in about what could be going on in Fragment. Everybody else looks like they've kind of got their own set drop locations, but this could be a big game for 25 as well as HLDC, just in the fact that they don't have to go for large positionings and they can position to catch early kills.
Taking a look at the circle, though, in particular, I actually think this really benefits Flying Camels
Hey,
because they have so much ground that they have to cover. That's going to be a lot of teams that they're going through as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really helps.
We talk about the fact that mid-game kings right now in Flying Camels, they love to fight in these earlier sections. And with the way that they've got their legend selection going right now, just think about how many fights that they're going to be taking, crossing almost the entirety of the map. You know that that's going to be coming. FB on the other side of this one looks like they're getting a little bit of loot, and I think some long-range shots that were coming at them. I can't quite tell from where, but I think I saw a tracer or two coming that direction. So with this, it's just kind of the waiting time, given the fact that we're not seeing kill feed light up. It looks like maybe the city fights have finally broken down just a little bit slower, but that's what we thought last time, and then a chase happened as everybody was in rotation.
Fortunate for WRG and White Rabbits, they do have one player already down. They're going to have to disengage. Still a minute to go and get that banner. They're going to probably take a different approach. You can see them rotating wide and probably going to swing back to it. Hopefully players have moved on from that point, but again, losing a player early just completely changes everything. You've also got a fight here between Onyx and Juventic from All Aim No Brain. Teammates already down. Gonna have to be dangerous on this one.
Yeah, this is
trying to hold angles and disengage.
It's an awkward position to fight from, to say the least. You can see trying to retreat back just a little bit there, but it's whenever you take these tunnel fights, it always feels like somebody's going to be hiding around every single corner. Spots out the crawlback, and the crawlback pretty much revealed where the teammate's position was. Onyx now knows where the opportunity is set at and is on the hunt, chasing down the last member. Knows how this one can line up, but it's really just, it's full speed. Like, we're watching more race cars running around this map right now than we are actually Legends, just due to the speed that everybody's bringing with all these octane comps.
So I don't know if you've ever like memed with the friends, but we used to play this game where we had to complete a full lap around the map first, and then we could play. And that's pretty much what it feels like Eventic's doing right now. I mean, he's about to finish lap 1. He's finally getting to loot.
I played a little bit of Death Race back in the day, where you get a couple of friends together, and the fun part about it is if you can find like a couple of friends and you end up dropping as 2 different teams at the same time, all queuing together, and you both run like one of you runs clockwise and one of you runs counterclockwise, and you just keep running around the outside of it. It's fun stuff. All right, but let's see what we've got going on. Everybody's starting to get a little bit closer towards the circle, and We're seeing a couple of new changes come into play here. Not seeing a lot of them come out so far, but you can see that the shield's getting dropped up into position, and there is some capabilities, and well, not necessarily the best counter to Octane. If there's going to be a whole bunch of people jumping into you, throwing down a minigun and just lighting them up as they're flying in does have some capabilities to net you some kills.
Shots coming out. Favela Vandalos having the high ground and some cover to work with because of Nirvana. Pretty defensive, actually, on this build. But the black hole coming out, destroyed immediately. Good job by Nirvana to remove that. Paired with the ultimate, that's 2 down. This actually gives them a pretty good advantage. But there's another team up top. Anka also in the area. Aquatic just trying to fend the area.
I'm having deja vu. Like, maybe I have seen this before in last game where three squads all lined up. I think that maybe a couple of teams are realizing, hey, this didn't work so well last time. Let's not do this again, and moves out of position. Looking to the east, you can see Onyx, although in a little bit of a gatekeeping spot. 20 still just kind of surveying everything that's going on from that high ground position. I mean, it's not even technically high ground. It's more like high air position, just floating up there. But now 20 is lining up against a full squad as it's going to be Onyx, looking like they might be wanting to play this one back into their face just a touch. Nick way off in the distance over there, still running for his life, but here comes a push coming in from Onyx. Reposition also coming out from 20, trying to line this one up. Again, leaning up to getting the vision high ground, repositioning away from it. 20 revealing that position, though. Got to be careful, as now has set up the capabilities for Onyx to have a jump in point onto the squad. This is kind of the downside of whenever you set that one up. Aquatic should be in vision in just a second. A couple shots going through as well as Gutbuster. Good position going through, but one member for Ravens is down in the background onto this one. Do note the fact that third party is starting to come into effect. It's getting a little bit more chaotic. Maybe Onyx starting to realize they might have bitten off a little bit too much, but they at least want to get the kills onto it. Just one member up from this point now, and is going to have to play this one a little bit more safe. Running around the outside of this, but 20, I think, might have a read on this, or is 20? No, 20 is still looking up on where the third party was, so that was a nice reposition from Onyx. But where are you going to go? You've got the zone on you now. 20 starting to get a little bit of an idea of what's going on. Aquatic on the other side of it, and it looks like this might be slowing down just a little bit as FV still in the run and gun stage of their movement.
Yeah, unfortunate for OGC as well. Now finally at full strength, going to be the first one eliminated, but a long bow fully killed it. A gold one there for 20 off of that crate. Seeing if can make it count. A couple players retreating, a couple shots in the back end. Make it another one. So good damage here from the zone, and luckily it's still early on, so not going to be hitting that much. But again, I'm kind of curious on your take. How do you feel about the Rampart? I'm kind of indifferent on it, based upon the way that things have been playing. I mean, if they do get to some of those places like in Geyser, I could see it being beneficial, but ultimately a fight coming down here between Anka. Gonna go straight into Nirvana, who does have the Rampart we're talking about. It's a punch and back on out, denying the ability to get in that circle, but it doesn't matter. So many teams in the area, and it doesn't matter. Anka gonna get the revive off, but need to be careful. You still got 20 in the rest on the north side, trying to push in from the zone. Gotta heal up quickly here.
Going back to your Rampart question, there is potentials with it, but I don't think that they're going to give us time to really break down everything. It feels like this is just fighting on every single corridor. The Rampart, like I said, if you perfectly set up and you have the full defensive situation, there is benefits to it, but you can see that with the amount of octanes, I feel like there's just going to be too many blind angles. And so while you're set up defending against one jump pad, 2 more are going to get dropped and you're going to get third partied off of it. So it depends all on if you can find that perfect prime position to play from. 1907 finding themselves in a little bit of a skirmish right now. I've played this cautiously. Still reining in the damage based off the amount that they're taking in return. Feeling like this might be their opportunity, stepping into it, getting a little bit more off, and yet again, it's going to be Pinky Pinky leading the way, making sure that nobody's going for the side flank, finally starting to get more vision on what's going on. Instead, playing around the outside of it, making an armor swap for positioning right now, just making sure the fact that wanted to make sure that whenever he went for that peek around the side, he had the armor set up. Very smart coming out for it. Now going to reset around for it, get the shield back into position for him. But this is a 3-way fight for position. 25 on the other side of this, and that's what's leading to a lot of hesitation coming up from 1907, is they don't want to overcommit to a fight because they know that 25 could be around there. Also, off in the distance, it's going to be Australis, and we know Australis is always down to take a fight specifically against these stronger squads.
Big play here from FB. I actually really enjoy this. Obviously, 3 players there. No need to engage. So they're going to completely go back into the zone and rotate back around, try to get a different approach. But it's HLDC in the fight actually here. ATK making their name known. Why so with the good drop there. Gonna back off, try to heal up. Peek the angle, buy some time. Player is removed on the inside. Trying to peek a different angle.
See the peaks back and forth right now between everyone, just trying to see if they can breach this in some
God,
fashion.
Horizon's so crucial here.
This is dangerous. You can see that they want to make sure that they defend their teammate, get the spray onto it, but there's a lot of damage onto ATK right now, and they know that this is hazardous for them. They don't want to overcommit until they know that they're in a little bit more comfortable position. Dropping in a couple more meds for the teammates, and you can see it's take a story at a time as they move through this. They don't know exactly where the defenders have positioned up at. Finally gets vision on one, goes for a little bit of a spray through it, not going to connect, but now having a little bit more information, repositioning away from it and seeing if maybe somebody's going to be coming after them instead. It's just a lot of cat and mouse repositions back and forth as finally their teammate does go down. Way over on the other side of this, you can see Dojo finding themselves in an awkward spot now as they've got multiple teams around them based off of positioning, fighting out in another one of these longhouses, and this one's a little bit more dangerous because this is always calling in for a third party based on the way that the positioning and the terrain around him is just set up. Up on top of it's going to be 1907 holding down the bridge, and you can see just doing a ton of work, and everybody that's playing around this jumping in sees the opportunities for it, but there are a ton of teams to be picked up right now, and you know 1907 wants them. They're having to contest up against Flying Camels, who's been on the hunt for kill after kill, so they have got to stack these together, but the problem comes into play that they can't find an opportunity to step in. Pinky Finky goes down, and it's going to be Dojo up on top of it. Down inside of this, it's getting to be a little bit more hazardous inside this risk, and the play that they try to make off.
This is really dangerous for FB. They obviously disengaged from that initial fight, and it's like, okay, we got to still be aggressive to get some kills. We see what Flying Camels is doing, but now they find themselves on a third party again and getting removed. That's two players down, needing to be careful on the back end. This Dojo with the high ground, gonna have plenty of time to work with here. They also disable the gatekeep outside of the zone, obviously staying a little bit here, taking some damage, just seeing if they can pick anybody off, rotating in, but for the most part, a really good spot. No real pressure on them. Obviously don't want to sustain this fight for too much, but just checking, making sure, and it looks like everybody may have rotated back around the other side.
Oh, yeah, and they're going to bump into 20 and Gutbuster, who are thinking of making a similar rotation onto it. So with this, Dojo's going to hear what's happening, I think reposition to try to get some range into it, taking some shots into him, and you can see that this is just getting a little bit worse and worse as it goes. 20 now trying to get out of here, or trying to haul it as fast as possible, does at least manage to get a little bit of distance from it, but finally going to go down as Bruv is just weathering this right now. You can see the amount of damage that they're taking, the amount of meds that they're going to have to use. This is just weakening them out more and more, burning Phoenix Kit at this stage right now. You know, you want to try to hold on to those for as long as possible, but it's just, what do you do? Instead, they're just going to have to rotate around. This Dojo is just gatekeeping them so hard right now.
Honest, really well played here by Bruv. You know, they were in the middle of the thick of that. You know, you got 1907 FB on the outside. You've also got Dojo up top, and you know, yeah, you're running a lot of meds, but you secure your fight, you stay alive in this, and you know what, you're able to get back into it. Ultimately, they're going to come out pretty healthy of this. So again, a lot of teams in that situation would try to force that fight within that area, kind of where Dojo was kind of waiting, but they back off, they take the fight, they bring it to them, and they play it well. So Bruv, commending you on the efforts, able to stay alive in this one. Excited to see what you do on the back end, as we do see here Flying Camels going up against that team on the inside of the zone, having a little bit of an advantage and taking some shots there. Microfiber's probably going to back off a little bit.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of shield damage right now, but I mean, it's Flying Camels. You don't poke the bear. You can see the fact that they got shot at, and they're like, well, now we just know where a squad is. So that means it's going to make it easier. Let's see if we can get something. And go down in this low ground point first, step right up over here. This is where we saw Onyx playing just a second ago, trying to get a read on what may be happening around here, because you can see reposition has come in, made it a little bit more risky as they go, and instead gonna spot out Bruv after they made that long rotation through the zone and it's taking some damage. But yet again, Microfibers just getting lasered, lots of damage coming in, as it looks like it's gonna be Flying Camels being attacked by two different teams on two different angles. There's no time for them to get their shields back up really, so instead just trying to get up as fast as possible, reposition every single time they make a jump. You can see another team now taking a shot at him, just trying to find a moment of reprieve in this. Bruv is unrelenting back behind them. Onyx was the team that they were coming after and really didn't get vision onto it. Dojo is also along a similar point as well. So now using the crates to get a little bit more time to defend up and figure out exactly what's happening around them. The problem comes into play is, when do we see Flying Camels opt into making them play? It pops out, pylons down, you know it's go time. Let's step up into this one. Flying Camel's now starting to get the damage back into this one, trying to make sure that they defend the position and trying to get the kills out of it. Spots it out, tries to get a little bit more vision onto it, but you can see resetting back, taking their time into it, getting their shields up, and really forcing the other teams out and away from them, but just chasing them out of position as well.
Not only that, it's just a matter of showing they're not going to back down. The fact they've got multiple teams pushing up, the decisive decision to go and be like, hey man, we're being attacked by multiple angles, we need to push one of these to buy some reprieve, like you mentioned. Why not? We drop the ultimate, they re-engage the team on the backside just to make sure one less angle to worry about, because they know 25 is up on the other side. You've got another team that was waiting on the rotation in, so what are you supposed to do? Least angle of resistance, they go, they take a fight, and now they got all the time in the world to breathe.
Yeah, look at the comfort that they have based off of that play. I mean, whenever you look at Flying Camel's aggression, it just feels like W keying a lot, but it's always the smart W key, and that's what always leads to their success. They realized where 25 was at, where everything else was going on, where Dojo was playing position at, and instead says, okay, let's take it to the team that's harassing us, so that way we can now get the time to reset and get the information that we need to make our next choice on how we want to aggress. Onyx now with just one member based off of positioning, they're gonna have to make their way into the zone. Not the best of spots to try to make their way through either, but you can kind of see the way everything is setting up. 25 in a very good spot, but there's a lot of high ground off of it. Most notably, it's going to be Dojo that's going to be playing on top of that building. You can see that's why 25 is playing around the other side of that, I guess, round walkway in that position right there, because they don't want to have to contest up against the team next to them. HLTC also getting a little bit more information on what's going on around them. Got a team pincered right back behind the rock, right up against the edge of the zone. Sees an opportunity for it, tries to get a couple of shots onto him, but it's going to be a quick retreat. But you can see on the other side of it, already has somebody waiting for them, just really trying to pincer this between the two, waiting for the bubble to go down before they opt into making their play. But it's taking a lot of time and a little bit of withering damage on both sides of it. Finally starting to come down off of it. It's going to be damage coming out, bubble coming down to buy a little bit more damage distance off of it. Yaga goes down. Here comes the push into it, trying to get a little bit more out of this, but it's being a very, very hectic. Now just down to one. The defense holds up, and they manage to survive through this yet again. Alien Cosmos showing up whenever it matters.
You know, HLDC actually has the better play here. They drop down the ultimate to force the position, and then they flank from the other side, so they push them away from their safety and into the team fight. But at the end of the day, Alien Cosmos just better shots. Realistically, the mechanics just coming out, landing the hits, and they get rewarded for it. So unfortunately, they do drop one and are going to have to leave that banner behind as they push back into the action. We got Flying Camels. They did make the early push out, but they got to be careful. They've got a caution on the backside and actually going to just free it up. It's the zone damage that really puts it away. And as we get into these final circles, one more left to go. There's an ultimate coming out. Gibraltar's maybe going to need to drop his bubble early. Not sure how they're going to play this one.
Think that they got the distance away from it there, so a little bit of time to work with. 6 squads still up right now. A little bit more looting coming in for Flying Camels. They do have the circle to work with, but you can see it's a very weird circle. A lot of rocks set up around it, so this is oddly enough a very beneficial position for them, because they can just go ahead and drop the pylon. On the other side of this, Dojo, though, have found themselves some targets to work with. Lots of damage coming out from them, just trying to play around the rocks of their own as well. Survive this one through. You can see Bubbles now coming through, getting their shields back up and ready to make the peek back around into everything that's going on. This is a messy place to fight, but if you, again, keep an eye on what's going on with Flying Camels. They still have the Revenant pylon to drop down, and once they decide to do so, they can harass just the same way as they did that last round.
Yeah, curious on how this one's playing out. Obviously, for 25 esports, they know they're a little bit low. The silence comes out. It's perfect placement. Atrocity trying to do what he can, and it's like, hey, this fight, we're in so much trouble, but they wipe the squad, get the revive, and they're all ready to go again. Again, Flying Camels really utilizing this strategy. You know, that team has high ground. They're in great position, and they just completely overrun them.
I mean, what do you do against this right now? I mean, every single time a third party comes out or you look another direction, that's whenever you're just going to see camels launching through the air to land on top of you and just rip you to shreds. Now prepped up, they go ahead and have the Jibby ult to work with as well, just to double it down to weaken up. And that's the whole premise on the strategy, is to weaken a squad, then turn back in and do damage onto them. So they are set to take this one up. 3 squads remaining. Here comes the fight breaking out. It's going to be Dojo Unity trying to do a little bit of gatekeeping, looking through, stepping out. You can see Jibby ult now starting to come through off of this just playing around the bubbles because that's really the only thing you can do to buy the time to work with. Dojo's taking a lot of damage, trying to get that moment to get their shields back up, but they know a fight could be happening any second. On the other side, it's going to be Flying Camels lining up a ton of damage. Beautiful sprays coming in to work with right now to go ahead and get that early little bit of tick damage onto them. They spot it out. They don't even need to jump in. They've got the angles to work with. Flying Camels, just go ahead and jump in at the end of it. Why not? You got to live up to the name.
Man, you've got two teams both fighting each other, and Flying Camels wipes their squad early. We talk about the lack of hesitation, being decisive, just goes in and overwhelms. They get the high ground, all that extra loot, and now they're sitting pretty. And the fact that these two teams are fighting because of the rotation with the circle, Flying Camels can just pick them apart. They don't have to do anything in that situation. They just wait for it to develop, and then free shots. I mean, you can see them. They're just on the back end, just like, I mean, I guess if you want me to. Flying Camels, they're overtaken first, calling it here now.
Flying Camels understand the strengths and they play around them so efficiently. They know the fact that they have good decision making on when to take fights and how to take fights, and they position all of their legend selection around that to be the beneficiary of everything that they want to do. If they want to weaken at range, they've got Gibby ults that they can toss down, kind of get a little bit of tick damage into that one. If they choose to, they can jump in using the Octane. They have the capabilities to survive through. They've got Revenant, so that way they can harass a team 2 times before they really have to worry about what's going on. You can see that they can attack high ground, they can attack low ground. They just have opportunities galore, and you can see the fact that they don't even need to jump in. They don't need to be hyper aggressive. They can lean into their aim, and they can still get wins with it. And at this point, I got to start saying I'm kind of scared for these other teams because Flying Camels just feel like they're continuing to evolve.
Yeah, we did actually see this exact same situation, though.
This is true.
It's identical. In the first game of the day, they end roughly 7th to 5th area, which is what happened. The next 2 games they win back to back. So we'll see if they continue to play the same regard, because after that, they got pummeled. They lost and then just never really came back. So Flying Camels, number 1 right now. We're going to see by how much exactly after this quick break. But man, keep it up, please. Please, Flying Camels, keep doing what you're doing.
Flying Camels have been having one hell of a day so far, but it's just like Lawler said a second ago. They won games 2 and 3 yesterday as well, and then kind of slid down just a bit. But we've got the scores ready to go. And Lawler, you had a call. Let's see if you're right.
I mean, without a doubt, they're going to be in first. I mean, Flying Camels with 22 points. They're only down by 5 on FB. FB knocked out with only 3 points. Yeah, of course, Flying Camels is going to be on top when we go to the overall. Other thing I'm paying attention to is that fight. We got some people in chat also representing between DNMK and ATK, watching that battle go back and forth. So shout outs to the supporters and everybody in chat coming in. But Flying Camels back on top, and a big jump here as well to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the drop down right after 1907 FB, but then it's still pretty tightly compacted between 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And remember, guys, we're looking for top 5. Really, that's going to be our deciding factors for money. So everybody right now vying for those spots, and it's starting to be regularly reoccurring names over and over and over. HLDC, Dojo, Australis. Then right back behind them, it feels like it's just getting a little bit more cemented in DMNK, who's got the weirdness that's happening in the early game. No matter what's going on, there's going to be something that's happening with them. Bruv 25 and Anka.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy to see how things are going, but I mean, I think the nice thing about this is we are getting the same teams almost every single time now in the final spots, which is kind of what you want in that final day. You really want to make sure that the teams that are kind of in those areas, and we do have some tiebreakers that are going to come into play, and I'll make sure I get those specific rules to you guys as soon as I figure them out from production. But right now we've got 2 teams tied for the same amount of points. One's got more placement, one's got more kills. So which one comes into play? Usually kills are weighted a little bit heavier, but again, consistency also matters. So again, it's coming down to the wire. We still got a lot of rounds to go, 5 in particular. And man, Flying Camels, show me that you are not the same team as yesterday. Show me that you are the aggressive team. You are playing a specific playstyle, and you can carry it through. It's not an easy thing to do over the course of 8 rounds, but the playstyle you are putting in and implementing right now is the right one. So let's see you keep doing that as we jump in here into match number 12.
I mean, I'll say it. I came in and just watching the way that Flying Camels play, I find myself repeatedly impressed with these teams. Them and 1907 FB. over and over again. And then with the splash of Australis coming in, just with the capabilities of how they take these fights toward the later stages. Flying Camels now flying into the zone, get their drop. We know the fact that tend to like to drop a little bit further away towards edge, because think, if you drop on the edge of the entirety of the map, that just means that you get to walk through all the other teams and all the potential kill points to be had along the way. So whenever we're looking through here, we do have 16 squads, so just going to go ahead and give you guys a heads up. It looks like we did have another team that's decided the fact that their chances are moot, so going to go ahead and give up. Feels bad for competition, man. At least, if you're having trouble, in my opinion, it's not about winning, it's at least about just trying to stay in and get more experience out of it, because there's going to be another tournament. And if you're managed to make it to this level, sure, you're not going to walk away with the cash, but there's still a ton of valuable experience that you can use to get yourself into a position where you can get the cash next time. I know it sucks being at the bottom of the leaderboard, but that's not the reason to quit. If anything, that's the reason to power through and learn more.
Yeah, it's something that for those that have never competed before, there is nothing quite like being in the competitive atmosphere. You can scrim, you can practice and stuff. It's just not the same as money being on the line. It's actually for keeps, you know? So for a lot of these teams, again, some things never change. ATK and DMNK going to be engaging once again. We've got our own little bit of storyline between these two, and man, YSO in the backside with that Mastiff making a count. Doesn't matter though, as one down, make that 2 for ATK. So DMNK, and it's going to be the trade. DMNK comes out on top, and Glitchy using that purple shield is going to be a lot of the reason why.
Here we go. When DMNK can manage to secure early kills.
Oh, here comes Dojo.
I was going to say, it's time for Dojo to get involved. So now gonna have to play this one fairly carefully. They didn't get time to get the res back on their other teammate. So instead, just trying to get distance away, realizing the fact that there's an opportunity to come in. Dojo on the hunt yet again, and it's tried and true at this point. Arc starts coming out. DMNK, if they can survive this, they tend to manage to string together a good game, but they're going to have to contest up against Dojo. Data takes a face full of shotgun, has to step away from it. Crawling through, you can see, trying to feed a little bit of information is the last remaining member, the downed member for DMNK, just saying, hey, maybe I can provide some type of distraction. A lot of damage starting to come into this, though. Dojo might have bitten off a little bit more than they can chew right now, getting the damage into it. They are managing to get down and flush onto one, trying to spot it out, seeing if they can polish it off, and yet again, tried and true nature. Dojo thanks DMNK for those extra kill points at the start of the round.
It's so unfortunate too. Maybe an extra couple of seconds to get that second player revived. They've got a full strength of 3, and maybe we have a different way, because they do handle it well. You got a purple shield and a gold shield and shotguns to the face. That third person just provides so much support. So yet again, here we go. Dojo Unity on top, DMNK and ATK completely removed.
I mean, I just, at a certain point, I feel a little bit bad, because DMNK, when we see them survive this, they go on to have great rounds. That's where they strung it together to really just climb up the leaderboard yesterday, when they managed to get through with all of this mess. At this point, I just want to know, did somebody trash talk somebody else's mom or girlfriend or something? Where is the commitment between these two teams to fight time and time again and let Dojo, third party, finish them off over and over? It's just, I don't know. It just seems so peculiar to stay so cemented into the strategy.
You know, it's interesting to see it playing out, and personally, I'm all for it, honestly. You know, if neither of these guys are going to back down and they're just going to keep playing, as Eventic's showing that he's not going to back down either, taking down one from Onyx. Needs to be careful. Does have the other two on the other side. They're actually pretty weak. If Rexu and the rest of the guys here want to, for all aim, no brain, double commit and go over the top on this one, they have the numbers advantage. They just need to be careful, as Anorak and the rest on the right side from Dojo. A lot of loot to work with, and I actually really like Dojo's rotations right now. Starting in that fragment, rotating south, getting the cleanup, and then coming back into another team where they know Favela and everybody else has been kind of in the area. So Dojo doing a really good job. They're going to back off on this one and let these two kind of figure out what they want to do first. But Dojo's rotations have been really smart lately.
I mean, they just came in. They essentially were the referees. They jumped into that, threw down a flag, and say, okay, it's time for both of you to go in your corners. They both do. And hey, look, we got somebody else that's running around, flying camels right now on the hunt for more kills as they go through, spotting them out, getting in a little bit of damage at range. And if we know anything, if they can get enough damage to feel like they can pull it, that means it's going to be go time yet again. Feeding that information back over. Not a lot of support yet from the other teammates on positionals, though. feels like it was kind of leading the way. Only one flying camel in this position at the time. There you go. The other one's now starting to find the angles to work with, and now it's going to be a little bit harder for what was our perpetual two-man squad yesterday, finally sitting at 3 flamers together today.
Yeah, Astros being able to show up here is huge for OGC, and those are those situations where it's like, in the past, if this is flying camels, you know they're engaging on that. They know it's OGC down with only 2. We've got numbers advantage. Let's go in. I will say, despite that, Microfibers does not back down from these fights. We'll stay there and just take punishment over and over again. As you're going to see here, a good shot from Hestia. This is the Australis team trying to close one out and get a little bit on the board for themselves, as they do get a knock, make it 2, and there's 2 points on the board there. So removing part of another team. There's only 14 squads remaining already. Obviously, a few of those not joining the lobby and have kind of counted themselves out, but man, Flying Camels is not going to let OGC go away. They're rotating with, and here we go. They drop the pylon, they drop the jump pad, and here comes the initiation. Flying Camels flying through, living up to the name. Seeing if they can find this team on the back end, and man, running away is not going to be the option. The silence comes out, a bubble gets dropped, and Al Diablo absolutely shredded. One player on the back end, and yes, Atrocity does go down, but here comes the second initiation. One is removed. There's an Arc Star. He's going to eat it for his teammate, but it does not matter. Only one remaining, and it's it. Oh my gosh. Microfibers and the rest of this Flying Camels team absolutely punishing OGC.
At this point, does like Microfibers always just hear the chugga 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 from Octane, even whenever he's walking around in life. He always has it on, always going full throttle after everybody that's around them. And Flying Camels, I almost fear for other teams. You can see it whenever you shoot at this squad. It just almost makes them mad, and like it just steps up the aggression level. Like, okay, we're gonna go after you now, and just think about that, to step up in front of somebody and have no fear onto it. Blind Peekers, who had themselves a start a couple of really good games yesterday, been a little bit more quiet today. We haven't seen a lot of opportunities coming for them. You can see contesting up against the bubble around them. They think that they have an opportunity to work with, trying to get a little bit more vision on what's going. Spots it out, using that jump up to get a little bit more vision on everything that's happening. It's going to be 20, just living the high life right now. Going to have to drop back down, and his teammates do take a decent chunk of damage.
Blind Peekers need to be careful. They do need some big performances here and have not really been able to get out of top 12. Placement has probably been the best, and with a couple teams remaining, that means they're only living past the first maybe 3 or 4 squads. So trying to disengage probably on this fight. They got to be careful of Anka, who's been doing a pretty good job. It doesn't seem like Anka is really committing as much to the epicenter. It seems like they're rotating out pretty early and have been finding some success, but Blind Peekers, a couple good shots here. But you also see in the kill feed, you've got Flying Camels finding yet another team.
What are they trying to accomplish from this point right now? Is they're right up against the edge, and you can see that it's just kind of contained. You have to try to win this fight quite quickly, but Flying Camels just chilling here, raining in more damage from this angle to work with, and really just containing in teams. They're like, okay, we know that the safe zone's a different direction, but who cares? There's blood to be had over here. Spots it out, knows exactly where he's at. Just, these guys are unrelenting, and it's beautiful to watch.
Again, this is really good for Flying Camels against a team. Like, we haven't even seen 1907 on the kill feed, let alone just through the spectator. Mr. Spectator, if you can hear me, if you want to throw us to 1907, if they're still in this, and see what FB is up to. Usually they play on the southwest side, and this is too quiet for them. They need to get involved. This is not good enough. Flying Camels, you should see on the kill feed, like, that should show some urgency for them to be like, shoot, we gotta go to those gunshots.
And so with this, I mean, they've got opportunities around them, but it adds this new level of pressure whenever you're playing against such a kill heavy team. It means the fact that you feel like you need to be chasing into fights, and sometimes leads you to make over aggressive missteps. I think that 1907 is saying, okay, let's just kind of lean into the later stages of the game. Let's not overcommit. And that could be beneficial if it ends up working out for them and we see Flying Camels go down early. If not, that means the fact that it's just going to be more and more points that 1907 is going to have to try to climb up from. 1907 does find themselves an opportunity here, getting a little bit of damage into WRG. Instead, you're going to have to play this one through, and you can see it's kind of hectic. It's the bubble that's buying out a lot of time, but just jumps in, finds the angle to work with, and instantly regrets it. Pinky just takes a lot of damage off of that one. throwing up the shield right now to provide a little bit more defense for his teammates, so that way they can peek around these corners. Throwables are coming into effect to just go ahead and flick what they can into it. And now just one up for 1907. Is this over-aggression trying to get their own kill is going to come back and haunt them right now? It's a dance around the shield, just trying to spot him out. Gets a little bit of vision, only at 1 hit point, and narrowly survives.
Need to be careful though. You've got Australis in the nearby and going to be pushing in. So again, it's a good push by 1907. They do clutch it up, but then they get removed. The third party, Australis was down below the whole time, and again they take advantage.
Australis always just seems to be this team that realizes whenever there's somebody that's high up on the leaderboard and trying to make something for themselves, they just are like, hey, it's our time to shine. Let's make sure that we show up in this fight and just make sure that we are your undoing. They are the X factor that repeatedly just inflicts wound upon wound onto everybody trying to climb up the leaderboard and fight for those #1 spots. Whenever these guys show up, you never know how they're going to respond, but every single time they do, they find the angles to work with and at least manage to take somebody down with them. On the other side of this, you can see it's going to be Dojo yet again, spotting out Onyx, making a little bit of a rotation of their own. Data going for the reposition at speed off to the side of it. Gonna spot it out, but you can see a very weakened Onyx trying to retreat, just barely having time to get their shields back up, but Dojo doesn't want to chase this one down too far.
Yeah, Dojo in a kind of a weird situation, especially on that rotation, but the zone is going to be pushing them in on the backside, and unfortunately those meds going to be gone to the circle. So Dojo here going to have to rotate through. Does find some loot along the way, but back through the train station.
Oh, train station, all the fun that you can potentially bring in and how crazy it can get around this position. But too close to the edge of the zone, so yep, as it pops, it's going to be shifting away from it. All aim, no brain. Leaning into a little bit of Revenant of their own on the hunt for a couple of teams that are running away from them at the time. Trying to spot out, gets a vision on, knows exactly where they're at, but Rexu takes a ton of damage off that one, steps away from it. Now gonna have to do a little bit of a retreat and say, okay, well, we know exactly where they are, but now the problem comes into play is how do we want to go into the safe zone? Are we gonna go ahead and chase them down? Because I don't even think that the compound that they were trying to look into would be a very valuable position. So instead, maybe step away from this one and find a new angle of approach. Meanwhile, it's going to be back again with Dojo trying to make their way through all of the train cars, and it's going to be HLDC with the high ground and a little bit of bullets exchange between the two.
We've also got Onyx on the back end. It's been Hidoka. This is now the second time I think they've been solo, and the other one's actually taking a wide rotation through the zone. So this could be a bit of a surprise actually for Dojo, but unfortunately for 20, disconnected.
Yeah, this is we're seeing a lot of teams caught up on the edge right now in a little bit more awkward spots. Flying Camels, though, you know, whenever you see them glowing like this, they got goals to be had. Spotted out, jumps in, beautiful amount of damage before even touching the ground. What do you do? What do you do? There's just too many Flying Camels all around you. Like, the worst thing you can do is just sit there and try to not give away where your teammates are or even look at them, so that way the hunt will at least slow down just a little bit more. They don't even have Bloodhound. It's just hunt upon hunt, just for the glory of the All-Father, just for their team.
Well, the difficulty on this one, 20 does end up coming back, but the problem is because they're trying to rotate through. Flying Camels in just a solo take out Gutbuster, and Aquatic and 20 are just gonna have to sit and wait this one out. So an unfortunate situation with 20, and then it gets further doubled down on with Flying Camels playing aggressive on the player. But on the other side, for Flying Camels, burning that ultimate and only getting one out of it is not what they're looking for. They're trying to remove as many players as possible.
That is a low economy move coming out for them, which we don't see happen too often, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Aquatic doing a little bit of a chill move right now. Got our rat cam. You got anything prepared for us? I wasn't expecting me to mention it. No. I don't even know what you're talking about. We'll just go ahead and move on to something else then.
Aquatic heard you and was just like, no, I don't want to be a pump. Oh man, there's another one. I got the same one from yesterday, but let me draw something up. I'll make a haiku real quick. Hold on.
Oh, no, Flying Camels won't give you the time to do it. They got goals, they got vision, they can spot out what's going on. Jumps in, and they know exactly where somebody is, but I like this. Again, waiting for the bubble. They are a W key team, but again, it's W key with intelligence. Play it slow, wait for it. Throw in the arc stars. Again, it's about weakening up the targets before jumping in. Once they feel like they've got the advantage, they hear the damage come into play. Now it's a matter of just spotting it out. Double stack back behind the crates, easy peasy. And God, Flying Camels, just, dude, just I almost feel like leave the lobby alone. You're being mean and you're just bullying everybody. This is the epitome of cyberbullying. Nobody can do anything to stop it.
NHLDC with Dojo. You've also got all aim no brain at the bottom side of there. It's still pretty far away, but with these shots maybe moving in, it does look like they are approaching a different direction. Need to be careful as well. 25 esports off in the distance. We just got a blip of them, but a lot of cooldowns being expended here by Dojo. Staying patient, holding their angles. I do like HLDC trying to move around a little bit, check these different angles. It's gonna be a rotation in. Careful for them though. 25 esports is sitting there waiting. Good shots initially here by Salem.
Good read on what was going on around the door.
What a shot. Rexu has other ideas with that massive and just drops one down, but man. Gonna get the revive back up.
We haven't had a chance to see much out of 25 today either. I mean, we saw them take some very good fights yesterday, but it's been a little bit more quiet. And it just felt like it's been the Flying Camels show for so far. Another fight that's breaking out as Dojo's finding themselves in a little bit of an awkward spot. They've got Rexu off to one side taking in some damage, and they're just trying to jump out of position. But guess what? That's going to put you in a very hazardous position, as well as Data is just trying to get into cover. Already one member down, and Flying Camels are now having teams deliver themselves to him, just trying to get away from everything that's going to happen. A little sneaky angle right there to get even more damage out. Where do you go? I mean, Dojo, you're just out in the middle of everything, gets caught out, and just no options, and just trying to run for their lives.
If I'm quiet, it's because I'm writing a poem. Don't mind me.
Okay, we'll wait for the poems. We do have Rat Cam right now, but give them time, spectator.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, wait, let's go.
Okay. Got a haiku for everybody. Look at this Rat Cam. Passive, silent, staying put, pushing to the end.
Uh-oh. Run! You heard the footsteps. Get out of Dodge. Retreat.
Push,
he
buddy,
gave you the
push.
perfect amount of time. He's gone. Safety is to be had. All right, new rocks. New sneaky spot. I love the fact that rats always have a secondary position. They know exactly where they're going to go to follow it up with. They're like, nope, somebody's too close to me. Time to go. Get out of this point. All right, so we got a lot of teams stacked up against the zone, and you can kind of see why. It's a kind of a no man's land of dangerous positions. Data's going to be our rat that's hiding down in the lower position right now, and it's a lot of high ground bullets being exchanged. We do have Rexu and the rest of the crew back behind them, playing a little bit of a low ground point of their own. But Flying Camels, here we go. Time to jump in. Doors don't stop them. How do they find so many throwables? Every single time, these guys are just stacked up with them, ready to fight. And it's going to be another team coming in and trying to take it to them. Microfiber's trying to hold it up. It's a 1v1 between bouncing back and forth. Yaga's on near on no life. And it's going to be picked up. And yet again, Flying Camels managed to pick it up just in time and should be able to get their reses, unless somebody sees an opportunity and opts into jumping at them.
Man, that's a huge play. I thought HLDC could have had it. All it took was one punch, and for Microfiber's doing a really good job as well. And this is just smart team play. He's the one with the shield. He's got a teammate up. Obviously, you want to get the other one healed up, but it's better for him to play cover fire, get both players into the action, and then go from there. So, man, Flying Camel's aggressive, almost getting third-partied on that back head by HLDC. But they do take out a big player in the match. HLDC in third place currently removed. So, could provide a little bit of chance to some of these other teams. Obviously, all aim no brain right now in 14th, needing a big round. You're looking at some of these other teams as well, with like Hestia and company on Australis, also in 5th place, maybe being able to bump up a little bit here. 25 esports also in 8th place in the striking area as well. So again, a lot of really big name teams and some rats to boot.
And we're seeing a little bit of a rat dance going on right now. There's Cake Man's on one side of it, Data on the other. Flying Camels, though, yet again on the move, and they've spotted out some more to work with. Data's going to go down, so it's yet another kill to feed the beast that is Flying Camels right now. Spots out a little bit more of what's going on. Wants to make sure that there's nobody that's going to be approaching from that lower area, and you can see down to 6 squads, pretty compacted at this stage. Spots it out on the other side of the rock, and it's just peak battles as they make their way through this one. They got their armor back up, decent situation, and right along the edge of the zone, and here it comes. You knew it was just a matter of time. Spots it out, getting in some damage as they go. It's going to be a Dosidio back onto one side of it, spotting it out yet again, following through. See if maybe they can connect with a touch more of it. These guys always press the W key to go in after it. Finds in a little bit more damage. Atrocity's taking a lot of damage on the outside of it, though. Has to be a little bit more careful, but Flying Camels resets after getting their damage off, not getting as much as they wanted out of it.
No, but at the same time, it gives them a lot of information. What are they working with? What are they going up against? And it is just the 3. Luckily for them, nobody else really takes any damage from it. So no other team's really punishing. You've got 25 inside. You've got another team that's actually playing a little bit of rat underneath. So maybe it could be an advantageous situation here for the 2 that are hiding. But we've got what it looks like, 5 teams remaining, all in their individual spots. Up at the top, we've got all Aim No Brain on the right-hand side. You've got Hesse and the rest of the crew from Australis. 25 Esports with the hard cover inside. And for, honestly, Flying Camels, I'm curious on how they're going to approach this one. 25 knows exactly where they are. They've been on the sonar multiple times. But Atrocity up top, feeling confident. A silence could be crucial here.
Well, what we've been seeing come out from them is the fact that we know that Flying Camels is going to want to wait and not be the initiator and be the third party coming into it. The issue is that all the other teams are in very defended positions right now, being very hesitant on how they're wanting to make their way through this one. Flying Camels, though, on the opposite end of that one, they said, nope, we're not going to wait till the end. We'll go ahead and be the initiator right now, but here's the problem. They already have one of their members down. Make that a second. Finally, might be seeing a little bit of trouble coming in their way, trying to get the res up before the zone connects. They do manage, doesn't manage to get it up in time, and now Microfiber is the last one up for his squad. He's going to have to do a little bit more damage control and get a read for what's going on. Maybe has the opportunity to res the other one, but you can see 25 Esports full on defensive position right now. Bubble coming out, realizing the fact that they've got a little bit of trouble of their own. This is going to be the same position that we saw Flying Camels trying to take, but they did manage to reset, and are they going to be able to get everybody up off of this? Just the passive play coming out from 25, and the way that we're seeing Rexu and the rest of the team
trying to play third party.
They're going to have the opportunities to work. Oh, here comes the shots. 25 stepping back out around it, and Australis finding the angles to work with, running into it. 25 Esports sees their opportunity, steps in, gets the kill, but Australis going to be the beneficiary, taking them down. Now just roaming around the side of the wall, spotting it out, sees the last member, or one of the last members up for the squad, getting a little bit of vision onto it, and it's just a nice little bit of peeks. Pat, the last one up for Australis, who put in a ton of work, but there's just too many angles. All Aim No Brain charges it in and gets themselves the victory.
All Aim No Brain doing a really good job on the south side, just waiting for that to develop. But I will say, obviously, a little bit of spoiler play there. Flying Camels trying to get those revives off, but you can hear that noise. You can hear the teams that are immediately like, wait, they're at a disadvantage. We have to go now. And credit to 25 Esports. That is what? How many pushes from Flying Camels? That aggressive play style. They're just poised and ready to take that fight. So the hard cover coming out, coming in handy. But of course, it starts with a fight from DMNK and ATK, and Dojo coming in to sweep it up.
I mean, it just feels like it's destiny at this point. It's going to happen every single time. Flying Camel's just so ridiculously violent, and let's be real, they did go down, but the amount of kills that they managed to string together is going to be pretty ridiculous, and going to manage to cement them in a decent spot on the leaderboard, because really, it's been them and 1907 FB, and 1907's push didn't go in their favor, as again it always feels like the Australis X factor is what's been going on. We saw them stepping in, 25 Esports weathering the repeated jump ins, and really one of the few teams that's been able to handle this just hyper aggressive Flying Camel squad and managed to stall it out, and it looks like that was going to be the key to success. And then Australis comes around, so many people coming in, but I really like the fact that we're seeing All Aim No Brain picking up a round win, because they've been starting to string some stuff together and finding ways to get their own victory. Not being able to get around victory, they have been able to find themselves kills as they progress through.
Yeah, this is the big one here from 25 Esports. Obviously, they push through trying to close out a team that's been pestering them the whole time. They actually get a little bit of help on the back end. The other team comes in from that other angle and is able to escape Rexu's wrath actually on the back end, but eventually All Aim No Brain decides to full push, and it's a 1v3. They just play cleanup, and it works out really well, getting a little bit more placement points. Well done by them. A little bit more patience, and honestly, Flying Camels I don't think cares. They may only get, third, fourth, but ultimately they got a lot of kills. So I'm curious to see on just how many when we come back from break. Guys, we're going to take a quick break here for the GLL Masters Spring. We've got the MEA region. We just finished our fourth. I think we're going to take a little bit of an extended break, maybe 5 minutes or so here. So get some snacks, and we'll be back in a bit.
Hello, we're back, and guess what? We took a little bit longer of a break, so we're trying to get into the game as fast as possible. So with that being said, scores, let's go.
Matchroom out here casting as fast as we do with the intro. Just kind of get through this real quick, but man, Flying Camels I talked about Even though they didn't get the placements, they still got plenty of kills. And man, now at this point, a 31-point lead over 1907 FB. That's a huge, huge margin of error that they can work with. As we enter the second half of today, we've gotten through 4 matches. We got 4 more to go. All Aim No Brain also jumping up a few spots here. They were around roughly that same area, but again, it's just the point differential that's happening. Also mentioned to us by production, Josavimo is going to be back in the lobby. So a couple more teams coming to play as we jump on with All Aim No Brain, our winners from last game. Big reason to that is Rexu and his shots, but guess not. I guess we are.
I tried to get us in there fast,
over.
guys.
Yeah,
that's it. We're too quick for them, Lawler. We got in. The players just weren't ready for us.
I guess so. Also confirmed by production. Flying Camels, 16 kills last game.
I mean, that's a round victory and 4 kills, man. Like,
it's 41 kills. 41 kills over 3 games.
That's just nuts, for lack of a better term. Like, how do you handle this? And they still got 5 placement points to work with. You saw on the overall leaderboard, FB, now they're getting that pressure that we were talking about. They're starting to feel like, oh man, we're gonna have to start going for a little bit riskier of fights than we wanted to do beforehand. Also, big game for Australis, walking away with 8 kills and 9 placement points of their own.
Yeah, it's a really big deal in them trying to kind of push into this money area. And you're seeing how close it is too. If we take a look at the total leaderboard again, you can kind of just see how it's playing out. Obviously, I think 1 and 2 right now are definitely in a really good spot, but 3, 4, and 5 are just neck and neck. You're talking, placement points wise, otherwise, a few kills and it's jumping up. But Astralis is trying to create a little bit of separation. They've slowly been climbing up. They took over the 3rd place spot over HLDC earlier today. HLDC has done a good job of staying put and in the money, but man, DMNK, who came in as 3rd, is dropping down quicker and quicker, and a lot of it has to do with those early fights, man. Them and ATK, yeah, they may be winning that one, but you got to watch out for Dojo Unity.
Yeah, just to give you guys a heads up, it's going to be just a few minutes while we get everybody back in the lobby. We're going to try to get them in there as quick as possible, but Dojo Unity, man, even if you look at it, those early kills that they're managing to get from the 3rd party, jumping into what's been going on with DMNK and ATK, that's really benefiting them quite a bit. Because think about it, we're at this point, what, 12 rounds in, somewhere around there?
Yep.
And for at least 10 of those, well, I would say probably closer to about 8 of those, we've been seeing them kind of mess with that early fight that's been going in and picking up a couple of kills here and there. And that extra little bit, that cushion at the very start of it, is what's letting them hold on to that 5th place position.
Yeah, honestly, it is. It's a quick 3 kills. Obviously, they usually survive to, looking at the exact results, so far today, they've been 7th, 2nd, 16th, and 8th. So middle of the pack a majority of the time. They had one that was kind of an outlier where they got removed earlier by ATK or Dojo, but for the most part, they're right in the middle. And that's honestly quite enough if they're going to try to play those points. A middle placement is a couple points and then they get a couple kills. And it's like, okay, the 5-6 points that they get every single round is enough to keep them in that same area. So honestly, at this point, maybe ATK needs to back off, or maybe ATK needs to take a different angle of approach. They did play it, I think, well in one of those rounds where they actually landed a little bit more east in fragment. And then they waited for that push to come to them. And tried to force Dojo to be the first one. So maybe for DMNK, they need to push north instead of east. But then if they do that, they're in between both teams. So again, why is nobody challenging Dojo? Why not go land on Dojo and mix it up? Who knows what happens there? There's a couple different options they have.
There are 2 teams that should be quite mad at them at this point, which is kind of what I'm like. For as much as we keep talking about DMNK and ATK attacking each other, it's always Dojo that's walking away the beneficiary. And at a certain point, you'd think that both of these teams would be like, all right, you hold down that area, I'm going to hold down this area, and let's just look to the north for a second. And just because there's often baiting shots that you'll see that happens inside of Battle Royales where you'll just start randomly, you and your teammate will just start shooting a lot to make people think that there's a fight going on, and maybe they'll try to jump in and 3rd party it, and then you've just got a trap waiting for them. This is one of those moments when you could try to bring something like that, but the downside to it is if you start shooting, now that other team, let's say DMNK starts doing the shooting to try to bring Dojo over, ATK could be like, oh, there's already a fight happening, I'm going to go 3rd party it, and then just kind of makes its own problem in itself. Really, the issue comes into play and there is something to be said about dropping and holding on, because we talked about this yesterday, to your rotations and everything else along those ways. And sometimes we have seen people sacrifice whole events just to make a statement of, we are not leaving this location. It feels like that's kind of what's going on right now. But that being said, it's also kind of rough for DMNK, who was in the top 5, to be sacrificing money just to make this statement.
Yeah, at the same time, if it wasn't for Dojo making that adjustment, it would be fine. Because DMNK has been winning those fights most of the time. Most of the time, they are winning over ATK. The difficulty, though, is they're not able to then carry that rotation through. And that's part of the reason why Dojo, I think, is making it a part of their positioning. Is they're like, yep, we got safe loot. We're fine. We're in a good position. And yes, this fight continues to happen. So why not clean it up and then use the rotation that probably both these teams would be making to carry it all the way through? You look at Dojo's placements: 7th, 2nd, 16th, 8th, 2nd, 5th, 4th, 9th. Like, they are in good spots. Like, there's a couple times where they get, in that mid game and then they lose that trade. But when they don't, they carry it through and they get pretty good placement. So for Dojo, keep doing what you're doing, man. No one's challenging your spot. You got free kills on the way down. Like, why not at this point? It's putting you in the money. You got 5th place right now. Time to secure it.
If it's working, don't fix it, is the basic situation that we're looking at right there. And I mean, Dojo gets that extra little bit of time while the fight's going on to be in a better loot position. So even if they did walk into the 2 teams with both of them up, they're still in a more advantageous position just regarding ammo, or like shields, all that other stuff that they can work around. So I'm just curious if we're going to continue to see it. I know I've been joking about the fact that it's just destiny that these 2 teams are going to be fighting.
It feels like we don't get anything else, man. That is the early game. That is the new meta. DMNK
these 2 teams making
and
a statement
will
against
fight.
each other.
They will fight.
Chat, help me out. Like, did somebody trash talk someone before this started or something like that? I need somebody to like message me on social media or something so that way I can know, because I just don't understand the rationale of this such a heavy commitment, specifically from DMNK, who was again in top 5, but is sacrificing money that they could have in their pocket to win this.
Well, we are jumping on with winners of our last game. It is all aim, no brain in Geyser with no challenges. So plenty of loot to work with. Gonna see Landed taking that Spitfire, and Mozambique probably gonna replace one of those pretty quick, depending on what he finds. We're looking at, of course, Dojo.
Who
Top
would
left
have
and Fragment West. We got DMK and ATK in the other side. So here we go again. I will say, though, you've got Favela and Onyx as well fighting in that on that right hand side. So again, early fights. Favela's been kind of a weird one. They've gotten positive and negative results, and I'm curious on how that one plays out as well, because most of the time, whoever ends up winning those 2 teams will meet somewhere, and the winner of that usually carries it into like top 6, while the other one obviously drops in that like 7th, 8th spot. It's a big difference.
Also, do note, looks like we could be getting another Geyser game, which we've been seeing can be ridiculous just whenever we're looking at how MEA plays it and how just aggressive it gets and just how bloody it turns on the drop of a hat, really. So gonna keep an eye out on teams and how they rotate through Sorting Factory, Harvester, Lava City is a potential for a couple of them. A slower start to this fight that's been happening around City itself, as it does look like DMNK is opting to go north. That's a new fight that we have going on around Refinery. But also, I did want to point out that we do see DMNK also looking like they might be taking a little bit more into Dojo's territory, kind of like what we were talking about. So there we go. Blind Peekers caught up into a little bit of a skirmish right now, as it looks like they're still just trying to get a grip on what's happening around them.
You spot one out. A couple shots coming in on the south side. Luckily for them, high ground at 20, obviously using the Horizon gravity lift, so working out pretty well to readjust.
It's such a slow fight in comparison to what we've been seeing. I mean, it's much more like slow, methodical as it goes. Spots it out. Uh-oh, had the grenade prepped up, trying to get the shots into it. Gets in a couple of big hits in before he goes down. Gets some support from teammates. We can see Aquatic's got to be a little bit careful with this one. He's taking a ton of damage as well, but 20. He's found himself a lot of successes. Still looking through, realizing the fact that there's more opportunities to be had. Gets the spray in, and there we go. trying to connect in with it. Looking back through on the last one, or second to last one, actually. Get the flush into it. I don't know where the last member is. There he is. He's decided to show himself now. 20 on near, on no life, having to jump through on one hit point, dancing around the shield, trying to stay alive with it. Connects with the shots, barely manages to get it, but it's going to be a new contested team coming in. And it's going to be DMNK. We were talking about that they were looking to the north, finally finding a third party of their own.
DMNK making some good adjustments, but man, that fight, credit to 20. A lot of shield swaps able to keep it alive, and that's not an easy thing to do when you're going through inventories and everything else. It's a good job to secure some of the kills for the team, but unfortunately for blind peekers, all that effort completely removed. You also see Favela Vandalos actually losing that fight on the east side as well. So some big name teams again drop down early. The biggest one that I noticed though, HLDC gone.
That is absolutely massive as we're looking through the leaderboard and how everything is stacking up right now. These guys have been putting in a ton of work. And now DMNK, we mentioned this, whenever DMNK makes it through the early game, they manage to string together a phenomenal set of kills and usually can pick themselves up a victory. It's just getting past these early stages. You can see already managing to pick up a couple of kills, already vying to go after another one. Bubble is going to come out to provide a little bit more time to recover from what's going on. DMNK finding multiple angles to work with right now and jumping in a high ground position to assault up against this, realizing the fact that they have the opportunities to work with. All three members still up, have taken some shield damage, but that's been really about it. Just good on control, and DMNK, now alive, gets to start asserting its dominance on the rest of the lobby.
Honestly, this has got to be really nice for DMNK. This has got to be a big confidence boost. You're talking, you keep winning an initial fight, and then a third party comes in and you get removed. You make that adjustment, and that adjustment pays off. That's got to be massive for them in the way they're going to carry through the rest of this match.
Wouldn't it be odd and slightly poetic to see DMNK, ATK, and Dojo all fighting in Geyser at the end? Top three teams.
Yeah, but the chances of that happening based on what I'm seeing in Geyser in the Southwest, I don't know if we're going to get that. You got 25 on top of 1907 FB. You got HLDC on the east side. It said they were removed, but it looks like they're fairly healthy. So not sure what's going on with the team tracker, but HLDC, welcome back alive. Proud of you. I don't know how you guys did it, but legendary place.
Javonic taking a little bit of a skirmish right now with Onyx. Turning a little bit bad for Onyx, as you can see the positioning, trying to get away from it, nowhere to go. They're all three gonna drop, and now should be able to get the res back onto their teammates, and we're starting to see more and more Revenant successes coming into play right now as the adaptations coming through, realizing, okay, if everybody's gonna be hyper aggressive, then let's go ahead and be hyper aggressive as well.
Aim No Moreno, winners from last game, able to clutch out another fight, so well done by them. You got 25 esports run alongside 1907 FB. Pinky Finky kind of been the standout player, but it was Catherine that at the tail end was able to clutch up with that 0 HP essentially in that fight. So again, the big performances from all players at some point or another, obviously fully capable as they're going to rotate away from this, obviously trying to push a little bit more Geyser side as that's where the circle is going to close in on. But able to engagement all together, 25 able to kind of sneak on past.
Still leaning into the strengths of the later game hopes right now is what we see Mnachi doing. So you can see Dojo lining up, getting a little bit more damage out of their own. Now still not capable of getting those early kills that they've been kind of relying on, instead finding a couple more fights that they might take at range. Here it goes. You can see Data's now leaning into the speed and starting to look back over into everything that's going on. Takes a ton of damage off of it. You're going to slow him down, but at least going to be able to feed the information back over to his teammates.
It's the shield battery still taking a little bit of damage. Not sure if it's utility that's being thrown, but going to back off.
Yeah, this is a full defensive setup now, realizing the fact that there's a lot of teams around them doing a little bit of harassment, just trying to regroup right now. And you can see leaning into doors and the top of this ramp buys you a lot of strength and vision if anybody approaches from here, and then you can kind of defend up towards the top of it. So a couple of benefits in how you want to play this, as well as a couple of different rotation options with all the doorways that are at the top of it. So if you do get harassed, you can kind of dance around different options, but it's still trying to find enough damage to get that moment to go in, and Unity just can't seem to line it up just quite yet.
No, difficult situation for actually both these teams. Obviously, with Salome and the rest of the crew on Brev, not really a push you can really make. A lot of hard cover. Even if you do push through, you're just going to get bursted down. One of the players actually rocking a charge rifle as well, and pushing into that is no fun. So Gonna just stay passive yet again. A lot of the times we've been seeing a lot of W key is starting to be a little bit more logical in their decisions, which again can go any way. You see 1907 FB here on the south side of Geyser. ATK moving through, still alive, surprisingly enough, based on how things are going. We're going in with our winners and our number one team right here in Flying Camels. That's a lot of damage down. Expect an initiation here. But actually, the team's fighting back. They're not backing down at all whatsoever.
Decent exchange between the two. You can see Microfibers, the guy that usually leads the way, having to retreat back and get back into a decent, healthy position. Doesn't look like they're wanting to take this one just yet. They have the jump pads and other tools, but I think it's just due to the fact that the information that they have, and they've been listening to the firefight, realizing if they were to jump into that, they might be jumping in, yes, as the third party, but they don't necessarily want to be the first ones to jump in whenever everything's happening at range. So instead, going to retreat away from that, get a little bit more information, and looks like they're rotating through, or the eyeing kind of rotating. Nah, I was going to say that's too long of a rotation to wrap behind it, but I mean, it is a very fast squad, so there is the opportunities for that. Astralis off in the distance as well as Alien Cosmos still playing around compound. It's given them a couple of successes in the past. Has to be a little bit careful though.
Yeah, even though we haven't gotten to see too much of Alien Cosmos, the times we have, their shots have been pretty on point. You know, they're trading quite well. That was the team that just put up a fight against Flying Camels. So again, holding their angles. Obviously, information from the other team up top is ready to take a fight, but again, shotguns and a lot of close range in sight, waiting for them to peek these angles, because all it takes is a couple. Is see one here. Kaczynski gonna open up the door, put some shots down with the Spitfire, and swap back around with the teammates. So we're repositioning here from Alien Cosmos.
A slower middle game than what we've been seeing, but there it is. I was about to say this is too quiet. Microfibers taken a lot, gets already sent back over towards where we saw the pylon get dropped at, and it's going to be a rinse and repeat. Is now trying to reposition back into this one, getting a lot of damage into DMNK, who's trying their best to hold up this lineup, but notice the fact that Flying Camels aren't looking back behind them, and that's going to be their problem. There you go, one member now down, and it's going to be an instant retreat from Flying Camels, realizing the fact that their position too vulnerable. They were caught up too much in what was going on in front of them instead of what could be coming up back behind them, and you can see this is turning quite chaotic because multiple teams getting vision on what's going on. DMNK wants to get some vengeance back on the team that just jumped right up into their face, but nice defensive lines holding up, and there you go. Shot's going to come in, get a little bit of a slowdown. DMNK still wants this one though, and finally says, okay, maybe let's not push into this directly, instead slow down just a little bit. Microfibers finding himself in some trouble, but it's going to be Australis yet again holding down this point and looking back as DMNK is looking maybe too aggressive to their position.
Again, 5 players or 5 teams in this area. They're going to push in. Oh, seeing the revive, and it's going to be an easy drop on that player who just got picked back up, but need to be careful. There's a lot of action happening in this area. Some big name players as well. The shot's coming out. Hestia here trying to do what they can from Australis and end up getting the victory on the other side. So a revive coming out from Pat should be able to get up some bronze back to full strength. But again, players still on the top side of this hill. 11 squads remaining, 31 players total. Trying to loot, get what they can as Zone is pushing in. So you're gonna have to go back to that team, and Flying Camels on the receiving end of all of it here. Matchup completely gone.
And this is the opportunity that you know that 1907 FD has been waiting for. Not going to get ourselves a geyser game, instead just to the south of that. So 1907, you can see just trying to survey, make sure that nobody's going to be coming in, so that way they have control over this area. The more information that they have to work with means the fact that they get more free liberties and movements. Circle is not going to be directly around this location too close, but
oh no,
I mean, we're getting down to that stage that circles are all pretty small anyway, so not the worst thing. But the question comes into play is how many kills can they string together, and really we're seeing a quite strong Australis managing to pop some stuff off. And there we go, finally getting vision on what they were chasing after. Quick pickup, and those are the kills that we need to see coming in for 1907 Fundamanacci.
Yeah, this is a big play from 1907. Obviously, the team for Flying Camels in first place with a convincing lead of 30-ish points. Getting knocked out early, not too many kills either for them. They had a couple early on, but not enough in comparison to what we have for their expectations. So for 1907, a chance to play catch up. Here we have 25 esports, only 2 players on the team, 1 not connecting. So going to close this one out. There's another player on the other side, another player pushing the teammate, and it's right in the face of Salem. Salem's going to have to back one out.
this is bad. There are so many people around. Where do you even go?
Wow,
Just
Salem.
trying to run through this one. And I mean, every single angle has somebody back behind it, tries to put up a fight, but Alien Cosmos managed to come out on top of that one. 1907 does here, but instead taking some shots at the team they're in between them at the time. So Salome and crew in a little bit of trouble, but Australis still out in the distance, hearing what's going on. I gotta say, Australis continues to impress time and time again. I'm really taken with how the squad navigates specifically these mid and late game fights and realizes how to be very opportunistic in what they get with very little risk involved.
It's actually crazy for me to see how much the landscape changes when it comes to who's in what, based upon what DMNK did. They push up a little bit more. Flying Camels gets taken out. Australis ends up a little bit more aggressive. You got Alien Cosmos with a little bit more breathing room. Teams that are normally actually getting removed by Flying Camels, with them out of the play, it's completely changed up the dynamic of what we're seeing in these late game circles. So again, not sure if that's due to just the circles themselves and where they're placing each other for these zones, but again, DMNK's push north having a huge impact. ATK's still involved. Dojo Unity just caught on kind of the brunt end of it, but still alive on the other side. So again, some different names we're getting towards the end of these circles, all because of that one start.
I mean, we didn't see the early game fight around Fragment. We've seen Flying Camels go down, so opportunity to galore for a lot of these teams that have been looking desperately to trying to string something together. String a couple of the shots onto a rotating team as well. Bruv doesn't manage to connect too much until after they land with it, but really, it's just about territory control. Sometimes it's not necessarily about hitting the shots, but really just at least throwing enough bullets that direction to make them hesitant to go towards your direction. With the amount of hyper-aggressive jump-in teams, sometimes that can backfire onto you, but you can see everything's really huddling around along these rocks, and 1907 realizing the fact that they're going to have opportunity and a beautiful angle onto a team waiting and trying to regroup just a little bit more. They are just absolutely destroying these guys in the low ground. Damage popping off on every single angle.
Yeah, you gotta be careful though. Obviously, a lot of noise being made. It's a good push and good patience. Obviously, the pings come out and then they attack cohesively as a unit, but a lot of noise being made. So on the back end here, you've got all aim, no brain. Naventic a little bit low and back into the action after a Phoenix kit. But do have Hesty and the rest of the team from Australis inside. Good hard cover. They're going to play the high ground. But need to be careful. That makes them susceptible to shots across.
I know. This is an awkward position to defend.
Oh, no, Rexu. Oh, no, Rexu.
Rexu, I don't know what you were thinking on that one, but that was an instant no coming out from everybody on Australis. Going to be a couple more people now trying to come in. You can see if they can get anything out of it. This is going to be right along the edge of the zone, and they're going to have to move quite a distance. We still have 8 squads left, and just due to the terrain and how rocky it is, and really the setup, there's a lot of little crevices and ways that people can hide through. So not going to be as violent as what we've been seeing in some of our late games, and capabilities for Rats to try to make their own plays as we look at this. Question comes into play: can you make the crosses through all of the teams that are already set up and firmly gatekeeping out Australis right now?
Yeah, that's the problem for Australia. It's obviously caught in the crossfire. Not really many places you can go. They could actually go down back to the other side and head east and then go out through the orange zone, but instead they put some shots down and they're going to just rotate early. That's a great disengagement and able to move on through. So now those two teams are going to have to rotate behind them, and they've already got advantage. As for FB, they know there's one on the back end here. This is the team that they lasered out. Weren't able to secure it just yet. We're going to disengage and back to the team. So again, 1907 FB staying healthy. Had a team on the top side. They're on that hill that they have to be careful of as well. But Australis wants to push out early, are now getting into the brunt of it. ATK with a great gatekeeping area in this choke point. Ultimate coming down. And Hestia trying to sweep through, getting lasered down as well. So ATK doing a great job of holding this point.
On the other side of that, all aim, no brain doing the harassing, and there was just nowhere for Australis to go. But again, more and more beneficiaries, and that means the fact that better placement points popping off from 1907 FB the longer that they can manage to string this one out. Also, ATK surviving the early games, managing to pick up a couple of points of their own, and let's be honest, this was extremely needed for these guys. Starting to get a little bit more of an idea on how many enemies are around them. You can see all the markers popping up. That's never a good feeling. Pinky already down, coming up for FB. That's not good. So instead, they want to try to res him, but you can see the throwables are coming in. Another member down. FB really needs to get something with this one, and instead, they're not going to be able to find too much. On the other side of it, Dojo Unity just bouncing around all these different sections and getting control over the centralized crater. There's a lot of strength to be had from this, as you can get a lot of different pink angles on what's going on around you. The downside of it is there's a lot of open angles also coming back into your direction, so you have to be very cautious with it. FB's last survivor trying to figure out how to go nowhere, so instead gonna get dropped down, and here we go. This is getting very interesting, as a lot of teams desperately needing points have an opportunity ahead of them.
Yeah, WRG sitting on the top side of that building outside of Lava City, staying really quiet, actually, not wasting any time, but now long range damage. The charge rifle putting down some good damage as well. But HLDC, the team that said they were disconnected, who's definitely still in it, looking really healthy. Need to be careful though with Silence coming in, trying to watch their angles and just staying passive. They've got short end of the circle, so it's going to move in a little bit slower, so don't need to push in just yet. Still plenty of time on the circle, 30 seconds before it comes in. A lot of these teams just trying to get some information, see who's nearby, but shots coming in on Yaga, and gonna go back around the corner.
Circle is pretty open, and that means that this is going to be pretty risky for a lot of these teams. Everybody's huddled around the last remaining buildings, trying to find some safety for now, but no, the fact that it is just limited. 13 seconds before everything's going to condense in, and you can see that the bridge is going to be cutting through. That's kind of the centralized point on where we're going to be moving into, and it's pretty opened up in front of you. There's a couple of different rock cliffs that you can hide behind. You can see options start to get a little bit more limited. So HLDC knows the fact that they're going to have to move, but has a team right next to them, and ATK, it's going to be right back behind them. The other two teams with a little bit freer of movements. ATK does have the high ground, is hearing what's going on, realizes the fact that footsteps are right underneath them, but can't line up a shot, and realizes the fact that if they commit to this, it's going to be risky. Instead, waiting for the zone to come in, takes a couple of shots at him, jumps up, tries to get away from this one. One member already down, and it's going to be HLDC does line up the shots into it. Now, another big hit coming out. One member up for ATK. Last one, not much to be done, but trying to put up as much of a fight as possible. You can see they do have one of their members go down, but should have time to get the res, but the third party is starting to come in. No angles of safety to be found. It's going to be White Rabbit Gaming, who's managing to find a beautiful angle into the defensive lineup that's been set up at the time. Instead, walking in, realizing the fact that they were being aggressed on, finding the angles to work with off of that one as well. Good defensive line holding up, but it is just turning chaotic in this position. Two members still up for White Rabbit Gaming, but Scares on Nero on no life. He's the last hope for his squad, looking back into this one, realizing not a lot to be had, but two members up for HLDC, realizing the opportunity is in front of them. Rez comes in the backside of this one, looking through, gonna go ahead and start mopping up the kills as it goes. Now just on the hunt for the remnants as they make their jukes around this point, trying to finally spot it out, sees him, lines it up, and there you go. HLDC managing to pick themselves up a round victory.
Actually, some really smart plays there as well towards the tail end for HNDC. Rather than going and mopping up, they know it's a 1v1 on the squad, but there's some people still crawling around. Let's pick up those kills just in case someone else got the knock. Yep. And man, what a good way to secure it. So HLDC, that's a tough fight, obviously being on the low ground there. ATK tries to initiate, they handle it well, land the better shots, and then from there, White Rabbit starts to come in as well. They put down the shield, they throw a lot of utility, and it allows them, this fight from 20 though, obviously in the highlights for a reason, able to swap those shields 2-3 times, does get one dropped by another. That's where DNMK comes in with a third party.
I mean, sure, he didn't win that fight, but that was just technical brilliance right there. Managed to survive for that long and almost manages to clutch it up. And oh, you can see this, that lineup is just nasty and utterly destructive. So massive respect to HLDC. Remember that they had the team that was closest to them in ATK right here, what we're looking at. They end up winning the entirety of this round, but whenever you're looking at it from this stage, you realize the fact that it wasn't in the best of positions. You realize the fact that they were having to contend with a lot of what was going on. This fight breaks out, but it gives HLDC time to reset and then move into this spot and then just jump into the third party that broke, or jump in and third party the fight that was breaking out after their fight with ATK. But that being said, ATK making it into the late game, you know, that has to feel good after everything that's been going on in the early game for those guys.
Yeah, but is it enough? That's going to be the real decider. Yeah. I didn't see them get too many kills. There's a couple times where they gate kept. I think it was Pat and the rest of the guys that came in from Australis that they ended up causing some difficulty to. With Hestia, I know they completely shredded when they came in. So positioning wise, they're doing a good job of like the gatekeeping side of it, but they got to find a way to get some more kills because getting in the top 5 is definitely the most important.
We've got a couple more games to go. No surprise, guys. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, go ahead and gather the scores, let the players have a quick moment. Naturally, I need something too. I need something to drink. So we will be back in just 1 second, guys. Stay tuned. Here we go. 3 more rounds remaining, and you can see GLL is bringing these together so fast. I mean, it's fitting. Whenever we got so much Octane being played, the fact that the games are coming in pretty quick as well. But Lawler, I know we've got to take a quick glance at the scoreboards before we move into the next round.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, some big matches coming out here. HLDC being the top of the leaderboard, getting the placement points and 2 squads worth of kills alongside. But looking at the scoreboard, a little bit different towards the top. You got Dojo Unity, WRG up there. You got ATK actually living because DMK doesn't decide to take that fight. But man, this left side of the leaderboard, you're getting some different faces, and I love to see it.
Most notable to me is Flying Camels over there in 15th, only picking up 1 point. But while Fibonacci does manage to pick up 9, it's still going to be neck and neck between them. And if anything, it just feels like it's going to get closer. And that's what we want to see moving into these last couple of rounds.
Yeah, this is the overall leaderboard here for Middle East and Africa. And, you know, looking at the results, it's honestly staying put. Most of the same. I will say, though, that win from HLDC puts them back in 3rd. So Australia's taking a little bit of a hit. And again, it looks like those two are going to be fighting more and more. And Dojo Unity only 5 points behind them. So 3, 4, and 5, man. I talked about how it's going to be a battle, and they're showing up.
And finally getting a little bit of distance, too. There's a break point right after Dojo Unity. It's going to be DMNK, who did finally have a chance to get some points inside that last round. But it's got to be a matter of stringing some stuff together. You got to get a victory in these last couple of rounds if you're wanting to contest in the top 5, is what it's starting to feel like. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's just a back and forth. Flying Camels versus 1907 Fibonacci. I'm trying to say that the best that I can, but sorry, I'm a little too southern, and I'm from Texas, so I know I'm murdering it. I apologize. But also,
just throw a brother at the end. That's what the
brother.
B is in. Finna brother.
Brother. All right, but that being said, I also want to say shout out to you guys. We're getting a lot of viewership for the MEA region, and so love to see the fact that you guys are getting excited about what's going on, showing support for the region. It's always good to see like different teams have the chance to showcase what they can bring and the different metas and play styles, and I think that we are 100% getting that in what we're seeing today.
Yeah, I also mentioned this. Obviously, some of these players do stream, and that's the best way to kind of showcase and show them support. Obviously, check out their socials. Make sure you drop them some love. You can also, for some of the teams that are streaming their matches, listen in on the comms and see what they're going through. If you're trying to improve yourself, it is the easiest way to kind of see that one-to-one interaction. So don't be afraid to go check them out. We do appreciate you guys all being here, but don't forget, you can also go check them out elsewhere. So with that said, we're going to be jumping in soon to our next match here. Like you said, we have 3 remaining, and ultimately seeing Flying Camels only with 1 point is kind of weird. Honestly, I did not expect that at all, because that means they didn't get any kills. None.
Well, I mean, it's a live by the sword, die by the sword style situation. If you're going to fight all the time, sometimes the fighting doesn't always go in your favor, and we saw it took a lot of teams to take them down. But HLDC, so who I've got my eyes on right now, because they have the opportunity in front of them. Can they continue to string it together? We've been seeing them fight, contest up towards the top, but if they can manage to get themselves another strong victory, you can start to see them manage to start maybe taking a couple of swings for those top 2 spots. It's an uphill battle. I'm going to be real.
Okay, the motivator.
It's an uphill battle, but there's 3 rounds left. Let's be real.
Imagine landing and you just find a gold. Oh my god, DMK, no.
Yeah. I feel this is more of what we've been seeing go on. Crawling away, 1 up. This time,
did you see who challenged him right away?
Yeah, Dojo just said, nope, we're not even going to let you make it to late game this time around. We're just going to go ahead and mess with you early. Pushed in. Not a lot of fear coming out from these guys. You can see still sitting fine on shields. They extended in, got the damage that they want. Now regrouping together. That's all I can say about these early fights.
At the same time, like, I can't imagine what DMK is feeling either. You know, they're trying to do the right thing, and ATK still just kind of looting, doing their own. So DMK, with those going knocked down, I hope those guys see those in the kill feed and are like, yo, this is a big opportunity. Let's kind of push on over, because if Tenchi's the only one that's still alive, why not abuse it?
Well, you can see he's on full on rat mode right now. He knows the fact that ATK is going to see what had happened. maybe trying to go after him. Circle is going to go up to Skyhook, which is odd because that means the fact that we don't have a roaming flying camels this time. They just are already in the zone. So instead, it's going to be HLDC and White Rabbit Gaming that are going to have to be doing the long cross all the way up to the northern parts and areas of this map. So with that being said, the fragment teams such as Dojo should be able to rotate quite easily into the next two circles.
Yeah, DMK needs to be careful though. They're actually pushing straight into two teams. I think we had 25 esports in that area pushing up as well. ATK is actually going out on a hunt as well. And with everybody having to rotate north, it's actually a really good idea to just kind of sit there and play spoiler. But with only 17 seconds here, Tenchi, if you want to get your boys, now's the time because you're not going to have any time otherwise. He's just going to have to fight for placement.
Yeah, I think consider that a lost cause. There's still, in his mind, probably two squads holding there between Dojo and ATK. And instead, just play and get what points you can maybe rat together. And, oh, no. No, this is my life right here. Whenever I'm the last member up and I'm like, okay, well, let's just try to play to survive. Nope, people are going to spot me out very early. And so now with this, guess what? It's going to be ATK to come in on the chase down with it right now. Just trying to see if they can spot this one through. And with this, it's not looking good.
No, unfortunately for him, they've got plenty of chase potential as well with the information that comes out from Bloodhound. So probably going to wrap it up for DMK. And if anything, DMK's best option here is try to find another team and cause a third party.
They lost sight on what's going on, I think. You can see 1907 FB getting a couple of shots thrown at them, as well as a quick exchange back. Looks like they managed to spot it out. Gets a little bit of damage, enough to maybe make them touch hesitant, but realize the fact that there's an opportunity to be had here. Just drops down right on top of him. That's essentially Batmaning right on top of his head. Has to be a little bit careful with it, though. Got side angles are going to be coming in to be a factor now. So where's the team coming in to provide a little bit more support? And you can see this is a very risky area to play in. It's okay. Got to be careful with that one. I thought something else was going on for a second, but just looting.
This isn't Valorant, man. I think we're all right.
Yeah, I know. Just threw me for a second. I was like, wait, is that really? Sometimes when you see people get the drop down, you get a little bit of ego.
It's more of making sure, like, that's the real thing that's happening is he's just trying to make sure he doesn't get hit in the head. He's making himself a more difficult target. Right?
I've heard this as well. Every single time I do it, that's why I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
same.
All the time. That's the benefit. If you ever get harassed about why are you doing that to those guys? It's dodging, guys, dodging.
Don't want to be a still target, man.
Most of the teams already managed to make it into the first zone, and several of them are already eyeing the second zone right now. Blind Peekers, again, early game skirmishes around them. Realize the fact that they have an opportunity to go with. Hit some good shots, but 20 has to be cautious with that one. Does get the knock on Dean, but with this, the rest of Blind Pinker is just going to go ahead and just wrap that one up. Good set, and actually kill leader at this stage already. The Blind Peekers, that's what I like to see.
Yeah, a lot of it again. 20 having a pretty clutch fight in a 1v1, able to bomb and weave. And yeah, 20's landed some pretty important shots, so good job there. On the other side, we do have Alien Cosmos. Gonna be a little bit careful. They also have flying camels around the other side and pushing in from the looks of it. Microfibers getting into that area, so a lot of shots being heard and need to be careful. 25 esports as well on the outside.
Oh, it's a jump into a jump. You can see how it goes through. 25 esports just jumps right next to the tunnel. Quick spray fire coming in, exchange between the two of them. And it's going to be a little bit more cautious as they step away from it. Realize the fact that they've got opportunities, but they also have another aggressor coming in back behind them. Guess what? Somebody hears a fight going on and realizes that they have their own chances inside of it. Jumps into this one. Flying Camels got their utilities set up, and they just charge through everything that's going on. You can see everybody running, but you can't run from a team. This is a team that loves to take jump pads. You can't leave those behind for them to contest with.
No, Atrocity doing a good job. And for them, actually, I don't know if they get that kill on Pazinski or not. It looks like they do. And one does end up bleeding out. So they're going to get a couple kills to their name here and happy about it. A lot better on the trade here. And they do get information as well up here and on the left-hand side. If they do decide to go out, there's a lot of teams that are kind of poised up. So
this is what I was expecting coming out from Flying Camels at this stage. Yeah. They've got the circle, but they're not going to be content just to sit. They're going to be running around, trying to see who's all repositioning, who's all rotating, and just trying to catch them, maybe unaware or right as soon as they start trying to set up their defensive lines. We're not seeing a lot of, I guess, true blue defenses to try to stop what's been going on with the hyper-aggressive Octane meta. Everybody's wanting to bring their own aggression instead of just trying to, like, slow it down, you know, maybe throwing up some fences or anything else along those lines. The closest that we saw was maybe somebody setting up a couple of walls with rampart, but that didn't last for too long. See, rotations coming in right now as it's going to be Dojo still harassing everybody that really moves into this area.
Yeah, you see it from Anka here. A couple good shots there. Was Bruv that had to retreat from that back end. They were the ones that were kind of put some pressure back down on flying camels.
Someone's out there.
I mean, a lot of vision, and specifically Anka is getting a lot of idea on how rotations are coming in and knows where the threats are around them. So that can help them navigate the positions that they're looking at the time. New circle is about to pop in just 1 second, so if they already have scouted that one out, haven't managed to get the information, that means the fact that they know that they're going to have to continue their trek north. So while they are down in the southeastern area, it shouldn't be the worst. And I like this. Wait for that circle to pop and then pick it up. See, this is one of the things you guys can take into your games whenever you're playing. Don't pick it up whenever there's like 10 seconds left. I see that happen so much whenever I'm playing with like randoms and stuff like that. There'll be 10 seconds left in the circle and they'll be like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and like get the information on where the next circle is. Wait it out. Now they have a better idea. They know the fact that it's going to be going skyhook. They know that they have a trek in front of them, and with the information that they got watching those rotations beforehand, they should have an idea on how to move through this safely.
Yeah, you saw the team from flying camels as well. Obviously, they're pushed down a little bit more south in that choke point. Decided to back it back up. They go straight back to home base in Skyhook. So in a good spot in the middle of the circle right now. As we have HLDC right now, WRG on the outside as well. So a couple teams fighting here. It is Bruv and HLDC though on the initiations. And a lot of shots coming out. Obviously, good job on the spectator trying to give us some information of that other team that's potentially gonna maybe come in. I don't know if they're gonna do it, but it looks like HLDC just wants to hold that angle. They're gonna go back into train station area.
It's almost better to wait for HLDC to move and then wrap in back behind them because they'll be much more contained and they don't have to push in through a closed area. See, now HLDC is going to continue on their trek forward. But again, with Octane, the moment you let somebody go, they're going to be somewhere else about a quarter of the way across the map in what feels about 10 seconds. So HLDC leaning in, trying to use, again, a very high ground information gathering stage. And it's just going to be the southern teams as we're starting to see a death funnel, specifically where you see Dojo at. The way that this Rock's setup is going to play out is going to make it very difficult for a couple of these teams. ATK is going to have to figure out how they're going to navigate this. Looks like they're going to lean into the road that's going to be up towards the north. But a lot of these teams that are around Epicenter, that are back down into Fragment, are going to have to contest with these walls and making it a very defined entrance point to where there's only about 3. And if a team does opt into really holding those points, they can net themselves a lot of kills, but could find themselves in a death funnel of too many teams and too many targets coming after them.
I will say something a little bit different here from FB is they are using a crypto as well. And in a place like Skyhook, that's actually going to be really big. You're pushing at some of these buildings with hard cover. The ability to just get rid of shields immediately is a really big opportunity. You can see that flying around here on the top side. That's what I'm kind of keeping my eye on. I don't think FB is going to be pushing anytime soon just with how many teams are left, but just getting as much information as possible. Where are these teams at? Where are they kind of bunkered into? But for OGC here, an interesting spot. They got ATK on the other side of the wall and might find themselves kind of in a hole.
Hey, but it's all Diablo. Let's be real. This guy knows how to snake something through. If anything, it looks like ATK knows where they're at, though.
Here we go.
That's its own problem. Chasing after, but you can see does have an escape route to work with. Gets a little bit of damage on there. And you think that we saw a shield break come into play, but now it's going to be how ATK wants to chase after this because they are also moving into unknown territory. So whenever you jump out of this, yes, you can potentially go after the kills, but the risk is you're still a 3-man squad. You're chasing after a weakened squad, and yes, you can get those kills with it, but the risk comes into play. You're going to jump right into Lord knows what. Instead, wait a little while, get a little bit more information. You can see a little bit of an idea on what's going to be tailing in back behind them as everybody is just trying to lean into what they consider to be the safest approach is this northern area, but that's kind of making it the most dangerous approach as there's too many teams already being stacked up in this location.
Yeah, lucky for ATK. They do push in on the team on the back end, and because of that, a little bit of zone control here. So not too many places for this other team they're fighting to go. It is Team Anka on the back end. Trying to put some shots of their own. They do have a Craver, so maybe, just maybe, they do want to take this fight. Being able to turn the tide, it's going to come down to Cake Man. It takes one shot. And it could be the entry that they're looking for. Information showing one is close. You know, that's true.
I mean, is he like a 3-tiered, like, massive cake, or is he like a birthday cake? Is he like vanilla?
I will say, like,
chocolate? Angel
Food Cake kind of like low-key goated. It's like it flies under the radar sometimes.
dude, I 100% agree. And what's great about like angel food cake is you don't need like a lot of frosting on it. It's just kind of good by itself, you
Yeah,
know?
as long as it's got some like a little bit of moisture to it, it's nice and fluffy. It's like, okay, you know what?
You
I didn't think I was gonna like this as much, but you put a little bit of like a pie filling or something with it. Mm.
you know what else is fluffy? Camels. And with as much as like they have to have
Are
the
they?
wind going through their hair with all the flying they're doing, you know it just has to be like the fluffiest of camels that we're looking at whenever we see them into the screen. But we're still seeing Anka doing this a little bit of an exchange, as you can see the gravity well is going to be coming out for them to have to contend with. But they've got the shield down, no real risk coming in with that one. 20 from Blind Peekers, getting a good outside flank onto this one, get some damage out of it. Going to reveal his position as well. So now starting to be a little bit more opportunistic in what's happening around them, realizing the fact that they have the opportunities to work with. Now they're just starting to be a little bit more aggressive, pushing them back out of this tunnel. And you can see it is just a quick retreat coming out, as there's not a lot of time to get shields up. It's just really a couple of cover points the other team has to work with. And it's just a good defensive hold coming up from the Blind Peekers, as they're just unrelenting holding this position.
Not only do they hold it well, but they also push up a little bit. So trying to get rid of some of that cover and back into open space, a lot of it well handled. And you know, I was actually curious. You say that fluffles are camels are fluffy. I actually ended up Googling it, and it talked to me about a Bactrian camel and how expensive, like how big they are and stuff. It's like
I have
7 feet tall, like 2,200 pounds. Like Jesus.
What the what?
Yeah, almost a 2-ton. It's a ton camel, bro. That's fluffy. That's a fluffy camel.
Huge. It's huge.
This is a big boy.
All right, well, Bros now getting involved in the situation as it goes, realizing the fact that this is going to be their approach as well. They know that they're going to clean out a lot. Quick, easy spray to run into that one. So Bruv being the beneficiaries of what's going on, but still have to contest and move their way forward. Going to have the zones going to be coming in back behind them in just about 10 seconds, but looks like the fact that you can see a lot of targets moving along this tunnel right now is it's just really take one down, pass it around, a new team coming in to try to do the exact same thing as happened last time. But hey, you can see he's like, I kind of want what's in here. 3 shots left, lines it up, tries to go for it, doesn't hit on the first one. Can they open the doors? If you're going to use a Kraber, that is the opportunity to get it. Slum has to reposition away from it, and you can see it's a problem. There's so many good defensive angles to hold in this tunnel. It makes it so hard to push into. Slum doing a little bit of a cheeky push onto this one, a little bit of dance back and forth, switching back over to Kraber, trying to see if they can line up the shot. Yet again, doesn't quite connect with enough to get anything out of it. Teammates doing a lot of work, and what's happening? Peek's coming up out of it, but it's back and forth as it goes. The push is now coming through. Finally, one of the members for Blind Peekers does go down, but they're holding the line quite strong, inflicting a ton of damage, and there we go. Finishes it out, holding it into position, but Blind Peekers now have to be very, very cautious when they're trying to make this retreat out of this point.
Yeah, I gotta be careful. Obviously, Blind Peekers does manage to keep Aquatic alive and is gonna bail immediately. The other side of that fight too is you're saw that player with that Kraber obviously doesn't land many of the shots, but the real problem is with only 20 some seconds left in that circle, it's like you've only got 3 shots. You gotta drop that right away. Is unfortunately for Aquatic not gonna be able to take the survival here, as OGC apparently back down to the tried and true, only 2 members, and staying alive and playing for placement.
Again, the heart on these guys to figure out ways with 2 people fighting at essentially 33% less combat effectiveness than everybody else, but somehow finding ways to make it in the late game. ATK, though, looks like they want to go ahead and get involved in what's going on over here with Flying Camels. Flying Camels microfiber should have an idea on what's going on. Everybody's holding up on the second story. ATK is playing down on the first story right now, and you can see it's a little bit risky to pick up. Oops.
He went to throw a thermal and it bonked off his own teammate and he put it on himself. Oh no.
That's not the way you want to start a fight. Luckily, the bubble does stop what's going on, but Flying Camels, I wouldn't be surprised if they may be repositioning this one. Instead, they're just braving this stairwell. A lot of times you'll see people kind of exit out, jump back down, and try to find the outside doorways because they know that they've got them clustered up against this back wall. Instead, it's just a little bit of a standoff, just looking directly into this door. Flying Camels sitting on much better shields to work with at the time. Looks like they're prepping everything up because you know the tool that they're going to want to use if they're going to take this fight. They're just waiting it out, trying to get it ready, trying to get it situated. Just look, ultimate accelerant. He's just nomming on these things right now, trying to get it prepared and ready to go. These guys, the way that they manage their inventories is just so ridiculous. They always seem to manage to have throwables ready to go, and they always seem to have ult accelerant ready to feed atrocity.
Dude, I still remember the OG days, like upon release, where it was Lifeline and just all the memes that were made about feeding accelerants to her. Like,
oh yeah,
we're kind of back to that. It's kind of a feels good moment, coming full circle.
Okay, it's about that time. I can't tell if we heard it go off just quite
Yeah,
yet.
we just did.
ATK?
Yep.
ATK should know that it's coming, though. So good
Here we
job
go.
on using the throwables, buying a little bit more time with it. And then here comes the chase running down through. Not getting the most out of it. Flying Camels is trying their hardest, finally managing to find them out. Getting in some damage to ATK. And just going to go ahead and send that one. It's going to be Arc Stars coming out and just trying to decimate whatever they can into it. Blind Camel is now firmly resetting into it, but should have done enough damage to go down and take out the weakened side of it. Instead, still pumping the brakes just a little bit more. There we go. Microfibers manages to line them all up.
Well played here. And again, Flying Camels doing a really good job of utilizing their abilities. Again, not forcing it by any means, waiting for the opportune moment. And the fact that they can sustain a fight for that long and not get punished for it benefited the building in the hard cover here. So Flying Camels in a really good position. 6 squads remaining, 17 players total. Flying Camels trying to have a good bounce back round. Only 1 point from the previous round coming from placements. And yeah, back on the kill streak.
Again, it's a prime example of how Flying Camels understand their win conditions. They were perfectly fine with letting that other team sit below them and realize the fact that all they had to do was just kind of like poke at them every once in a while to make them play defensively, wait, get up the opportunities, get the pylon ready to go, and then use that to propel themselves to get the victory inside that team fight. The problem with it is now they have to reset again. But the benefit is everybody's kind of being calm around this point. We've got a lot of, let's be honest, well-known faces. We still have FB with one member up playing inside of this position. We've got Australis over in the top position, Dojo right down below them, HLDC playing on the other side of this, and then we've got Flying Camels itself. OGC with their 2 members, always staying strong, somehow still alive based in their positioning, and no, they are a little bit on the outside of everything that's going on. You can see Flying Camels now trying to survey the new circle, and the fact that they've got about 15 seconds.
Here we
it's
go
going to be
again.
an interesting last couple of circles to look at, and say the least.
I mean, they're just waiting for the pylon. Here it goes. Here comes the engagement. Here comes the information. They had a team on the back end. It was HLDC, and immediately they go in on it. Here's the silence and a bunch of damage. Why are they making it count so well? HLDC should just know this is happening.
These guys handle aerial fights so well whenever they come into this. They know exactly how to hit the shots, how to hold the angles onto it. Flying Camels, though, in a little bit of trouble, as now you can see a lot of aggression coming back into them. Atrocity still looking back through. Microfibers does manage to get armor, gets the situation back under their control, but they do have one of their members left down back behind them and have to be very cautious. They do have the wall to work with, and remember, all the other teams are stacked on the other side of this wall and all going to have to contest against each other when they have to move. The problem with it is centralized points are not the most favorable based off of positioning. You can see it's going to be pretty wide open, and a lot of these teams, specifically Australis up at the top, can really referee these early drops.
Yeah, having that high ground advantage is really big. You also have FB inside that building. OGC possibly going to push in, and I'm curious on how this one will play out. Obviously, we are in the final circle, and still a decent amount of time for people to make those decisions, but I'm genuinely interested on how Flying Camels is going to play this. Down by 1, and yes, still applying some pressure, but they don't really have much room to work with. I think they want to delay this as much as possible, may even take a little bit of zone damage. If they can time a heal at the same time, come in a little bit late, it actually might help them a lot.
What they want is they want these other teams to have to move and fight. The problem is they're so close to the wall, they know that that's not the highest likelihood. That's why Microfibers is trying to creep his way forward, seeing if maybe he can find a little bit of a sneaky spot for them to hold out until this fight starts to break through. It's going to be Australis again, like I was talking about, with that refereeing position, these high ground points that they keep playing from. Really, they know that all these other teams are around them. They know the positioning. They just don't have the best idea on how the numbers and the situation is looking around them at the time. So they have to be very careful on how they hold this and make sure that nobody creeps up back behind them. Because, yes, sometimes teams can choose into aggressing into this high ground and really trying to dethrone them. But instead, it's just control and more control. You know, I've been talking about it a lot. You can see exactly what happens when you have this type of positioning. You can just really rein it in and force all the other teams to fight amongst themselves and find the opportunity whenever you finally want to move and really make the entirety of the game being played at your pace.
The other difficulty here for Australis is they are in the peak position. So not only do they have to worry about kind of micromanaging every single team, a lot of teams do tend to get tunnel vision. They know exactly where everybody is due to the Bloodhound. So recognizing that, hey, you know, yes, we got to keep each team at bay. As for FB in the bottom floor, I think they're pretty happy. They just got to watch their doors, their data entries, and from there, just wait for the play to develop. So we have Dojo Unity down below along with FB who's inside. Above them is we have Australis, and then on the other side you had Flying Camel. So now at this point, it looks like OGC was removed.
This is huge. All these teams are fighting for top 5 positions. Whoever walks away with the kills in this round victory is going to be massive and have an impact on the leaderboard right now. Dojo Unity is still dancing around. They do have outside control on FB's positioning. FB, though, is going to know this and going to have to contest as they make the push out. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to contend with. Australis, all the way up at the top of it, is just waiting for this fight to break down so that way they can jump down and try to get some type of angle to work around. Looks like a little bit of potential cover being thrown out in front of them so that way they have a little bit to work with whenever they have to contest against FB. But you can see Australis knows exactly what's going on, waiting for this fight to break through. FB knows the fact that they're going to have to move any moment. Here comes the bubbles coming through, and everybody is dropping in. Australis waiting till the very last moment, and they're just going to jump right into the thick of it. Quick exchanges back and forth between all of these teams as it's just vying for centralized position. FB's managing to hold it somehow, but Australis is really just dancing through this one, finding themselves a great bit of positioning.
Yeah, really well played on the tail end here. And again, that high ground coming to play. We've seen Australis do this a bunch in the past. They did it at a train station as well, where they had the high ground. They waited for the 2 engage. But the thing they do this time that I think was significantly better is the timing on those shield batteries. They waited till the last second to pop those. So when they do jump down, they have the most health they can possibly have, and they play it out well. I will say, though, obviously Flying Camels did get picked out before that last fight. That should end them roughly top 5, top 6. But for 1907 FB, that's a good job of them staying in the top 3.
And yet again, dude, El Diablo, respect.
Yeah.
2-man team, I think, also made it into the top 5. We were talking about the fact that there's reoccurring names that are happening a lot. Okay, so are we going to see how this breaks down the amount of damage it manages to get picked off? Let's see. So they're all low, and there's going to be microfibers looking back through. Yep, lines up the 1, 2, 3. Quick pick up there. And again, the aim and the security on how they play this. Like, look at the control, and they know exactly how far they can slide, the distances they can move off of this. This is a lot of homework and practice being thrown in. And while, yes, it is flashy, there is so much knowledge and experience being thrown in there.
Yeah, really difficult here. And again, this is that last fight. Waiting at the top, waiting for these two teams that have to fight, obviously coming out of the circle. That zone just ticks for so much. And it makes it a little bit too easy for Australis. They're just able to hold that positioning. They do a really good job. And credit, I want to say, to Pat specifically on that one. He did a really good job of micromanaging multiple teams, obviously having a lot of that information. He's able to throw grenades over on Flying Camels. He's able to check the backside to make sure he keeps them at bay. So doing a really good job of holding that point comes down to the fact that he's able to keep mindful of all those different teams in the area.
I mean, just overall phenomenal performance, and love to see it coming out from Australis. We know that these guys can really string it together. Such a smart team. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, give everybody time to get a drink, and we will be back in about 3 minutes. See you guys. Getting into the tail end of it, just 2 rounds remaining, and boy, we're starting to see it just be constantly contested. These top 5 teams making it into the end game over and over, with, of course, OGC. Love you guys. Just think about that. OGC playing with 2 people through almost the entirety of this event, while other people are dropping out because they're like, oh, we're not going to win. See, look at the difference. That's the difference in heart right there. That's a competitor, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a me. No, it's not to you. You're not even in here. Shout out to OGC for showing up and getting some placement points. Greatly appreciate you guys. But looking at the results here, and again, despite having the placements up at the top, 1907 keeps it relatively close. Fine Camels as well, even though they do drop out a little bit earlier in placements, they do get some kills to boot, still in 3rd. So with that said, the lead's still a little bit different, but I think this is the best part, is we do have 2 rounds remaining for everybody here today for the MEA region, but it's not out of the running yet. A lot of times in Apex, you get this one team that's just up by 50, 60, 70 points, and they're gone. You can't catch them. It's completely done for. This is not over yet. Flying Camels is not with a safety net yet. So I'm excited to see how this one plays out. It's still a battle, and Australis doing a really good job of keeping themselves in the running and building a little bit of a buffer for themselves in 3rd place.
Yeah, it's just so mixed right now. I mean, there's still opportunities, but you're starting to see that if 1907 FB wants to win this, it's going to be with a little bit more of a firefighty style. They know at this stage, we've got to get the kills. Luckily, they do have some distance between Australis, but that's where the mindset starts to get a little bit shaky, because Australis just managed to win themselves around. So now it's like, okay, if we're aggressive and we fail, we've got somebody that could be coming after us. But if we want first, we've got to get the kills the same way that we're seeing Flying Camels do it, because Flying Camels, they're not going to stop, man. They're a full can't stop, won't stop team. They got goals, and they're going to fight anything around them.
With that said, FB does bring in the crypto. I'm curious on how much that actually came into play in that last fight. The difficulty towards the tail end is you just don't get time to use it. So while they were inside of that building, obviously the difficulty is you try to make the judgment call of, as a crypto, do I go in and apply that pressure and drop an EMP on some people and see maybe that allows us to fight, or do we just hold positions? And they chose with the holding position side. Now, if they can time that at the exact same time, because they were the team that kind of came out of that building and just got walloped by the team on the outside waiting.
Yeah.
And it didn't even matter because Australis on top was just like, yeah, we got this. So it's a tough one, man.
Thank you for weakening everybody for us. We appreciate
pretty
it.
Pretty much being able to sit up top, and the only real team that could be a threat there was Flying Camels on the other side that had an angle, but high ground remains supreme, man. Always has, always will.
I mean, Obi-Wan says it best. He has control in position. Oh, and hey, FB, if you need a game, Circle's going to be going to Tree, their home territory. But on the other side of that, that means, again, roaming Flying Camels going to be all over the map hunting down kills. So FB now has a little bit of a decision-making process on how they're going to want to handle this. They know the fact that they're going to potentially want to get some kills. And HLDC and OGC, just leave them alone. HLDC, no, man. There's only 2 of them. Don't do that. And guess what? DMNK, ATK, Dojo, Fragment. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I do like the fact that as well here from Favela, a lot of room to work with. See how much they're spacing out. They're also trying to get the surrounding areas as well outside of Overlook. So a little bit dangerous for Rasha here, but I do like the idea, you know, trying to get as much loot as possible. They haven't really been challenged in quite a while. One of the teams that was challenging him decided to just stop playing. So things going well. You do have Anka free loot over the epicenter as always, and also spreading that a little bit north. So trying to kind of stretch thin their capabilities, but it looks like Astros does get back in for OGC. Hopefully Al Diablo is in here somewhere as well, and they've got a full strength.
Yeah, I mean,
There he is.
Yeah, okay, we got all 3. Hey! Again, I say it, the heart on these guys to continue to try to compete. They know the fact that, let's be real, reaching the money is not going to be the most likely thing for them. I mean, they do need to make, just a quick glance over here, about 70 points in 2 rounds to even maybe get into 5th. But the fact that they're still competing, they're still learning, they're still trying their aim against some of the best that the region has to offer. That's what you want. You want to make sure that you're picking up and you're learning more as you go. You can see this is turning into a little bit more of a cluster as teams starting to line up against each other. ATK in the thick of it always feels like they're going to be the first team either being attacked or attacked at some point. I mean, if you got your name ATK, that's what you're wanting to live by, right? So now running up the hillside, looks like they're starting to get more control on what's happening. That's going to be Rexu that they're managing to take down. So that's all aim, no brain getting spotted out fairly early.
Good shots coming out here by ATK, living up to the name, and unfortunate here for all aim, no brain. There's actually some talk going on in the chat about how Rexu may be playing his last chance here with all aim, no brain before he goes as a free agent. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't find out on the social medias. I haven't seen any talks about it, so it might be chat just saying things that chat says, but again, you just never know. So if that is the case, unfortunate for them, it could be a possible just coming to reality with it and ready to move on, but hopefully not the case. Hopefully we've given it all towards the tail end. Either way, going to be removed here early by ATK, and for the first time, it's not DMNK that is being the ones on the receiving end. So just see how that'll play out and what kind of effect it has on the north side of the map, like it has in the past, as we were tailing 20 and the rest of the crew on the backside of blind peekers.
So a lot of things can happen to the mindset of players in these penultimate games when there's just 2 of them left. You can either lean into safety and saying, okay, we've got to lean into the late game. We've got to just survive. We got to play passively, you know, don't overtake fights unless we just absolutely have to. Or the other flip side happens and that's it. Send it. Everything that moves, it must die. We need kill points. Who cares about the late game? We just need to get anything that we can and just try to scrap together as much points as possible to climb the leaderboard. And so when you end up with an almost dichotomy of mindsets that starts taking into effect. And whenever you add in something like an Octane meta that we're looking at with very just fast moving teams roaming around the map, it's going to add in another secondary factor on you see how these teams are wanting to play it. 25 already moving in, getting into this new circle down next to tree where it's going to be popping in after this one. Also, Onyx look like they're going to be getting vision on where we see FB playing. So 1907 should be getting a little bit of an eye on what's happening here in just a little while. I like the way that we're seeing how this setup is coming into play, but not the cleanest firing lines back into what would be a very strong position. So FB going to kind of let them slide in, skate into the spot right now, but looks like they might be repositioning around to maybe catch them, maybe catch the last member, because I think that they spotted 2 of them move in, so I know that there should be one more coming, or at least to see if maybe they can get an angle to get some damage into it. But Onyx already has a read on this, knows exactly where they're at, spotted him out, goes for a spray into it, gets a little bit of damage, but here's the commitment coming in. Everybody jumping back down. That means the fact that this is kind of a standoff between these two. If they can hold this one out, it'll turn it back in the favor just a little bit. Onyx now finding themselves firmly being pressed on, and oh, that's pretty bad. Already 1 member down for FB, but 1 down on Onyx's side as well. Quick exchanges go between the 2 of them. Onyx still just trying to get a little bit more information, and here comes the reinforcements. Now having finished out this outside fight, trying to gatekeep positioning onto it. And remember, this is FB's home territory. This is where they drop. This is their territory to control, and have already lost members.
Yeah, difficult spot here for FB. That's just a good read. Hidoka actually sweeping around the backside really ruined that fight for FB. You had a player up top that was going to kind of supply support and put a lot of pressure on the other angle that was kind of missed out on. But because those shots come in and they actually take them down quite a bit, it just completely kills the momentum of that fight. So well done there. Windows 7 FB though, still gonna some information and see what they can do, and this is a cheeky way to do it. So
boom, well played.
There you go, well played.
Sneaky little play here as Onyx now finding themselves on the receiving end. They managed to win 1 fight, but you can see the fact that problems are abounding. There's just enemies coming from every single door. 2 down, only 1 up. Make that none up. Onyx, he may have won the fight against FB, but they've already reset, and you're now back in the lobby.
Man, that's rough. Onyx feeling super confident after that fight. They get out pretty much FB, but then FB's like, yeah, we're back into it as if nothing ever happened. But for the other side, Alien Cosmos, the team that's been kind of sneaky in some of these games. You don't hear their name as much, but when you do, their fights have been very efficient. They come in and they wipe you relatively quick. So honestly, it's kind of interesting to see on how they've been playing. I wish we could see them play more, because for a team that's sitting in the standings right now, 14th, I watched them take fights and I'm like, yeah, you guys should be winning some of these trades. So I wonder what the reasoning is to why as to they're so low in the standings. Because when I watch them fight, the shots are clean.
Yeah, usually sometimes it could just be macro decisions that come into a factor, like rotations and the way we look at it. Onyx they fight phenomenally well, and
here we go.
It's just
here we go.
The nature of the beast at this point, just rolling in. They're like, oh, you're all the way on the other side of this bridge. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna go ahead and jump in at you. Oh, hey, look, here's some more targets. Let's see if we get some more damage into these guys and what all we can inflict onto them before we just go back and reset. Outside angle for Atrocity is also gonna get able to inflict a little bit more damage. And let's just go ahead and throw in some arc stars while we're at it. Just think about it. You've got flying camels coming in from everywhere, so many different angles while you're trying to survive, and you even manage to get damage onto them. And they just reset, ready to come in yet again. Australis trying to figure out what do we do to contest against this. Looks like they managed to get their shields back up and are just going to leave the bridge alone. They're like, that's it. You can have it. We don't want it. We'll just go ahead, leave, head back north, make a longer rotation. We just don't even want to contend with what you're bringing right now.
The other scary side of that too is, yes, they may be engaging from a certain area, but based upon that pylon placement, where exactly are they going to be attacking from when they come back into it? So a really good disengagement here from Australis, just not trying to mess with it whatsoever. Obviously, Flying Camel's a very big team that they would like to avoid, but again, they still got to rotate to the same spot. On the right side, though, you see DMNK. They kind of just weaved around Anka, where they rotated north back into the same area where Anka was rotating initially from Epicenter on the north-hand side. I don't know what kind of loot they would have found from that, because that's where Anka initially started. So they've taken their time coming into that north side and down, headed south. So will be interesting to see. Flying Camels does spot some out. They aren't as healthy when it comes to their gear as in the past, but I'm sure they'll make plenty count. They do have that ultimate backup, just spoon feeding those accelerants.
I mean, how many calories are those things a piece? Because if not, that poor remnant putting on tons of weight. You can see We do see it's going to be Australis do manage to find themselves a way to get a little bit ahead of what's going on. Flying Camels still on the hunt for this, has an idea on how they're going to be moving through. 25 Esports was caught up inside of a little fight there. Going to go ahead and flush out one, and that's going to be HLDC, who saw potential of a fight start brewing between them. And looks like 25 Esports is going to be the beneficiary of that and retreat out, and is going to get a fairly centralized position to boot.
25 Esports finding themselves in quite a few fights earlier on, but still full strength and full roster in ultimate accelerants as well. So Salem has been doing a good job of using it primarily for information, just trying to find out where people are, and obviously getting the outline makes it a little bit easier, but haven't really used it for the engagement properties. So
You can see that this is kind of the problem whenever you get a fairly centralized point. Look at how many targets you have to look at around you and the amount of approach angles that you have to just try to protect from. So you do get a lot of information, but again, it's the problem of whenever you're looking at such a high mobility comps that are going to be being brought your direction. If you don't make sure to secure every single point along the way, you could find yourself just instantly jumped on. As you can see, people bounding off in the distance over there. I'm pretty sure we're seeing a couple of rotations that go through. FB back up to a strong position right now and getting all their armor back situated to a decent point. And I don't know the entirety of the gun situation, but Team Anka looks like the fact that they're managing to get enough damage in to maybe make some type of opportunity out of this one. Instead of a little bit of a dance back, perfectly content to have the angles and the control. Now realize the fact that they've got the armors down. The question comes into play, what are they going to do with it? Very aware of the fact somebody's trying to flank back around behind them. Instead, good read on that and perfect timing coming out from this Bloodhound to have an idea of what's going to be coming through. Drops back down, perfectly controlled inside of this, just unfazed by the movements as they come into play. Orpheus does go down, but you can see not going to be a big problem. Should be able to get the res back onto it, and now has a ton of loot to make sure to get back into a stabilized position.
yeah, Devils does a really good job, obviously, with those two bubbles and just patient on the shots. Too many times people get really panicky in those moments, and DMNK able to clear out another one as well. So some of these squads starting to drop down. We are halfway through now with 10 remaining, but everybody's still at full strength.
Back here. Level 4.
Yeah, really, DMNK doing a good job of holding this through. They've done a pretty decent position. We often see this. If they can manage to get away from that fragment fiesta that's going on, they can manage to make it in the late game. They manage to secure kills. They are a force to be reckoned with. So really, it just feels like as long as you can shut them down early, then it makes it a little bit easier for everybody else in the lobby. But do note the amount of teams that we're seeing stacked up in this ATK. The perpetual opponents of DMNK holding down the points are going to be pretty close to each other, as well as Dojo. So while we didn't see an early fight between the three, there's a decent chance that we're going to see them all compressed into a similar position. Right back behind that, you can see it's also going to be Flying Camels looking back into FB's position, which could be an absolutely pivotal fight. To the south of that, we also have Astralis playing in position. So a lot of key fights. One, I would say kind of stacking up for ego and I guess the feels of feeling dominant in position. The other side, we're seeing three of the top teams all starting to get vision and lineups on.
Shots coming out, Bravo up top. Ray one does get hit pretty heavily, so just gonna back off a little bit and reload and get back into it. But Flying Camels, obviously you see the pylon dropped and gonna use that ultimate. So partially searching for just information. The other side trying to find somebody. So they do ping one out. It looks like they have someone on their radar. But shots from the other side, and they're going to double back.
Oh,
we need to be careful.
I know. You guys should know what's going on at this point. Drosty getting in some damage. You got the high ground. Not making the jump in just quite yet, but you know the fact that they got fairly separated. And here we go. It's starting to be the stack up. It's ATK versus DMNK. Looking back over in the same direction, so a couple of grenades now coming through, opening up the doorway. A very weakened DMNK has nowhere to go with this one. It's going to be ATK coming in with authority, gets control over this, and do get themselves the position. And the beneficiaries of finally getting a little bit of vengeance back onto the team that's been harassing them at the early stages. Or they're technically harassing. Who knows at this point? I don't even know how this started.
Shots inside. Guys are yet again a fun area it's been. This time in tree, very similar layouts and similar approaches to the fights, but 1907 has been in this position numerous times. Early rotation paying off, and this was the team as well. You know, they had two removed. Crypto does a great job on the revives. And a team that was down and out, and you know, Onyx thought they had the leg up. Now Onyx is gone, and 1907's fine.
They've got a new team positioned up next to him, looking over there. I like a little bit of a sneaky peek onto that one, getting a touch of damage onto him, making him think a little bit better about pushing down this hallway. I mean, whenever we've seen the geyser fights, you know the fact that these hallways are just so deadly to contest with, and so it's not geyser, but it's pretty much the same thing. Australis getting some vision on what's going on around them, taking a couple of pot shots to weaken in. It doesn't look like they're really committing to any form of push just quite yet, and that's not surprising. Still have 9 squads still alive, and so really just kind of jockeying for position and information to work with. Australis in a great point to gather a lot of that information and really get an idea on how the fights are breaking through, but realize they've got about a minute and 45 seconds before they have to move. So FB holding up this other position on the outside of this one. ATK playing the lower position with it. You can see it's going to be Dojo holding down one of the other compounds. 25 Salem, still a little bit of a high ground, I guess, capsule of themselves. I hear these buildings called so many different things. Now the questions are going to come into play. How are we going to see these teams line up against each other, as it's going to be all the teams getting stacked into very close corridors with very limited options on how to defend or attack.
Yeah, one team gone now since the last time we mentioned it. ATK just holding angles. Obviously, a lot to cover here. High ground and low ground. And they do have a spare Evo shield up top. So a quick swap, maybe allowing them to be a bit more aggressive. Grenade around the corner and just holding the angle. That's an even better one. And they're going to have to back off.
I do like the use of throwables that we see coming out, trying to bounce them around the corners, doing a little bit of geometry to see if they get something beneficial. ATK, though, have themselves a fortress upstairs, so if anybody tries to come up here, they're going to have to contend with a lot of armor swap potentials coming into play. Problem with it is they do have the wide window back behind them. You can see a couple of harassment shots come through, but they also do have this nice wide angles. That way they're just looking straight down to make sure anybody that approaches into them, they've got control. Because if you notice the way that the circle is set up in 25 seconds, they're going to be in a very hazardous position, and they know the fact that they're going to be right along the edge of the zone. Again, other teams just kind of bouncing, leapfrogging through the different little bit of cover that they have to work with right now, trying to see if they can find anything. Flying Camels realizing the fact that they don't have a lot of real opportunities to jump in because everybody's just kind of huddled up inside these huts.
Yeah, still playing a little bit more passive on it. They don't really have to force anything, which is fine. Honestly, this could be an opportunity for Flying Camels too, even though they've been aggressive. Use that aggression in a more passive approach. Obviously, the ultimate now wearing off, so again, gonna eat those accelerants to the heart's content and wait probably a little bit for that to come back in if they can. The other side of it as well is they are still safe in the zone with high ground. So depending on how we see these teams come in, we've got Bruv underneath, you've got ATK in there, you've also got Dojo Unity in there, and Pinky Finky and the guys up top. So about 4 or 5 teams all in a pretty close proximity. No need to really force it here. I think, quite honestly, Flying Camels is probably in the best position for not only for placement, which is probably more points they're going to get anyway, to just kind of wait this one out and play spoiler.
This is pretty much everybody all stacked up on top of each other, with the exception of Flying Camels and FB. So whenever we look at how everything's stacking up, it's ATK that's still holding up that upstairs area. Now they don't have to be so worried about that wide open window. Maybe just maybe have to be a little bit cautious about throwables, but you have to hit a really good toss into that one. Playing a little bit of peekaboo, you know, open the door, take a shot, close the door, you know, a little bit back and forth. Up, they lost their door, and that's going to make ATK's life a little bit more difficult. And oh, look, everybody is just getting jostled around and bounced in as we're seeing the gravity wells come into effect. ATK is still up on the top of it, though, so not really too worried just quite yet, but that's a I don't want to say a waste, but it's definitely enough to make everybody's butt clenches up, but no real casualties coming out of it.
Yeah, why so as well, obviously. Now that they don't have to worry about that backside being shot at from the window, you know, he's got a Mastiff just aiming at those stairs. And I think on that Evo shield, it only needs a little bit over 100 damage to level it up. So again, Flying Camels and stuff, I think this one's going to more so come down to the fact of how this is going to rotate out. Everybody having to go back over to the other side. I think that's where FB was. So again, a weird rotation for a lot of these teams.
1907, really the only ones that inside the zone as of right now, fairly centralized. You can see what they're looking at. They already know how the approaches are probably going to be coming. They just have to keep an awareness on what's going on back inside the Capsule Corporation, back over there where there's so many buildings stacked up into that point. Flying Camels catching a little bit of airtime off in the distance. Looks like they've spotted out an enemy that's going to be around point. First team to going to be leaving the capsule is going to be stepping up, going to be getting into FB's positioning, very aware of it. Bubble's going to be coming out, and it looks like we're starting to get segmented fights happening around different areas of the map. FB is doing a great job of defending up. Pinky Pinky takes a ton of damage, still up and active at this stage, doing a good job of just using the windows to provide enough support for it, realizing how they're going to be jumping through. One member down, it's going to be Pinky Pinky, but still going to hold the line up off of this one. So now just having to contest against all the other teams that should be following along the corridor with it. Quick Res is trying to come out through it. Another member from 1907 going down, and they're just all stacked up on top of each other, trying to use this little bit of an area, but it just peeks through the windows. It's doing a ton of damage, and there we go. It's going to be FB going down early. Anka's on the outside, gets vision on what's going on, but it is just skirmish upon skirmish. Everybody's revealing position, and it's just two teams lined up against each other. Flying Camels got their stack. They know their win conditions, and they're trying to use it. They know exactly where Anka is at. It's a back and forth battle between the two, just trying to use cover and line up and get more damage. Bubbles are going to come out from the defending side of this one, so now it's going to be Flying Camels to be the assertion, trying to make sure the fact that they can get the dominant positions around this. Microfiber still holding the outside position onto it, trying to hold the angle and feed information back over towards the teammates, but it has slowed down just a touch as it's just really back and forth trying to open it up. You can see Atrocity's got to get his meds back into a much healthier position, but it's going to be Demos and Orpheus realizing the fact that they might have an opportunity against Microfibers, getting a good line, good beat onto him, taking down the armor pretty decently onto it. Shields on to near on nothing for Microfibers, having to retreat away. Atrocity did manage to get up a little bit more of his health, but now Microfibers relaying that information, gets his shields back up, and it's going to be a fight around the pipe to finish this one out. Nice wide peak coming in. Orpheus takes a lot of damage off of it. Desmos has to be super careful, does go down. Flying Camels gets the opening knock onto it, and realizing this is their opportunity, steps in, takes it with authority. Flying Camels getting themselves yet another round victory.
Big play here. Obviously, 1907 getting brought down by ATK on the back end there. But a lot of the play coming out between those two teams was just, I thought Cakeman had a great idea. He repositions well over to his teammate, gives a good support on that side, vies for a little bit of time. But again, it's just that silence comes in. They approach well, and then Flying Camels just outshoots the other team. So really well done on that back end, as this game was quite honestly all over the place.
I mean, we're starting to see the variances that I expected to see earlier with the teams and everything that's going on around Fragment and getting that separation out. And that's leading to different fights than what we've been seeing, as now we have teams like Demon K being much more active in these stages because naturally they're alive. Seeing ATK managing to make pushes into the late game, and yeah, to get, I mean, these two teams, man, no matter where we go, they're always going to find each other. They're always going to be after each other to try to kill each other. FB had themselves a good position, not being one of the teams that was inside the compound of death, but actually ends up being on the receiving end of all of the death.
Yeah, it was a really tough spot too for Bravo on the back end. They're obviously having to sit on the outside with Zone pushing them in, and then you got FB inside, and even Flying Camels gets involved a little bit. So it was just kind of that domino effect of, at this point, there's nowhere else for us to go, so you got to get out, and we're going to remove you. So yeah, a difficult situation obviously on the back end there, but Flying Camels again with 1907 also pushing in that same spot. You have to make these rounds count. We have one more left, and honestly, when we look at these results, I'm interested to see on just how close it really is,
because it's going to be so hard. FB, they have their work cut out for them. We are going to take a very quick break, guys. Let everybody reset, get their mentals back, discuss whatever they need to change, because there is one round left. Don't go anywhere, and see you in about 3 minutes. And here we are, one game remaining, and man, it has been bloody high-speed action all across everything. These guys have been playing their hearts out. We've seen teams just struggling, even with just 2 members, still just trying to strive their way through this, but we've been repeatedly seeing the same names in these last couple of rounds. Lawler, what we got whenever we look at the leaderboard.
Yeah, you talk about some of the same names, and again, a couple big ones at the top here. But the one that took it actually was Team Anka with those points in placement. I think that's just due to a little bit of alphabetical order love, but Flying Camels actually with the placement, taking first place in placements as well as 6 kills. But we all know we want to give some love to those with more kills. So Anka on top, ATK as well with 9, so some big points there. But right behind them, 1907 FB. So keeping it close, but despite that, double the points for Flying Camels. So Flying Camels honestly looking pretty poised to take the whole thing, as long as we don't see 1907 FB pop off and have like a 30-some point game. So again, it's going to come down to this last one. You can't really count anything out, but I expect our observers and spectators to put a big emphasis on watching these top 2, just to make sure that if someone does get dropped early, we know kind of how things are going to break down. So I'll try to keep tabs on that to the best of my ability throughout the game. I'll have a pretty close eye on my other monitor with all these points and trying to do some manual math, which caster math is always kind of scary, but I'm feeling pretty confident. I think we'll be all right.
I'm pretty good with caster math until they start throwing in all the letters, and then that's whenever I get thrown. DMNK, bruv, opportunities. I mean, we saw DMNK. They can win rounds. They won several yesterday, but they have to get separation out from that early game. Dojo Unity wants to make sure that they keep that containment going on. They want those kills onto DMNK very, very early, but Australis is a team that I'm pleasantly surprised to find continuing to climb the leaderboard now in a firmly cemented third place with a little bit of a drop off back behind them. And I think, again, it just comes down to the way that they navigate fights. It's just beautiful to watch because, again, they're very quick to react whenever they realize that they have an opportunity, but at the same time they are safer than Flying Camel's play styles. It's more about like high ground control, more about getting into positionals, whereas Flying Camels is about getting in your face.
Yeah, I want to say like credit obviously in big shout outs to Australis based upon their performance. You want to talk about consistency. The very first round of the day doesn't go too amazing in regards to kill side, but it's still like they put up a ton of points. They put up obviously first for placement with 12 kills, which again is definitely on the higher end, but for some of the teams that have been really able to carry it through, not as much as you would think, but you're still talking what? First place, fourth, third, eighth, fourth, first. Like they've been placing really well. They've never not placed like their worst placement is eighth. Honestly, that's incredible. All of these but one are top four. All of these but one. So yeah, there's a big reason they're jumping up. So Australis, some consistency, making up a lot of ground, and that's exactly the type of day you need to have on the second day. So Australis crushing it right now.
On the flip side of that, it's been FB managing to make it into the later stages. With 1907, they do manage to make it in the late game, but it's not with the same authority that we saw yesterday. I mean, whenever they managed to make it into the late game beforehand, they were stacking up a ton of kills. They were very aggressive in the later stages. I mean, it was just a dominant showing coming out from them. And if anything, it feels like a little bit more hesitant today.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that one. And I think it's just they recognize that the position they're in, and there is some teams that kind of let off the gas a little bit. Flying Camels obviously having the opposite approach. They realized, I think, very early on, especially after the first round, hey guys, we can't keep doing what we did yesterday. It's not going to work. We got to get aggressive. I think kills are our factor, but I will say they are mixing up the team composition. They are getting and retiring Revenant, and for the last one, they're going to play and bring in a Horizon. So excited to see on what kind of differing impact this has in their playstyle. I do think it's a little bit safer, and they're going to be playing more so for positioning, obviously, because of that. Because at this point, I think they've got as many kills as they want, and they know as long as we place well, we're going to be fine. But it's Dojo Unity, an early push up high.
They're wanting this when they're stepping through. That's a down on both sides with it. Dojo Unity no longer content to just let everything happen and then swoop in and take it out towards the end. They're coming in the earlier stages, and they're getting involved in this.
Yeah, you need to be careful, obviously, though. And they approached that relatively well. A couple good shots here and using that cover angle. But again, we go back to our favorite two. We've got DNMK and most likely ATK fighting here again in Fragment. So
this is Dojo's compound. This is the one that we just saw them take a fight in just a second ago. So Dojo stepped into this, and now it's DMNK that are going to be the third party stepping into this point. So now a little bit of a role reversal with Dojo making the first step into this.
Really doing a good job giving them some information. No, they're on the stairs, so probably going to retreat, go down a little bit more, have some time to work with here. But shots coming out, Dojo Unity getting threatened elsewhere. And drop down, that's one and a half, make it two. Now Data's the only one left. And just gonna completely retreat.
Remember, it's top 5 for money. Data is the last one up for his squad and holding down that 5th place position. He has got to stay alive to make sure that they secure themselves at least some type of points in this. So Dojo Unity steps in, takes the early fight, but now you can see on full-on retreat now as DMNK finally getting the vengeance back on the team that regularly harassed them after the ATK fight.
Again, for those that do not remember, prize pool top 5. We're playing for $5,000. First place ticket $2,500, second $1,000, third $700, fourth $500, and fifth $300. So again, trying to get in the money, at least guarantee at least $100 per player in that 5th place spot. But Tough spot here for Dojo. Like you said, they are in 5th place at 117 points, only 2 points behind HLDC, who have 119 in 4th place. So again, 2 points separating $200. That's quite a bit. So 25 esports now getting in the involvement as well. They're sitting at 90 points, need a big game here. And that's where you're going to start to see some chaos here in the 8th and final round. A lot of teams very aggressive, needing points, and it can completely skew everything in a weird direction.
There's just so much happening. Once you hear the Revenant ult being popped, it's just people jumping in all over the place. 25 esports still just trying to commit into this one. It's going to be 1907 on the other side. Here's what's going on. Bringing in a Revenant of their own. So that's just the meta now. I guess it's just Revenant and Octane jump in on anything that's taking shots. Third party, everything around you. 1907 coming in with the firepower, taking down one of the members for White Rabbit Gaming. And now going to go ahead, spot out another one down. Going to go ahead and get flush on what's going on there. And that's going to be 25. TRDZ in positioning, so taking on multiple teams and picking up the scraps on the damaged teams around them, just trying to line up more kills because they know that they need it. If they're going to contest against Flying Camels is going to be fighting everything, so they need to as well.
Yep, gonna back on out, and here again, trying to fight some more. They've got a team that's actually retreating, and a lot of these players, I think it was Pinky, was only like a couple shots away from leveling up that Evo. So again, the aggressor, as always, a little bit of high ground, seeing if they can find where they're going to remove this player and get some points as they chase down the remaining. Here's another one. Good shots coming out, and that combo has been lethal. The Volt into the P2020, just absolutely shredding kids.
Well, this is the way to start it right now. 1907 Fibonacci. If you feel like you can have the opportunity to get first, you have got to get these kills early, and that is exactly what they're doing. They realize what they need to be doing. ATK Chambi is in a little bit of trouble trying to juke out those bullets as he runs away. Already lost all of his shield and most of his health. Going to go ahead and get back away from this, and so now you can see the rest of the members trying to provide a little bit more support, throwing down the bubble, but he has a quick escape. He is just running away from his teammates like, no, we don't want this. Let's get out of this position. And you can see it's a lot of cluster as everybody is just trying to navigate their own path to make their rotation inside the safe zone.
Anka came down pretty early here from Epicenter and has rotated to the southeast. That's actually been why a lot of the times in these rotations that when DNMK ends up going north past, they just kind of skate past each other. So again, fights coming out. Teams trying to battle, trying to find some of these kills, obviously trying to make up as much ground as possible, needing all the kills they possibly can, which has made MEA look even more aggressive than normal, which, again, you and I love in absolutely every minute of it.
Hostile over there.
A lot of positions, not a whole lot going on.
Starting to get the lineup into this one. You can see Onyx now making their approach in, trying to get a feel for what's happening around their positionals. Dodging out a little bit as they go. You can see making sure to keep the head on the swivel as they make the rotation. So with the circle being fairly centered, sorting factory and harvester being kind of the main points to play. Do note that Dojo is still alive and has managed to move into a fairly centralized point. So trying to net what points they can. 1907 though, going to have a little bit of new friends that are coming over to say hi in just 1 second.
They're holding the angle, they can hear it, and here we go. Shots coming out of Octane, already laser down, making another one. My goodness, Draconian with a laser beam of a shot. Not a whole lot they can do. Obviously, they want to finish off this team, and they do just that. That's another squad wipe and a bunch more kills here for FB.
Respect, bruv. You guys have been fighting your way through the mid game, your hardest, but that's going to be the end of your last round. 11 squads still remaining. 1907 still trying to get kill upon kill, and I like this. We're starting to see innovative trap setups, realizing how rotations are going to come into play, and waiting for teams to move around them. If you want to safely try to make sure that you make it into the end game while picking up as many kills as possible, sure, you can play it like whenever you're looking at Flying Camels, but there's a lot of risk in that one. Instead, setting up these traps, that's where you're going to see the benefits coming into play. Speaking of Flying Camels, looks like they've got their eyes set on some new targets.
And Flying Camels being aggressive as well. They've got to be noticing that kill feed too. Obviously 1907 being nice and aggressive. They do have a bit of a buffer, and placement I think will outweigh just about anything the other team does. But still, you don't want to leave it to that chance. Obviously Flying Camels playing their best when aggressive. And when you got a team like 1907 as well playing aggressive as they are, they're warmed up, they're ready to go. So when those fights do happen, they're in a better position. And if Flying Camels hasn't been taking any shots beforehand, obviously 8 games in, they should be plenty fine, but kind of feeling a little on edge sometimes. So ATK still alive, surprisingly enough. And on the top side here, you see
Meanwhile,
20 and the rest of blind peekers.
DMK in a fight. It's just, even if these two teams don't kill each other early, it's just going back and forth between everything that's happening. They seem to be involved in every fight that follows through from this. 20, you can see the rest of the crew getting a little bit of a lineup. FV on the chase right now, right back behind Flying Camels. If Flying Camels chooses to jump into these couple of members of DMK, we might see FB being prepared to maybe third party into this one. So Flying Camels always looking forward, might have a little bit of trouble coming in from back behind them. They need to take this fight fairly quickly. Luckily, that's the way the Camels like to play it. Now, it's a little bit of vision coming back from behind them, realizing the fact that there is something going on, and this could be the fight, the defining fight to figure out who gets first. Repositioning is coming on both sides. See a little bit of a lineup. Atrocity already down. No shields to work with. Instead, moving into low ground, trying to get a little bit more cover to work with. Flying Camels repositioning, trying to use the road to buy a little bit more vision to make sure nobody's flanking around them. A lot of damage coming into Microfibers, though. He has to retreat from the position, align in with his teammates. You can see a bubble on the other side of it, trying to get a little bit more defensive setups. But Flying Camels seeing a little bit of an opportunity to work with, starting to get aggressive into it. Jumps are coming through. Good spray into that one to follow through on top of it. But now reinforcements coming in from back behind. Flying Camels realizing the fact that they might have the numbers to work with. And that is a ton of damage into FB. And all three members dead. That's the end of the FB run, and it is going to be Flying Camels now sitting at the top of the leaderboard, feeling feisty.
That's a fantastic play from Flying Camels, and what a great way to secure what is essentially the #1 spot. But now it's about making a statement. How much further can they increase this lead? As for the other side, Australis, that is the team that is within striking range. They got to look out for HLDC below them. And if they can somehow manage to get, what is 39 points, 29 points, maybe, just maybe they can get in. Also, we've got a rat that is hiding. It is Dojo Unity's data. We talked about the last one, and you've been spotted, bud. Time to run.
Uh-oh. Can he hold out? 10 squads left, trying to dance, and there we go. Dojo's run is done as well. And boy, they were quick to pick up that loot. They just pounced on that corpse.
Yeah, it's a really good play here by SC and the crew, obviously. Trying to see what they can do on the back end here. Obviously wanting some more points for themselves as well.
I mean, FB going down early is an opportunity for them as well. There was a pretty hefty lead, and now it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a lineup between another set of contenders here as Flying Camel's getting a little bit of vision on what's going on as Pat's dancing around the building right there. ATK's on the other side of it, and this is a awkward position is there's going to be a lot of teams playing around the choke, and you can see just whenever we lost it for just a second, we just saw kind of how hard it is to spot out what's going on. Atrocity, though, got goals, man. Atrocity's like, all right, we've taken down the first team to really mess with us. Let's go ahead and push into this one. And you can see right as soon as they step in, another squad's like, we already know what's happening. We know what's coming our way. Hesty and the rest of the crew, they're like, nope. We know the fact that we need to secure points. Astralis is not wanting to take this fight at this stage.
Australis getting good positioning.
Shall we head this way?
ATK on the top side, probably going to go back for high ground. It's a good choice here by Champion to rotate back around, but it is Flying Camels nearby. Seeing if there's anybody in this building. And there's a bunch of people already down. This is actually really bad for everybody else. As Microfiber picks up one on the backside, it is Anka on the receiving end, and with 2 down inside, should pretty much call it. Cutting off another team, man. That's a lot of attention coming over to Flying Camels, and honestly, I think they welcome it.
Look at those peaks back. Doesn't even care about the bullets coming their way. Nice plays coming up from everybody on Flying Camels. Do manage to get their way inside the safe zone, just a little bit further to go, but these guys aren't content to rest on their laurels. They know that there's more killing to be had, and these guys have goals and a statement that they want to make. They want to see exactly how high a Flying Camel can go. So blind peekers back behind this got a little bit of information, and they're playing the far north and should be aware of a lot of the rotations that come through. You can see markers coming up from them depending on how this goes, and it's gonna be ATK that's on the other side of it trying to figure out how they're going to navigate. They do have a little bit of a safe zone that they can play for themselves right now, but there's so little information to be gathered. This is really just kind of more what you often see is like damage control spots. Very aware of the fact that you've got enemies around you, as you can see that they are looking at, but they're kind of cornered. To the north, there's already a team that's gatekeeping them, and to the south, they've got another team that's potentially going to be messing with them as well. So instead, just leaning into the sliver of safe zone that they've got to work with.
His blind peekers on the other side. 20 has obviously shown individual efforts quite a bit this tournament. But again, trying to retreat a little bit. Obviously, it gives a little bit of push and pull, but they got to get into the zone themselves. And it's just a matter of how long do they want to keep this team out. At the same time, they got to be careful on their other side. You know, if someone gets into that compound before they do, it could lead to a lot of trouble. It looks like we're headed back to Geyser yet again. We've seen a lot of fun fights, high ground and low ground, as well as everybody else all over the place. And unfortunately for Camels, no Revenant this time, so not going to be able to be as aggressive as they were last time they won it. But HLDC still in the running. This is the team right now currently in 4th place, and with Dojo Unity knocked out, trying to further that degree. You've also got DNMK, 94 points, down by quite a bit, behind in 6th place, trying to bump out Dojo Unity. So you're talking, if they take first, that's 12 points. That cuts the gap in half, but they need a whole lot more kills. And sitting in this compound, just, I honestly don't think is going to be good enough. So going to be curious on how they decide to play this. HLDC just kind of roaming around, peeking their angles, not wasting too much time. Zone coming in, trying to make sure that nobody attacks from their flank.
Yeah, a good read onto this, establishing control of a corridor that somebody could be approaching onto. And just like you were talking about with the Astralis, they have good positioning, but there's not a lot of targets really left. And out of those targets, there's some threats to really contend with. HLDC is a ridiculously strong team, as well as we still have the Flying Camels running with their 2 members off to the side over there. DMNK is on the other side of their positioning, so while they do have a lot of threats next to them and the potential to get a lot of kills, it's just like you're saying, I don't know if they've been able to string together enough to really contest up against where 1907 Fibonacci have managed to finish up at, but there still is the opportunity for it. They know the fact that they have positioning. It's just a matter of, can they handle what's all going to be thrown at them, because look at how many teams are starting to step up and vie against their position. Oh,
For Flying Camels, though, they do go back into the zone. They pick him back up. So again, able to make something happen here. Flying Camels really trying to run away with this one. That initial fight with 1907 FB, they do win out, and it's like, okay, closing out here, but again, not playing it lax, not playing it dumb either, you know, checking their angles, playing it smart, reason why they're in the position the way they are. But they got ATK on the back side, and a couple shots coming out, not able to land anything. If anything, I would not be surprised if 1907, or not 1907, but Flying Camels decides to re-engage after Foz gets all of his stuff back.
Well, they had been holding down this position for a while, so unfortunately for everybody else, that means the fact that they have some options to work around. Do you know the fact on what Atrocity is playing right now, though? A little bit of a mix-up from what we've been seeing, all things considered. Did they make that switch last round, or is that just for this round?
No, this I mentioned that at the very beginning of this, how he went back to the Horizon, obviously trying to play for a bit more placement, and benefit of the Horizon is the positioning. So yeah, again, trying to get some of these team fights together, high ground being used in a different angle of approach. But now here's that aggression we were talking about. But that Gibraltar bubble, absolutely clutch for one of the teams until it comes out. You've already got Microfibers down and possibly another one with Atrocity, but need to be careful. It's going to be up to Foz. This is the player that got revived and brought back to give them a chance. But shots, the last one left, somehow able to get out of it. And now Alien Cosmos deciding to get involved too.
Oh, it's turning into a party off to the side of this one. You can see Flying Camels just trying to get away, going for a long roundabout approach to make it into the safe zone. Just trying to squeeze their way in through there, but no, it's going to be Atrocity, the last one up. And now more opportunities starting to mount up for Astralis, but the problem is none of the fights are happening near them, so they can't pick up these kills. It's all the fights that are happening around what's going on. Alien Cosmos now getting a read of what's happening inside the safe zone itself, realizing where the positionals are coming into play, setting it up, almost got vision onto it, and I like that. Wait for them to land, but narrowly misses it. They do have themselves a jump pad ready to execute if they find themselves an opportunity to go in. Get some damage off of it, not a lot to really kick everything off. Still 7 squads holding down inside this tiny circle.
A little bit interesting choice here by Akash. Obviously, probably trying to utilize that Kraber shot, but long range with the Mastiff. Yes, it's 11 damage, but you had a guy on top in open field. Probably could have taken a shot and, you know, removed that. But, you know, man, you do you. I'm just here talking about it.
Alien Cosmos, I like the place that Alien Cosmos is playing right now. It gives them a lot of opportunities versus, I don't know, the rough neighborhood you can see kind of being stacked up inside of this positioning right now. Astralis on the other side of this one, you can see that they're having to be very cautious and control of doors, both doors blown out, so it's predominantly a peak battle back and forth as anybody steps down to get a little bit more information. That also does deny a lot of knowledge on what's happening around, as both of these teams are kind of hunkered down into this position. It's not like teams such as right now what we're looking at HLDC, who's got this outside position that can really get information and the patience to come in, tries to go for the shot, still goes a little bit wide. Oh, hey, he does manage to connect with a little bit there. So now it's just waiting it through right along the edge, and good gatekeeping position coming out from HLDC.
Yeah, good shot with the Kraber. Does end up being a headshot, so knocks one down. Trying to get some Arc Stars damage on the other team, but the team does do a pretty solid job of response to fend off the attack if they want to engage with that entry frag. So again, you do have some hiding underneath and just kind of buying time, waiting it out. Shots coming in. This was a team with Hestia and the rest of the crew from Australis finally getting involved here a little bit in some of these engagements. Obviously, that door being closed, that could be dangerous on the back end. And now pinched in between two, needing to be careful. They do wipe one, and now it's back on the other side. They try to push forward and keep this team off. And Australis doing a really good job to keep themselves in this.
The way that they navigate these fights is always so smart, and I love to watch how that they play through this. Great awareness to just go ahead and commit in the fight on one side, seize opportunities, and just constantly taking everything that they can from this. No fights were really happening around them. Instead, all the fights got brought to them, and they're managing to pick up the kills with it. The question is going to come into play. Is it going to be enough to chase down 1907 Mirachi in their positioning in that second place? Australis wants it. You know the fact that it would be a great statement to come in and make that establishing point. We're at 4 squads still remaining. HLDC still holding the high ground, still just watching everything as it goes. Bring in some caution. There you go. Hit him for 145. Make him instantly retreat, bubble down off of it. And look at this. He's just got vision on everything that's going on.
Still only a couple more shots left before having to get up in there with the Eva. 2 shots remaining. Gotta make them count. Obviously, with the team that wants to engage, you got one inside with hard cover. It's still Australis doing a really good job. You've got another team on the backside on the south end as well, with some good angles from up high. But with no doors pretty much in any of these, and what it looks like a possible crypto dropping that EMP, it could be a good engagement.
See, now HLDC with all the vision, all the knowledge and what's going on, waiting for the opportunities as they present themselves. Demon K trying to make a little bit of a crossover there. You can see holding down positionings, but HLDC just has so much to work with. You can see the center of the circle is going to be outside of this compound that everybody's been playing around, just trying to hide into cover, and yet again, a good connecting shot. These guys, they just have everything pincered down into point. Oh, man, that was rough.
Still another Kraber on their side. A lot of damage output here for HLDC.
I mean, what do? There's crossfire and Krabers, man. Like, this is just dance around.
There it is.
There you go. That hurts. There's just nowhere to be had off of this one. HLDC waiting for the fight to break out in front of them. They know that these guys got to stack up on top of each other. All the damage that they get from that now is just gravy to be had. So with this, Australis taking the fight now in the inside of this, starting to get pinched around different points, doing a little bit of a jock around from position, but instantly flips back around to a new point. HLDC realizing the opportunity, now moving into the window to try to hold it out. Hestia has to be careful getting into the zone damage portion of this. These now teams are having to stack upon point, but you can see it's all about HLDC just waiting for this to break down, stepping away, but might have overextended just a little bit. A lot of damage now coming back over into them, having to retreat out of position. You see Devonaway now taking a lot off of it, and it's been still a very back and forth fight, as it looks like everybody on Australis is instead going to circle around out the back entrance, come through a new doorway, and still sitting on halfway decent shields and health to work with. Instead, finding themselves a rock, and it's going to be teams jumping into them. Quick down coming into play. Another exchange, and Australis does go down, but it's going to be HLDC up at the high ground point, looking down into the rock and absolutely ripping them into shreds, taking our final round.
That is a big round for HLDC. Unfortunately for them, Australis is also the one ahead of them by 20 points. So depending on the placement and how everything else plays out, they're going to need a lot of kills to make this one up. So we're going to buy some time for you guys as we take a look at the highlights and everything else. And while we've got admins in the back counting up the point totals, I'm really curious to see. I think we're pretty solidified. Camel's in first, FB in second, but everything below there, I talked about those 3 spots, 3, 4, and 5 were up for grabs, and each one of those teams has some pretty big impact. But the big one that really opens up is Dojo dropping a little bit earlier than expected.
that becomes a question. How long did their solo manage to survive? Did he manage to pick up enough or anything out of it to maybe help them secure that 5th place spot? Because remember, I know we've been talking about it, guys. Top 5 get the money, and that's what we really got our eyes drawn into right now. The statement of how high, how many points can the Flying Camels get, and the just dominance that they were bringing in and everything that was happening around them. Again, HLDC and that crossfire and everything that was going on was just rough for everybody that was having to fight inside these compounds.
Yeah, really tough spot, but Australis does a really good job. You talk about the way that they calculated how they want to push and committing to one side, removing that threat, and then being able to go back. Obviously, the bubble, you can't really push into it. It's a little bit of hesitation, and they use that time to just do the opposite. Hey, this is going to be our temporary wall of defense. We're going to go take out this other team real quick and then go back the other way. So really good micromanagement from them. It allows them to push forward in that spot. I assume it will allow them to stay in position, but again, it all depends on those kills from HLDC. Staying to the end, a little bit extra in the placement. You just never know.
I'm going to say this to everybody that competed and stuck through every single one of the rounds, even if you knew you weren't going to make it into the top 5. Massive respect to you and your squad. Again, a big shout out to like our team OGC, who was regularly having to face just not having the numbers, but still had the heart of a competitor, staying inside this. Every single one of these teams put on a massive, one hell of a show for you guys. So make sure that you guys give them some love on social media. Even if they didn't win it, just make sure to show support as you can. Give them a follow on social media. Catch them as they're streaming. Any of these things, so that way you can just show support to help grow more and more for this region.
Yeah, also massive thanks to everybody in chat. Obviously, MEA is a region. Very exciting, a little bit chaotic and all over the place, but as a caster, you absolutely love it because it is, like you said, fun. So for everybody in chat who's been spamming emos for their teams, or even if your teams got eliminated or out of the running early and you stuck around, we do greatly appreciate it. So I'm excited to see these results when they end up coming through. But if you had to give me an early prediction, what do you have for our top 5?
Ooh, off the top of my head, I'm starting to feel like naturally it's going to be Flying Camels at the top, 1907 back behind that. I don't think the fact that we saw Australis manage to pick up enough. This is where it starts to get a little bit more crazy whenever we look at the overall scores and the leaderboard and regarding how everything was kind of positioned at. I kind of glance back at where we were looking at before this round to see if I can get a feel for where everybody was positioned. And I don't know, HLDC managed to make it in the late game. I think that they're still probably going to hold down 4th, and DMK went out early. I think that we're still looking at Dojo Unity holding down 5th as well.
Yeah, you know, as it comes down to the wire, you know, that fight between Camels and FBN, I was just like, oh, this could be the turning point. You know, this could really open up some opportunities, but, you know, Camels coming out on top, and you're just like, okay, that closes out that. And then with both teams in 3-4, you know, kind of being in that end game, it puts them out of space for Dojo. So Dojo dropping, the only thing I can possibly see is if DMK managed to, you know, frag out, but I didn't really see that in the kill feed. So I think our spots are going to stay solidified for the money. As uneventful as that may be for some, it is also credit as to the fact that these teams are performing consistently in those spots. So credit's where it's due, but hopefully we're wrong. Honestly, I'm always up for some mix up, but
we are casters.
Exactly. We won't know
casters
exactly
are bad at math, so no telling what we screwed up.
I think we're feeling pretty confident on this one.
We're feeling pretty good about it, but who knows at this point? we can make mistakes, but also make sure, guys, this is your last chance. Get in some chat spams on this one. Make sure to show your support to your teams. Give them some love. Also, shout out other players. You know, we were talking about Rexu and what was going on with him and how it might be switched up. Make sure that way other people know who to follow, who's good streamers, everything else like that. This is a great opportunity for the entirety of the region to show support for these guys, because I know that I'm going to be glancing at a couple of these streams now to see these guys are nuts to watch. And I mean, it's just, again, I made the joke already, but it's just such high octane action. I love to watch it. I love playing Octane. So it's good to see him getting so much love here.
Yeah, out of curiosity, obviously we talk about like some standout performers. Any in mind that really stick out to you? Mine, obviously, 20 has had some pretty big moments as well. I think you can talk about obviously the easy ones over on like Flying Camels. You can also talk about some easy ones from off the top of my head. I'm trying to think again.
Pinky Finky Tinky, 1907.
Yeah, probably Pinky Finky. I think between Flying Camels, I don't know if you want to talk about Microfibers just because he was kind of the entry fragger, or if you want to talk about Atrocity and his decision making. He had a huge performance yesterday, so I think there's a couple moments. Even on Onyx, Hidoka was always the one left over. The decisions sometimes I was a little bit iffy on, but still kept the team in the fight. So again, there's a lot of different individual performances that I think you can point out. But with that said, we finally have them ready. Let's take a look at the scores for everybody.
Last shout out. All Diablo, I love you. Driving so hard. Here we go. Alien Cosmos, 18 points inside that last round, stacking together a set of kills. HLDC going to be back behind that with 15 points. Flying Camel still getting 9 kills in that round. Going to walk away with 12, and back behind that, Australis with 12 as well.
Yeah, tough position. And, you know, DMK obviously trying to make up some legwork. But as we take a look at the final leaderboard, here is your top 5. At first, Flying Camels. Second, 1907 Fenerbahce Esports. Third, Australis. Fourth, HLDC. And fifth, Dojo Unity. They do stay in the exact same spots, but DMK tries to make a push and just can't quite get there.
Can we talk about DMNK though, and the fact that they managed to get into 6th place with all of the craziness that was happening in the early game? I find that to be an impressive feat in and of itself.
Yeah, it's tough to obviously bounce back and get into those positions, but when you're talking, you're putting up a 30-some point game. That's one way to do it. So yeah, they crushed it out pretty good.
So we're starting to get the closing points. Any last thoughts that you're wanting to throw out before we manage to close out everything? Don't forget, guys, there's still 8 more rounds coming up. There's another region of action that's going to be following this. But Lawler, any last takeaways before we move on?
No, first and foremost, always appreciative of GLL for bringing us back and having some fun with the cast. MEA, surprising region. A couple things that obviously I think they need to clean up in the way that they make their decisions. But the benefit to me as someone who's just enjoying it for entertainment purposes, it was chaos. I loved everything about it. Octane full send, minimal strategy at times, and even a little bit of pettiness, man. Not giving up some of these areas, just fighting it out. Shout out to ATK and DMNK, just fighting it. It was a pleasure, man. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this last region coming up.
And thank you so much to everybody for watching, the amount of support, and everybody tuning in, sharing for these teams. Hopefully you found a couple of new ones that you're going to be rooting for as we move on. But we're going to go ahead and cut to a break to get everything set for the next region. We got to let these guys go. I mean, they've done about 40 rounds of Apex so far in the last 2 days, just today and yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and let them take a lunch break. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We couldn't do this without all of your support, and to every single player, great job. You guys put on one hell of a show. And we will see you guys hopefully very soon.